See, Air India people, because of the kind of product that they were offering to the passenger, did not have the kind of courage to go to the corporate houses seeking business. So Air India by default suffered in the last 5-10 years. On one count was poor marketing, which wasn't aggressive and it needed to be in a competitive environment. The second thing was the product was suffering because of being cash starved. They were not reinvesting the money into the product. And it is essential in hospitality industry that you keep upgrading the product so that it's better or at par with the competition. So Air India suffered in multiple ways. And then, of course, there was the fact that we had bureaucrats helming the airline who were coming for 2 years tenure, 3 years tenure, but were not taking corrective action. And when you made the statement that 1,10,000 crores has been infused in the airline since the year 2009, the question is, were alarm bells set ringing for it? That such a huge amount is being infused? I remember our days when in the year 1997, when Air India suffered a loss of 400 crores, but at that time, the highest ever loss that Air India, we withdrew flights from several.
Hello there, you're with CNN News 18. I'm Maha Siddiqui. The battle for Western Uttar Pradesh is turning more fierce, complicated and critical as the date for polling inches closer. Today, Akhilesh Yadav alleged that there was a conspiracy to prevent him from displaying a show of strength with his ally RLD chief Jayant Chaudhary in Muzaffarnagar. The permission for his chopper to fly from Delhi was allegedly impeded, leading to the all-important presser in Muzaffarnagar being delayed as well. This address together by Akhilesh and Jayant was important to send out a collective message that their alliance is and will remain intact despite the open invitation from the BJP for Jayant. The RLD leader has already declined the offer, but will the two be able to prevent any confusion on the ground created by this invitation? That's our debate this evening. Before we hit the debate, let's do some number crunching in West UP and why the RLDAK, the Jat factor, is so important, and all eyes are critically on these 66 important seats in Western Uttar Pradesh. First of all, this is what we saw in the 2017 Vidhan Sabha elections. Let's go across now to the Western UP side, and we'll see that out of the critical 66 seats in Western Uttar Pradesh, the BJP had managed a sizable over 75% there, 50 seats out of 66, more than 75 actually. Samajwadi party managing 12 seats. But the situation here for the others like RLD was pretty sad as far as the 2017 elections were concerned, because the Jat vote consolidated in favor of the Bharatiya Janata Party. But will this change this time? That is what at the moment both the Samajwadi Party and the RLD are banking on. So let's take a quick look now at one of the filters we'll use to show you the influence of the RLD, which had not worked the last time around. But these are the crucial 26 seats out of a 403 in Uttar Pradesh, where there is a Jat factor, a dominant Jat factor. Jats make up 18% in this region of Western Uttar Pradesh that goes to the polls in the first and the second phase, although the overall population of Jats across Uttar Pradesh is only 2%. That's why this vote becomes very critical in the first two phases. 18% Jats, will they go with the RLD or will they go with the BJP? Again, that's the critical question. Akhilesh Yadav today has said, किसानों का इनकलाब होगा, 22 में बदलाव होगा. This was the war cry from the SP RLD today. But can the alliance stand the turbulence created by Amit Shah's invitation to Jayant? Let's go across now quickly to our panelists. Vivek Silas from Samajwadi Party. I'll go across first to Tuhin Sinado of the BJP. Tuhin, the SPRLD are saying that BJP is reflecting nervousness.
Good evening, Maha. Maha, to think that Jats will not vote for the BJP is a wishful fantasy which the opposition parties have entertained on the eve of 2014, on the eve of 2017, on the eve of 2019, and on all occasions they were found wrong. This time again, the Jats are with us in very large numbers, and rest assured we will repeat the previous performance of 75% seats in the 66 odd seats that you mentioned. Now, why do we make an offer to Jayant Chaudhary? Because we leave nothing to chance. We are a hungry party. We got 325 seats last time. We want to go beyond that. And the reason for that is in the last 7-8 years, we have brought some very path-breaking legislations in the country, whether it was abrogation of Article 370, whether it was, the farm laws unfortunately had to be repealed. But, the larger numbers, whether it is 325 plus or the larger it goes, only helps us in bringing out these path-breaking reforms. But that does not mean we are nervous about a performance. Okay. All the surveys till now are only projecting a massive victory, at least 2/3 victory. But I would go, slightly beyond that. 300 seats at this stage is a certainty.
All right, let me introduce the other two guests as well. Sandeep Chaudhary, spokesperson of the RLD, is also with us on the show, as well as Ambikanand Sahai, senior journalist. Let me go across now to Vivek Silas. Vivek Silas, if the SP-RLD alliance is so confident that they'll be able to dent the BJP, why this show of strength today in Muzaffarnagar? Why was it necessary?
It was not a show of strength. It was just it was just a press conference, nothing else. The show of strength is Bharatiya Janata Party is doing the show of strength. They are revolving with dozens of helicopters. They know they are losing. It's very evident that the Bharatiya Janata Party has lost the battle of Uttar Pradesh before going into the polls. It is. Otherwise, there was no need for Home Minister Amit Shah ji to throw the last dice towards Mr. Jayant Chaudhary. We have seen how Jayant Chaudhary ji was beaten by Uttar Pradesh police when he was going to pay respect to the Hathras girl who was raped. And later the Chaudhary, his father, what happened to him? His communities was forcefully thrown out of his house in New Delhi.
But Vivek Silas, if I come back to the situation today, when the chopper did not take off, Akhilesh Yadav made the allegation that it's being deliberately done. It's a conspiracy. If he did not reach Muzaffarnagar today, why was it critical that he had to be present there today and at the given time? Wasn't it necessary as a show of strength? That is why I asked you that question.
Ma'am, have you ever heard in your life that a chopper or a flight of the Home Minister or the Defense Minister or the Prime Minister of any other big leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party has been delayed? Have you ever heard? Actually, what is happening, the Bharatiya Janata Party has all the fears of losing the Uttar Pradesh election. That is why they are coming up with such incredible things. The resentment, the displeasure, the irritation, the dissatisfaction the people of Uttar Pradesh, especially the people in the western region, have against the Bharatiya Janata. It's very evident. I tell you how.
I'll interrupt you there. Let me go across to your ally as well. Let me give them a chance as well to speak. Sandeep Chaudhary, क्या आज की जो मीटिंग थी और जो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस थी वो इस वजह से जरूरी थी क्योंकि आपको किसी तरह का वरी है कि ग्राउंड पे जो वर्कर्स हैं, जो वोटर्स हैं, उनमें कंफ्यूजन हो सकता है अमित शाह के इस इनविटेशन के बाद जयंत चौधरी को?
महा मैडम, देखिए, फर्स्ट तो मैं आपकी बेबाक पत्रकारिता को सैल्यूट करता हूं और अब मैं कुछ पॉइंट्स आए हैं उनको क्लियर करने की कोशिश करता हूं। पहले तो आप लोगों ने कहा कि 2014 जीता, 2017 जीता, 2019 जीता। अब मैं आपको उसका रीजन बता देता हूं क्यों जीता और क्यों नहीं जीतेंगे वो भी मैं आपको बता देता हूं। इसलिए चुनाव जीता, इसलिए सब लोग साथ में आए कि हमारे बच्चों को भी नौकरी चाहिए थी। हमें कहा गया कि 2 करोड़ रोजगार मिलेंगे, आपको भी नौकरी चाहिए थी, आपके घर परिवार में भी नौकरी चाहिए थी, सबको ये चीज अच्छी लगी। उसके बाद कहा गया किसान परेशान था, आज भी परेशान है, कि तुम्हारी आय दोगुना हो जाएगी। सबको ये चीजें अच्छी लगी। आपको कहा गया काला धन आएगा और पता नहीं क्या से क्या हो जाएगा, ये चीजें सबको अच्छी लगी। आपको कहा गया बुलेट ट्रेनें चलेंगी, सबको अच्छी लगी। जब कहा गया 100 स्मार्ट सिटी बसेंगे तो किसान को भी लगा, गरीब को भी लगा,
लेकिन
मजदूर को भी लगा कि हमें
संदीप
भी घर
चौधरी,
नहीं मिलेगा
अगर
तो
मैं
काम
बात
मिलेगा।
करूं 2000 लोकसभा इलेक्शंस की, संदीप एक बात सुनिए, 2014 और 2019 के बीच भी भाजपा वापस आई ना केंद्र में।
मैडम उसी चीज पे मैं आ रहा हूं, मैं वो चीज क्लियर कर रहा हूं, प्लीज आप मुझे थोड़ा सा समय दीजिए। तो ये तो मैंने आपको बेस बता दिया क्यों वोट मिला, क्यों नहीं मिलेगा वो भी मैं आपको क्लियर कर देता हूं एक एग्जांपल के माध्यम से। एक राजा के दरबार में एक कवि अच्छी अच्छी कविताएं सुना रहा था। राजा बार बार कहता है इनको हार दिया जाएगा, फिर कहता है इनको सोना दिया जाएगा। वो कविताएं सुनाता चला गया और राजा डिक्लेयर करता चला गया कभी सोना चांदी हीरे जवाहरात। लेकिन 1 महीने से ज्यादा समय बीत गया, कवि के घर पे वो चीजें नहीं पहुंची। कवि एक दिन दरबार में पहुंचा, राजा को बोला कि साहब आपने जो घोषणाएं की थी वे मुझे नहीं मिली। तो राजा ने कहा तुम अच्छी कविताएं सुना रहे थे और मैं अच्छी घोषणाएं कर रहा था जो तुम्हारे कानों को अच्छी लग रही थी। तो वो वोट हो चुकी है, अब उस नाम पे वोट होने वाली
अच्छा ठीक है, ठीक है, लेकिन आपको लगता है कि इस बार किसान एकजुट होकर वोट आपके लिए देगा और दूसरी तरफ को नहीं देगा? Ambikanan Saha, I want to come to you, but a statement from Amit Shah said in a meeting which he held with the Jat leaders that information coming out, becoming public, will that prevent vote transfer in places in West UP, which could be very critical? For instance, if a doubt is created about RLD's loyalty in a post-poll situation, in a Samajwadi party loyalist voter, will he still go ahead and vote an RLD candidate? Ambikanan Saha?
Maha, this is a very important question, but before, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes, before I answer your question, let me first give you a glimpse of Western Uttar Pradesh. Let me make it clear that Jats are not the strongest community in Western Uttar Pradesh. Muslims who account for 30% votes are numerically strongest. Then comes Dalit and only then the Jats. What happened in 2017 or for that matter in 2019, Jats were all with BJP, no two opinions on this, but they were joined hands by OBCs, particularly non-Yadav OBCs and non-Jat Dalits. That is why BJP could sweep the polls. Now, Jats are also known for their muscle power. Now understand this, if Jats and Muslims join hands, you have had it.
All right.
That's a winning combination straight away.
Sir, are you indicating then that in a scenario like this, it might not be a direct fight between the SP RLD on the one side and the BJP on the other, because the BSP could also play a certain role in Western Uttar Pradesh with a Dalit factor prominent there as well? Is that what you're saying?
No, not that way. See, Dalits, this time, what has happened is, Mayawati is almost silent. She is nowhere to be seen, and these BSP workers or cadres, whatever you call it, they are not active either.
All right.
So in 2019 and 17, it was a huge Hindu backlash also in reaction to what had happened in 2013 Muzaffarnagar riots. It was in that aftermath. And there was massive religious polarization.
Those memories, sir, cannot be... those memories, sir, cannot be revived this time around, is what you are suggesting,
Dalits,
sir?
all joined hands to favor the BJP.
All right, okay. Let me go across to Tuhin Sinha now. Tuhin Sinha, is the BJP though worried that if nothing, the Jat votes that we are particularly looking at could be split due to the RLD's resurgence of sorts in this region this time around as opposed to 2017?
No, not at all. See, there are three very critical areas where the development is very visible in the western part of Uttar Pradesh. One is 24/7 electrification, which has hugely helped the farmers. I agree there were some reservations in the farmer community insofar as the farm laws were concerned, but it has been 3 months since that was repealed, and I have been in all your channels, I've been listening to Jat leaders. It is not that they are against BJP. They have been playing their cards close to their chest, but rest assured that there are significant and important Jat leaders who have been in touch with us, and that gives us the confidence that they will vote for us.
Okay.
Secondly, when it comes to roads, can anybody deny that the overall infrastructure of highways across Uttar Pradesh today is significantly or 10 times better than it was 6 or 7 years ago? And finally, all of these social welfare programs, whether it is, providing free ration for the last 18 or 20 months or during the COVID emergency, or whether it is Nal Se Jal, all of these have benefited farmers. So we are very confident that the Jat vote is with us. But like I said, we leave nothing to chance.
Okay, and that is why the meeting between Amit Shah and the Jat leaders. Vivek Salis, I want to come back to you, because in 2017, despite the Jats being disgruntled over quota issues, they still went with the BJP. And I'll remind you, Vivek Salis, that Amit Shah had even at that time met the Jat leaders just 3 days before the polling. He met them on the 8th of February. The first phase of polling was on the 11th of February last time around in 2017. And things changed overnight for the BJP. Is that still a concern with the SP-RLD currently?
No, ma'am, that's not a concern, because situations change. What we saw in the last 13 months, when the farmers were on road, they were being martyred, and whatever the Bharatiya Janata Party and their spokesperson were calling them, someone called them terrorists, some called them Khalistani, Gunda, Mawali, Pakistani, whatnot. Everything was said, but they were taking the agitation forward. They didn't want those laws. Maybe those laws have been taken 3 months back. Doesn't make a difference. The farmers have seen how they have been crushed to death under a SUV. It's all done under the Bharatiya Janata Party regime, under the regime of Yogi Adityanath ji. You cannot deny that. By 2022, it was said that the income of the farmers will be doubled. What has happened? Where is the income? It's not that. I'll tell you why. I can give you at least 20 incidences. Why the Bharatiya Janata Party, the big question, why the Bharatiya Janata Party leaders, their MLAs, their candidates are being dragged and stamped out of villages. It's a direct, the people are showing their resentment against the Bharatiya Janata Party. Talk about Keshav Prasad Maurya, the Deputy Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. He went to Sirati a few days back. What happened? He was thrown out of the village. Why? There has to be a reason. Mr. Rajnath Singh, Honorable Defense Minister, has to cancel his... Let me finish. He had to cancel his trip to Muzaffarnagar.
The anger SP-RLD are relying on is the anger of the farmers. You are saying...
First of all...
Okay. Go ahead.
First of all, let me tell you the difference between the Samajwadi Party rule and now. Teni's son is being probed and investigated at the very diligently, and an FIR and a charge sheet has been filed against him. So in our rule, the law of the land is supreme. Law
I need to reply that, man.
Should I please?
I need to reply that.
Can you? Do I remind you of Gayatri Prajapati, a sitting minister in Samajwadi Party who was absconding for 8 days on charges of raping a small, 16 or 17-year-old girl?
I need to reply that, man.
And such behavior is condoned by none other than Mulayam Singh Yadav, who says ladko se galti ho jati hai.
Let's go across to Vivek Salis for a response. Then I'll go to
I need to reply that, ma'am. I need to reply that.
13 seconds.
I need to reply.
Yes.
It was the Honorable High Court during the Singer's, case, had to spank the Bharatiya Janata Party and ask them to arrest that man and put in the handball. It was not the Bharatiya Janata Party. And secondly, let me complete. The car that crushed the farmers it is in the name of Mr. Ajay Mishra Teni, the MOS home. The car that was used to crush the farmers and one journalist as well.
Okay. Let me now go across to Sandeep Chaudhary. Okay. Let me go across to Sandeep Chaudhary. Sandeep Chaudhary, बीजेपी का ये कहना है कि किसान नाराज थे, लेकिन अब 3 फार्म लॉज वापस ले लिए गए हैं, तो ये नाराजगी दूर हो गई है. दूसरी बात, जो विकास वो कह रहे हैं उन्होंने किया है वेस्टर्न उत्तर प्रदेश में भी, वो ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण और जरूरी होगा इन चुनाव में. लॉ एंड ऑर्डर सिचुएशन भी इंप्रूव की है, वो कह रहे हैं.
मैडम देखिए, भाजपा के लिए ये कहना चाहता हूं कि भाजपा के नेताओं के घर में रोशनी के लिए जरूरी है कि मुल्क मेरा जलता रहे। अब जब वक्त था इन्हें अपना पिछला मैनिफेस्टो याद करने का, ये आज हिंदू और मुसलमान की बात करते हैं, ये जिन्ना की बात करते हैं, पाकिस्तान की बात करते हैं और सबके साथ सबके विकास के नारे लगाते हैं, हिंदुस्तान को चांद पे ले जाने की ये बात करते हैं, अमेरिका से आगे ले जाने की बात करते हैं, लेकिन आखिर में घूम फिर के नफरत की राजनीति पर आकर के इनकी सुई रुक जाती है। और जिस तरीके से विकास की बात करते हैं, आप मुझे ये बताइए, कुलदीप सेंगर विकास कर रहा था क्या? चिन्मयानंद विकास कर रहा था क्या? अभी अजय टैनी जो मंत्री है उसका बेटा किसानों के ऊपर गाड़ी चढ़ाकर विकास कर रहा था क्या? किसानों का सम्मान करने से विकास होगा मैडम, या किसानों को आतंकवादी कहने से विकास होगा, या किसानों को गद्दार कहने से विकास होगा, या किसानों को नकली किसान कहने से विकास होगा? और फिर मुझे ये बताइए, नकली कौन था और असली कौन था? जब वो ही किसान बिल वापस लिए गए तो आप मुझे ये बताइए, किसान ठीक थे या सरकार ठीक थी? तो कहीं भी इन्हें अकल बाद में आती है। और आज की तारीख में एक बहुत बड़ी गलती कर रहे हैं मैडम, आपके चैनल के माध्यम से पूरे देश को बताना चाहता हूं, दिल्ली के चारों ओर, तमिलनाडु से लेकर जम्मू कश्मीर तक का हर किसान अपनी समस्या के साथ था। अगर किसान नहीं था तो उनकी समस्या लेकर उनके
लेकिन
प्रतिनिधि यहाँ पर थे।
संदीप चौधरी,
लेकिन
बड़ी
आज
बात
उनको
यह है कि
केवल
क्या
झाड़ दिखाई
ये
दे
किसान का मुद्दा जो कि वापस ले लिए गए हैं, जो 3 लॉज थे, क्या ये अभी भी इतना महत्वपूर्ण है कि जो जाट लीडर्स की लॉयल्टी है बीजेपी के लिए उसको तोड़ सकता है वो?
देखिए मैडम, मैंने आपको बताया 30 साल के बाद बीजेपी आई थी, जो 2017 में योगी जी की सरकार बनी, ये 30 सालों के बाद बनी है। लेकिन इन्होंने इसको चीट करके बनाया है, झूठे सपने दिखा करके बनाया है। और आपको भी मालूम है, काठ की हांडी एक बार चढ़ाई जा सकती है, बार बार नहीं चढ़ाई जा सकती। हर कोई ठगा हुआ महसूस कर रहा है। ये बताइए, राकेश टिकैत किसान नेता है, उन्होंने भी कहा था मैंने बीजेपी को वोट दिया। क्या वो बीजेपी को वोट देने के लिए तैयार? उनकी आंखों के आंसू आपने देखे? बीजेपी के विधायक ने उनको गद्दार तक कहा, उनको मारने के लिए गुंडे भेजे। तो किस तरीके से, किस मुंह से हम वोट दे सकते हैं?
एक मिनट,
बेटी को आप भूल नहीं सकते।
अंबिकानंद साय के पास जाने दीजिए। अंबिकानंद साय, डू यू थिंक द फाइट फॉर वेस्ट यूपी इज नाउ सो क्रिटिकल दैट साम दाम दंड भेद एवरीथिंग विल बी यूज्ड?
Correct. Maha, let me also tell you that BJP leadership, all their strategists know that this time election is not easy in western Uttar Pradesh. And as I told you earlier, Muslims and Jats are getting slowly united. But there is a spin. Home Minister Amit Shah's offer to the RLD leadership that they can join hands post-poll, that's a real googly, or in cricketing parlance call it a dusra. He has bowled a dusra. So I'm not talking about Jat leaders, but the Jat masses are definitely confused.
And
so let us, I am keeping my fingers crossed. Yes.
Is that confusion on which Tuhin Sinha now the BJP will rely on?
बीजेपी के जो प्रवक्ता है यहाँ आकर बड़ी बड़ी बातें करते हैं, लेकिन मायावती जी को भी पता है कि योगी जी ने इतना अच्छा काम किया है कि बीएसपी तो कहीं है ही नहीं, इसीलिए वो खुद कैंपेन नहीं कर रही है। मैं उनसे पूछूं यहाँ पे मायावती जी है कहाँ? चुनाव का सीजन आ गया, चुनाव की घोषणा हो गई, आखिर लोग ढूंढ रहे हैं, मायावती जी दिख ही नहीं रही है। सो मायावती जी knows the truth, but Akhilesh has his compulsions. He has to stay politically relevant. But they both of them know that there is no match to the work which Yogi ji has done. And you just remember the media narrative before 2017 and 2019. Similar doubts were cast. Western UP बहुत बड़ा खतरे की घंटी बनती जा रही है। 2019 में तो ये कहा गया था कि लोकसभा में सारी सीटें हम हारेंगे। क्या हुआ? तो आज भी हम आश्वस्त हैं कि जाट वोट हमारे साथ है। जाट भाई जो है, मतलब वो नाराज थे 3 महीने पहले कुछ विषयों को लेकर, लेकिन आज वो जो है इस तरह से अपने दिल की बात मैं जयंत जी का इंटरव्यू देख रहा था, उनके पार्टी के कुछ लोग जो हैं हमसे संपर्क में हैं, ये सत्य है।
संदीप चौधरी, इसका जवाब देना चाहेंगे आप?
देखिए मैडम, ये कंफ्यूजन क्रिएट करने में मास्टर हैं। आपने देखा अखिलेश जी और जयंत जी की प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस देखी होगी, दोनों के हाथ में अन्न था। हम किसान लोग हैं, हमारे लिए अनी भगवान है और अनी हमारा सब कुछ है, उसी से हमारा घर चलता है, उसी से हमारे बच्चे पढ़ते हैं। तो ये गठबंधन मैंने आपको पहले भी बताया,
मायावती को तुम रख लो,
कि हमारा जो गठबंधन है ये तन मन धन का गठबंधन है, ये बिल्कुल दिलो जान का गठबंधन है। हम किसी भी हद तक जाएंगे लेकिन गठबंधन पे आंच नहीं आएगी, मिलकर के चुनाव लड़ेंगे और भाजपा का सुपड़ा साफ करेंगे।
Vivek Silas, is the SP equally confident of its alliance with RLD?
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. You should read the tweet of Mr. Jain Chaudhary. What he wrote. He said कि अगर हमको ऑफर मत दीजिए, चिंता करना है तो उन 700 किसान परिवारों की करिए। और उन्होंने क्या कहा? मैं चवन्नी नहीं हूं जो पलटी मार जाऊंगा। ये चवन्नी अठन्नी वाली राजनीति क्वीन थी ना, आप लोग करते होंगे झूठ बोलने वाली, हम लोग नहीं करते हैं। वी आर ऑन द ग्राउंड एंड वी आर भारतीय जनता पार्टी इज गोइंग टू बी uprooted, not losing. They will be uprooted out of power on 10th of March.
All right, we will wait for the results. Let's wait for the 10th of March.
फ्लाइट टेक ऑफ नहीं कर पाई, आपका साइकिल का हवा पंक्चर हो रहा है, आप लोग की हालत खराब है।
साइकिल फ्लाइट किसकी उड़ेगी, क्या उड़ेगी, कौन कबूतर उड़ाएगा, कौन चील उड़ाएगा, वो तो बाद में पता चलेगा।
All right, we'll wait for the 10th of March for the results. We are not drawing any conclusions yet because even the first phase of voting has not started in Uttar Pradesh. The first phase goes to the polls on the 10th of February. It's a 7-phased elections, but certainly Western UP does create a momentum, as we have seen in the past elections, for any party, especially for the BJP. If they start doing well in Western UP and consolidate forces there, then it does have a sort of momentum for them across the state. But the SP RLD hoping they can dent their stronghold of West UP this time around. Many thanks to all 4 of our panelists. With that, we are taking a very quick break.
And it comes with its weaknesses, unproductive work practices, inefficiency. You really can't take corrective measures or re-engineer work practices, etc. So this will be an easy thing for the Tatas to attain. Both the on-time performance and working out on the seat occupancy factor, which is related to generation of revenue. You see, Air India people, because of the kind of product that they were offering to the passenger, did not have the kind of courage to go to the corporate houses seeking business. So Air India by default suffered in the last 5-10 years. On one count was poor marketing, which wasn't aggressive and it needed to be in a competitive environment. The second thing was the product was suffering because of being cash-starved. They were not reinvesting the money into the product. And it is essential in hospitality industry that you keep upgrading the product so that it's better or at par with the competition. So Air India suffered in multiple ways. And then, of course, there was the fact that we had bureaucrats helming the airline who were coming for 2 years tenure, 3 years tenure, but were not taking corrective action. And when you made the statement that 1,10,000 crores has been infused in the airline since the year 2009, the question is, were alarm bells ringing for it? That such a huge amount is being infused? I remember our days when in the year 1997, when Air India suffered a loss of 400 crores, but at that time, the highest ever loss that Air India, we withdrew flights from several destinations, loss-making destinations. We withheld the productivity-linked incentive of employees. We reduced the retirement age from 60 to 58. Now, I would like to know, as an ex-Air Indian, can anybody cite a single measure that was taken to cut down costs? On the contrary, what we found was that in the year 2015, 16, 17, flights were being increased, contrary to global practices in airline industry, that when you are losing money, consolidate. Don't try and keep increasing your losses. So somewhere somebody went wrong and
so
nobody questioned this.
So the leadership was a problem. You are saying
your commentary was very right.
Jitendra Bhargav, you're saying the leadership was a problem. I want to ask you this. Is leadership the only problem, or is worth ethics a problem as well? The fact that what the Tatas will inherit now is not just a bloated workforce, but also a workforce with not such a great attitude. With an attitude problem.
Now, let me explain to you. In the years 1953 to 1978, when JRD helmed the airline and Air India had its glorious years, it was a government airline. So it is not the ownership per se which is at fault, but the leadership, the kind of leadership you provide. Post 78, you cited a number of instances of government interference, wrong decisions being taken, etc., but no corrective action was being taken. Now, the second point is leadership plays a key role in service industry. The morale of the employees has to be kept high. Now, you cannot have decisions being taken which are not in favor of the airline, and everybody, employees, are witnessing it. You have seen in recent days unions coming up with one thing, others or the other saying, we will not be cooperating because unless this is done, that is done, etc. Now, why was this being done? Simply because airline was government owned. They were tolerating these kind of tantrums. Okay. But once you move into the Tatas, I would love to see any union protesting.
But the government has put a clause to the Tatas that for 1 year you cannot fire anyone.
No, let's put it this way. 1 year is not a bad thing. I look at it from a positive sense. Since employees know that they can be terminated after a period of 1 year, they are going to be giving their best.
अपने कार्यकर्ताओं से पूछकर और जो सही व्यक्ति होगा वो पंजाब को आगे ले जाएगा। केरा दी बरात दा लाड़ा कोई नहीं ना आपसी लड़ाई है भाजपा यार फॉर्मर मुख्यमंत्री कठपुतली बन के सेंटर दियां उन्हां दे विच नचदा है।
You're watching News Epicenter with me, Maria Shakil. In September last year, when Charanjit Singh Channi was appointed as the Chief Minister of Punjab, many saw it as Congress Party's master stroke. Channi is the first Dalit Chief Minister of Punjab. The state has close to 32% population of the scheduled caste community, the highest in the country, while Jat Sikh population is around 20%. But since 1977, Punjab has never seen a non-Jat Sikh Chief Minister, be it of the Congress or the Akalis, indicating the political dominance of Jat Sikh community. Gyani Zail Singh was the last non-Jat Sikh Chief Minister of Punjab between 1972 and 1977. However, instead of backing its choice, that is Charanjit Singh Channi, whose name emerged after days of deliberations and massive churning within the Punjab Congress, the Congress leadership had earlier decided to not declare the Chief Minister phase for the polls on 20th March. However, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has now buckled under pressure, saying that the Congress could declare the Chief Ministerial candidate after repeatedly asserting that Punjab polls will be contested under collective leadership, that is of Charanjit Singh Channi and PCC Chief, that is Navjot Singh Sidhu. But Rahul Gandhi, when a question was asked yesterday, did not give a clear answer on the Chief Minister's phase, but rather said that this decision would be taken soon after consulting party workers. And Rahul's comments came moments after Channi and Navjot Singh Sidhu showed a united front, but also made a case for themselves in speeches at an event in Jalandhar, which was streamed online under the banner of Nayi Soch, Naya Punjab. In these speeches, both Sidhu and Channi made strong pitch for the top post in the state, with Channi going to the extent of saying that he would not sacrifice the party's interest for any post, and it's the people of Punjab who want to know the face. Sidhu too asserted that Congress must clear the air and name the Chief Minister because he feels that this kind of confusion doesn't really hold. And he also said that Rahul Gandhi should empower him to take decisions and not reduce him to a Darshani Ghoda. Although Rahul, for now, has dug the issue, finding a solution won't be an easy task for the Congress leadership. There are murmurs within the party that whatever the top leadership decides, neither Channi nor Sidhu would take the disappointment well. There is another theory doing the rounds that Rahul Gandhi has delayed the decision strategically till the last minute, since both Sidhu and Channi will get occupied with the polls, especially Navjot Singh Sidhu, who is now facing Akali strongman Bikramjit Singh Majithia from Amritsar East. So who will Congress choose as the Chief Minister face, and can the incumbent party in Punjab find a formula which will be acceptable to both, that is Sidhu and Channi, or will the stalemate in fact hurt it, and will it be advantage the challenger, that is Aam Aadmi Party in the state, who have gone ahead and announced Bhagwant Mann as the chief ministerial candidate? To answer these questions, I have on the show this evening Ehbab Singh Garewal. He is the spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Gurdeep Singh Sappal, national spokesperson of the Congress. Jangveer Singh is the spokesperson of the Shiromani Akali Dal. Vipin Pabbi is a senior journalist. Sanjay Kumar, professor CSDS. Gurdeep Sappal, in September last year, the Congress showcased appointment of Charanjit Singh Channi as its big outreach to the Dalits of Punjab. What changed from then to now? When 3 weeks are left before the elections, why are you going for some kind of a toss between Navjot Singh Sidhu and Charanjit Singh Channi?
Gandhi is buckled, you say the toss is being done. There's no such thing. Yesterday, what happened in Punjab, I think all the opposition parties were taken aback by yesterday's development. Rahul Gandhi going to Golden Temple with all 109 declared candidates of Congress party, with all the office bearers of PCC. It was such a strong message, which has unsettled, I think, every party in Punjab. And in evening rally, virtual rally, it was Rahul Gandhi who encouraged both the leaders to speak their mind. It's a democratic process. Both of them have aspirations. And it's rightfully so, Rahul Gandhi said that since the demand from the state is to have a face, party will give a face now. So this entire
How
thing,
is this
everybody was
leadership
expecting.
confusion helping you?
No, there's no confusion. It's a process. It's a process, and the leader will be declared well in time. The nominations have just started today. There is enough time in the campaign, and the name will be declared after due consultation within the party.
Okay.
What people were expecting.
No, but he said the people of Punjab will be deciding it, which is similar to what Aam Aadmi Party did. Then how are you saying that the leadership will decide it?
I'll tell you. Aam Aadmi Party pulled a hoax. Aam Aadmi Party said it has consulted 21 lakh people on a single phone line. A day has 1,440 minutes. A call a minute can be only 1,440 minutes. But it got 5.5 lakh calls on a one single line. We are not saying that. Okay. We are saying Rahul Gandhi did not say people of Punjab. He said the workers of Congress party will be consulted. Okay. The workers of party, we have a party organization.
Ehbab Singh Garewal, at least you should take, you should relish this fact that Aam Aadmi Party is forcing the Congress party to announce its chief ministerial candidate with what Arvind Kejriwal has been repeatedly saying, and I'm going to quote him about what happened in Maharashtra. He has been talking about the Maharashtra experiment and how the elections were held under the leadership of Sushil Kumar Shinde, and after winning, it made Maratha leader Vilas Rao Deshmukh the chief minister. So you are setting the narrative, you are setting the agenda, and here is the Congress party which is reacting.
Well, ma'am, this time around, we are setting the agenda that the issues of Punjab won't be pushed back, and we won't allow them to polarize, we won't allow them to divide. What is actually happening in the Congress is that all this churning is nothing new. The Gandhis used Sidhu to get Captain Amrinder Singh out. Now what has happened is that all the ministers who Mr. Sidhu actually said, and which is a fact, that they're worth about 3,000 or 5,000 crores, they've got together and they've somehow convinced the Gandhi siblings that we will be economically better for the party. And what has happened yesterday, as Mr. Sappal said, that he encouraged them to know. They were presenting their cases before the Yuvraj, and the Yuvraj was listening. But obviously, between a man who just talks and the man who brings money, the man who brings money will be chosen.
No, but tell me, Mr. Garewal, who do you think will be better for you as a challenger? Navjot Singh Sidhu or Charanjit Singh Channi. The fact is that Charanjit Singh Channi has, in the last few months, almost become that leader who has come as a surprise. He is not a lame duck chief minister. He is certainly asserting himself.
Not at all. He's not a lame duck chief minister. His nephew had 9 crores in his piggy bank. He is not a lame duck chief minister. He is one of them. And when your nephews and nieces have 10 crores in their piggy banks, well, the whole of Punjab.
Gurdeep Sapal, a quick response from you, and then I'll bring in others.
Yeah.
They can bring whoever they want.
Yes.
Aam Aadmi Party has made an art out of lying. Its entire career, you see, Arvind Kejriwal's only achievement till date is to lie. Not just lying against the leaders whom he later apologizes, but lying about governance, lying about everything. It's a party which Tom said it has the best model of governance. It said it has built 23 flyovers, it has built hospitals. When we did RTI, NSUI leader did RTI, the RTI reply said 0 till 2020. 0 flyovers, 0 hospitals. So it is a party which has an expertise in lying. It keeps on putting allegations. Please tell me, your party is a fledgling party, ruling a city-state. You have just few years back come into politics. The amount of money that you are spending on publicity, from where is that coming? Which corruption have you done to spend that amount of money in every major metro of India? You go to Bangalore, you go to Chennai, Aam Aadmi Party gives it that. Congress Party, after ruling for
Where is the money coming from?
Please, you only make a habit of...
I mean, you are so ambitious that you're spreading yourself so thin from Uttarakhand to Goa. Everywhere you seem to be fighting.
It's a cash.
You're contesting every state.
Where have you got this cash?
Now you've leveled an allegation.
Okay, quickly, 20 seconds.
Let me answer.
Yes.
We have been under a microscope held by Mr. Amit Shah. Had we indulged in any corruption, we would have been caught. Sir, please, don't scream, don't shout. Let me finish. Number one, we've been under the magnifying glass of the BJP, and you have found nothing on us.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, as far as the Congress and the democratic setup is concerned, it is nothing but money bags asserting their power and telling the Congress that we can finance you further, we can bankroll the
Sanjay Kumar,
we are
Sanjay
a
Kumar
fledgling
now.
party.
Yes. Sanjay Kumar, is this dilemma because the Congress perhaps feels that in its effort to woo the scheduled caste community, it could alienate the Jats 6, which could be an obstacle to the party's ambition to retain power in Punjab?
Sorry, Maria, I couldn't hear the question properly.
Yes. So my question is that, is this confusion that they have created around leadership, who will be the chief minister phase, because the Congress is not able to sort out who they are reaching out to, because they were trying to do this, some kind of social engineering, trying to redefine their caste, reach out in Punjab when they made someone from the scheduled caste community as the chief minister, but they realized that they cannot really afford to alienate the Jat 6.
Yes, Maria, whether it is Punjab, whether it is UP or any other state, if a party only tries to win election by a massive support of one section of the voters, party won't be able to succeed in that. I think that is the dilemma with the Congress in Punjab also. By having Channi as the chief minister, the first Dalit chief minister, I'm sure Congress is confident of getting the Dalit vote. Dalits are almost 30-35% of Punjab's population. Even if they get 65-70% of the Dalit vote, which would be sizable, I don't think that is going to be enough for Congress to win election. They need add-on vote, and they're trying hard to mobilize the Jat Sikh vote. They play a very important role. They are numerically very large and also very dominant in Punjab's politics. So I think by having Channi on one side and Sidhu on the other side, this is a strategy which Congress is trying to, which Congress wanted to go with in this election. But I think that is creating difficulty for the Congress, and the difficulty which we are discussing about declaring someone as the chief ministerial candidate. What Sappalji was saying, a democratic process. If this democratic process of selecting the chief ministerial phase has helped the party, I would have always supported this democratic process. But I think this democratic process, in the name of democratic process, it is hurting the Congress state by state. So that's the difficulty Congress is facing.
Yes. So Vipin Pabbi, you know, elections in Punjab, we have seen there are multiple issues that have been at play. Particularly at this time, we often hear about the drug menace, the farm laws being repealed and the entire year-long farmer protests, sacrilege and multiple other issues. But now it seems that it will be the chief ministerial phase that will decide which way Punjab will vote. What was seen as an advantage to the Congress, would you say now that because this confusion is continuing and the Aam Aadmi Party deciding to bite the bullet, it will be costing the Congress, and particularly at a time when most opinion polls are predicting that this is a neck-and-neck contest?
Yes, Maria. In fact, Congress has been shooting itself in the foot for the last several months. You know, it rocked its own boat about 4 or 5 months ago when they removed Captain Ramvinder Singh in a very humiliating manner. And then to get Navjot Sidhu, who has not been very stable in his approaches, as the party president, and he reacted a few days later by resigning from the post, which was of course not accepted. And this latest announcement by Rahul Gandhi is certainly very shocking, because Congress will find itself in a bind. If they announce that Navjot Sidhu is going to be the face, then Congress is bound to lose Dalit votes, and not only in Punjab, but in other states which are also going for election, as if he was only a night watchman. And if they retain Channi, Navjot Sidhu is not likely to sit quiet. That is very certain. So I think it's they have, you know, themselves gone in such a area where they will find it very difficult to come out of that. And this announcement is certainly very shocking.
Yes, so
and this has certainly become one of the
major issues. But a call has to be taken. You know that leadership confusion cannot continue the manner in which it is continuing in Chhattisgarh, where we are witnessing that tussle which is playing out between T.S. Singh Deo and Bhupesh Baghel. Mr. Pabbi.
Yes, right, Maria. But the thing is that it is rather too late in the day now to maybe come out with this kind of a decision. This could have been made very clear a lot of time earlier also, since Channi was made the chief minister, or when Sidhu was made the party president. Now with about 15-20 days left, there are bound to be, I mean, both of them are, very eager to be the CM face.
Okay.
And one of the factions will get angry.
Sapal, just 2 weeks ago, the Congress Twitter handle, the official handle, had put out a video which almost gave a sense that Channi is the man, he is the chief minister, he is the chief ministerial face. But is perhaps Mr. Navjot Singh Sidhu trying to arm twist the leadership that this confusion started yesterday? And look at what is the impression that the Congress is sending in Punjab, Mr. Sappal. Your former state president and party in charge of 2022 poll campaign committee, Sunil Jakhar, is so upset that he has stayed completely away from these elections. And he in fact is saying, and I'm going to quote him from what he has said, that only a Sikh, apparently one of the veteran Congress leaders during deliberations had said that only a Sikh can be the chief minister of Punjab. And that statement, according to Mr. Sunil Jakhar, was completely uncalled for and has left an entire community of Punjab society anxious. So why are you making people of Punjab so anxious?
I think that's a wrong reading of the entire situation, Maria. Congress party has several senior leaders. Unlike Kejriwal's party, which has one leader, Kejriwal, and a half of a leader, Bhagwan Singh Mann, who's now face, or Akalis, who have got only one face, or BJP, which has none. So when a party is a broad-based party, which brings around all the sections of society, there and when you change a chief minister after 4.5 years, more than 4.5 years, then there are bound to be some rumbling. Issue is what happened yesterday. If that show of unity is being ignored and old stories are being recirculated, then that's a very unfair approach against the Congress party, because yesterday both the aspirants, be it Mr. Channi or Mr. Sidhu, both publicly gave a commitment also.
Mr. Channi wasn't really the first choice of the Congress leadership. He was almost by elimination that he was made the chief minister. If the party is not showing faith in his leadership, what do you think he must be, and his cadres and his supporters must be thinking?
I think the reading is completely different from how you are reading it. We know Mr. Channi is there, Mr. Sidhu is there. There's an internal democratic process which has been promised yesterday, and a name will be put up in next few days.
Okay.
Please wait till then. The party is not splitting. Many people have written epitaph in last few weeks. It has not happened. And as far as Aam Aadmi Party, because he keeps on putting allegations, and in all this discussion, the main point goes away. Is it the same Aam Aadmi Party where nephew of Arvind Kejriwal was raided and money was recovered? His name was Vinay Kumar Bansal in PWD scam.
So, but nephews of both of them have been raided. You know, they level the charge about Charanjit Singh Channi as well.
Difference between us and them is when they are raided, they say it's a political thing. But when a political vendetta is carried out against Congress, they stand with BJP, effectively proving that it is always a B team of BJP, quite ably supported, shown as an independent face. It's a party which keeps on dividing people.
You know, this B team charge the Congress party is facing from the TMC in Goa. This B team charge is become like the most convenient political argument as we see this fight for the anti-incumbency vote playing out in multiple states. That is what is happening.
It's not
yes,
a B team
this
argument.
is what we are seeing, Mr. Sappal.
There's an Aam Aadmi Party who in its policies is now reflecting BJP.
Okay.
Please,
Ahbab Singh Grewal.
of B team
yes,
is not...
Yes. Let me answer that. We've been sitting in Delhi. There's a Hindi saying that chhati pe moong dal rahe hain. We've been doing that on BJP's chhati in Delhi, and it can be seen on with the amount of raids and the kind of scrutiny we've been put under. Yesterday was not a show of unity. Yesterday, the people who've been announced as candidates had to come. The main people, the MPs stayed away. Sunil Jakhar stayed away. Mr. Bajwa stayed away. All the big guns stayed away. Why? They will never answer a question regarding themselves. They will always try to deflect the blame. And as far as the charges of corruption are concerned, it was not us, it was the PPCC chief, Navjot Singh Sidhu, who said that these ministers were 3,000 or 5,000 crores, cannot question me. So, sir, please, apne gireban mein jhakiye. You are not holier than thou. The thing is, the fight is between Sidhu, the ego, the guy with a huge ego, and the money bags.
This
money
factionalism
bags,
and inflated political ambitions. Is that what is at play here?
When Narendra Modi, as an aspirant, sidelines all senior leaders of BJP, including Advani ji, including Sushma Swaraj, including Arun Jaitley, then it is a correct thing. When Congress party, if somebody aspires, then it is inflated political ambition. That is the choice of words that I am objecting to. It's a democratic process.
Okay.
These are leaders with mass basis. They do aspire. Party does give them this space. Party gives them this space.
They were all ignored, sir.
Pardon?
Captain Hooda, Narasimha Rao, Manmohan Singh, they were all thrown into the dustbin
let me get the final words now, and I'll be going to the two experts now.
It is.
Sanjay Kumar and Vipin Pabbi now, please. Sanjay Kumar, you heard from Gurdeep Sappal. He is, of course, saying that why shouldn't it be seen as democratic process? Multiple parties take a lot of time, and even the BJP saw that power tussle that happened finally, and then the campaign committee chairmanship went to Prime Minister Modi in 2013. So should this be seen as the same churning, or is this completely different now?
No, Mari, as I said earlier, if this is a democratic process, I think I welcome this kind of a democratic process, and this democratic process should be followed in most of the parties. But if we look at what is happening in the Congress in many states, this democratic process has not helped in strengthening the party, whether it is earlier in Karnataka, whether you mentioned about Chhattisgarh, what is happening in Rajasthan, what happened earlier in Madhya Pradesh. We all know this, and when the things were, similar things were happening in these states, this was all being termed as democratic process, people being allowed to express their own views. But what has happened, that Congress has got damaged, that it has always damaged the Congress in most of the states. I fear that this democratic process is not going to strengthen Congress prospects.
Sanjay Kumar, in this neck and neck contest, since we are seeing, most opinion polls suggest so, how important it is for the Congress to clear the air on the leadership question?
No, I think Aam Aadmi Party has put indirect pressure on Congress because they have declared the chief ministerial candidate, and people want to know. I think if Congress in a consensus manner, if they are able to declare somebody as the chief ministerial candidate, that helps the party because that clears the air among the common voter that if they vote for Congress, who is going to be the chief minister?
Okay, Mr. Papi, talking specifically about Punjab, and this is a state which votes on face as much as it votes for the political party, and that is the reason why a party such as Aam Aadmi Party, which is moving away from the traditional politics of Punjab into more of a experiment-driven, have faith in us, we are new players in the market, that kind of brand of politics. And they have gone ahead and made that announcement, risking it, or many would say that, somebody like a Bhagwant Mann, is he really in the reckoning? Whatever. They have taken a risk. Do you think that face factor is an important factor in the manner in which Punjab has voted year after year, election after election?
Maria, yes. But first, I would just like to say that the Congress has put itself in a very difficult situation and very ironic situation where it is saying that for 4.5 years, we couldn't do much. We could not meet most of your promises, but still in those 4 or 5 months, we have tried to work and so give us the vote. And Captain Amrinder Singh, who is now in the opposition, saying that the government did so well in those 4.5 years.
Yes.
And as about the face, as you are rightly pointing out, yes, face plays an important role in Punjab. In fact, in the previous assembly election, it was Captain Amrinder Singh's face. And it was, I think Rahul Gandhi came only 3 or 4 rallies only. So it was mainly Captain Amrinder Singh in 2017, as well as earlier when he was the chief minister in 2002. And this face is certainly important for the chief minister candidate, but Congress has already delayed it very long, and now it's in a very sticky position as to what choices it has.
All right, Mr. Papi, thank you so much for joining us. Sanjay Kumar, Jangveer Singh, Gurdeep Sappal and Mr. Grewal. Of course, that's a question that the Congress would be able to answer. Will they, and how soon will that announcement be? A story we'll continue to track very closely. That's all from me. Thanks so much for watching.
Favor of the airline, and everybody employees are witnessing it. You have seen in recent days unions coming up with one thing, others or the other saying we will not be cooperating because unless this is done, that is done, etc. Now, why was this being done? Simply because airline was government owned. They were tolerating these kind of tantrums. But once you move into the Tatas, I would love to see any union protesting.
But the government has put a clause to the Tatas that for 1 year you cannot fire anyone.
No, let's put it this way. 1 year is not a bad thing. I look at it from a positive sense. Since employees know that they can be terminated after a period of 1 year, they are going to be giving their best in terms of service. Then you very rightly said, because of government ownership, the work practices were of the monopoly era. Nobody could change those work practices because of the resistance from the unions. Now, Air India comes under the Tatas. You have no choice but to re-engineer the work practices, number one, for the management. For the employees, they have no option but to accept the improved work practices.
I have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Will go up, the efficiency will go up.
Okay. So, I have 1 minute, 30 seconds, Jitendra Bhargav, and I want to ask you this. As far as the Tatas are concerned, they already run Vistara and AirAsia, which again isn't making any sort of profit. Now they have a third airline in their stable. Do you possibly see in the coming future, not immediately maybe, but in the coming future, a merger of Air India with Vistara? Because what would any conglomerate do with 3 airlines?
You see,
and all 3 loss-making airlines?
No, let's put it this way. India is a price-sensitive market. Let's not forget this. Kingfisher, Jet Airways were good airlines, but losing money and collapsed. So it is not a question of providing a good quality product only and ensuring survival. There is money, there is kind of profitability that you have to be assured. So Tatas will ensure, and I'm sure they would have done this exercise before they carried out the due diligence and bid for Air India, that Vistara and Air India can't be competing, say, on a sector like London, on which both the airlines are currently flying. Now, they will have no choice but over a period of time merge, because that is where the collective market share will grow up.
Correct.
AirAsia, Air India at the moment, when you look at these market share and AirAsia and Vistara, when you look at the market share in domestic sector, for example, if you combine them together, it's 28%. Now, what happens is when you merge the 3 airlines, the costs go down, and you reap the benefit of scale of operations.
Okay, so ultimately the merger will have to come.
I'm not saying in the first issue you make profitability. The first challenge is to lower the quantum of losses that the airlines are suffering. And when the market improves, the post-COVID effect, the COVID effect disappears, etc. And market and Tatas add to the existing capacity. I would hate to see that if you're operating 500 flights a week today, to remain at the same level even 1 year later, Tatas will have to grow and grow in such a manner so that the pilots, engineers that you have beyond your the surplus kind of a thing are made optimal use of. So it is not something that pilots you can hire just next day. Pilots are a key commodity as far as the airline industries are concerned. You won't get them, they are trained pilots.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much.
Look at all these negatives that you're talking about in a positive sense. Once starters have this cushion of expanding the network by at least 20% without adding a single pilot or aircraft maintenance engineers, the kind of benefit.
Hello and welcome. In battleground Uttar Pradesh, the game of one-upmanship has begun in these parts. The Ganna land, the Jat land, once the Katta land. Jats led the farmer agitation, especially for farmers from these parts of western Uttar Pradesh for 13 months. They have in the past forged an alliance with the Muslims of the area and ensured electoral win for the party they supported. But have both the Muslims and the Jats forgotten the 2013 communal riots in these areas? What about the Thakurs, the Sainis, the Harijans, the non-Yadavs, OBCs? Will they allow Jats and Muslims to decide who rules? Over the next 30 minutes, we try and find out the answers.
हमारा है कि दिलवासू नहीं तो घरवासू।
ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿਓ ਤਾਂ ਜੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੇ, ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਖੜੇ ਹਾਂ। ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸਾਨ ਹੈ, ਅਸੀਂ ਜਵਾਨ ਹੈ। हमारा मूवमेंट सरकार के खिलाफ था, है और रहेगा।
आज मैं पूरे देश को ये बताने आया हूं कि हमने 3 कृषि कानूनों को वापस लेने का, रिपील करने का निर्णय लिया है।
Western Uttar Pradesh, Meerut, Muzaffarnagar, Bagpat, Shamli, Saharanpur, the region that started the turnaround for Bharatiya Janata Party in 2014 and continued to help the lotus bloom in 2017 and 19. Of the 66 assembly constituencies where Jats dominate, BJP bagged 50 in 2017. In the Garh of Chaudhary Charan Singh and Ajit Singh, only one RLD MLA won in 2017 and he too crossed over to BJP later. As per CSDS Lokniti survey, 77% of the Jats voted for BJP in 2014 Lok Sabha polls. In 2019, the numbers went up to 90%. BJP is going all out to replicate the numbers. In 2022 though, the water from the hand pump is threatening to drown the lotus.
इस बार जाट समुदाय के लोग जो हैं थोड़े नाराज चल रहे हैं भाजपा से।
हाँ, थोड़े नाराजगी तो जैसी बात है, जब 1 साल तक किसान आंदोलन दिल्ली में किसानों का भूख प्यास से समस्या बरसात सब तरह सहन करी और फसल उसकी बर्बाद हुई। यहाँ पे समय पे उसका खाद बीज नहीं दे पाया, सिंचाई नहीं कर पाया। तो जो मोदी जी ने 1 वर्ष का समय उन चीज़ों को वापस करने में लगा, 3 कानूनों को, काले कानूनों को, वो उससे पहले से समझ के सोच समझ के डिसीजन ले लेते कि जब किसानों के हित में कोई चीज़ें नहीं है, अब उसे उस चीज़ को साइड कर दी जाए।
छोटी छोटी चीज़ें जो किसान आंदोलन को लेकर सामने आए, वैसे किसान आंदोलन का असर भी इतना ज़्यादा नहीं रहा। कानून वापिस हो गए, उसका इतना असर नहीं है। यहाँ थोड़ा सा असर किसान आंदोलन के बाद जो जिजैन चौधरी हैं, राष्ट्रीय लोकदल का एक भावनात्मक जुड़ाव है, जिससे पश्चिम में थोड़ा सा प्रभाव भाजपा के खिलाफ है।
2013 में जाटों और मुसलमानों के बीच में दंगे हुए, क्या उस दंगे का प्रभाव अब खत्म हो गया है, अब भाईचारा है?
हाँ, दंगे का प्रभाव तो खत्म हो चुका। वो तो इनकी एक ऐसा हवा बन गया था उस दौरान कि बस पता नहीं क्या इन्होंने घुंटी पिया दी थी बीजेपी वालों ने। अब बस हिंदू मुस्लिम हो गया था। हिंदू मुस्लिम क्या, जाट बनाम मुसलमान हुआ था।
अगर मुसलमान कैंडिडेट खड़ा होता है, क्या जाट उसको वोट देगा?
हाँ, वोट देगा। अगर हम गठबंधन को वोट देंगे। हम तो
कैंडिडेट किसी भी धर्म
कैंडिडेट कोई भी हो, हमें तो अपना वो देना, चुनाव चिन्ह देखना।
नहीं जी, देखो ऐसा तो रहा नहीं अब कि जाट मुसलमान को देंगे नहीं देंगे। हताशा बहुत है, भाजपा सब लोग हताशा है, इसलिए हम तो कांग्रेस को वोट देंगे। कांग्रेस ने सर्व धर्म सर्व समाज की बात करी है। उसने हर बिरादरी को चुनाव में टिकट देने का काम करा है, चाहे वो ब्राह्मण हो, चाहे वो जाट हो, चाहे वो मुसलमान हो, चाहे वो कश्यप हो।
बसपा कहती है कांग्रेस वोट कटुआ पार्टी है, उसको वोट देने का मतलब वोट बर्बाद
जी,
करना।
बसपा का स्टैंड क्या है? कहाँ है बसपा? अभी तक तो हमें दिख नहीं रही कहाँ बसपा, तो और किसी दिख रही तो पता नहीं। अब वो बीच में आके थोड़ा अपना 10-20 सीटों का इंतजाम करके सोच रही कि अपना बीजेपी को जिताने का काम कर देगी अगर जरूरत पड़ी तो। क्या बसपा क्या उठ रहा? उठे तो उसका जिसका जो कुछ कर रहा हो, जब वो तो कहीं रेस में ही नहीं है तो उसका क्या उठ रहा?
मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी की सरकार में, भाजपा की गवर्नमेंट में क्राइम खत्म हुआ है, ये सबसे अच्छी बात है। अच्छे काम भी किए हैं गवर्नमेंट ने, सुविधा है अच्छी। लोगों को ये है कि कहीं चोरी चकारी होती थी, उनकी परसेंटेज बहुत ना के बराबर हो गई है। लेकिन नाराजगी यही है कि किसानों को इतना परेशान किया गया, उससे थक चुका किसान।
शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में रोजगार देने की वजह ये कहते हैं जो जिसने बीटेक किया है 10 लाख रुपए लगाएगा, पकोड़े चल रहे भाई रोजगार।
So all kinds of voices here. There are voices in support of Mahagathbandhan. There are voices in support of BJP. There was a solitary voice in support of the Congress party as well. They all agree that in the Yogi Adityanath government, law and order did improve. However, farmer agitation may have dented the Jat community's calibration. It may have affected their choice. Are Jats and Muslims going to vote together? We'll have to wait and watch. But one thing they definitely say is that communal discord is history.
In the RLD cradle of Bagpat, Jats who claim to have voted for BJP in the last few elections are returning to the RLD fold.
फिलहाल 17 में आपने भाजपा को वोट दिया।
हाँ जी, बिल्कुल पक्के पर
14 में और 19 में।
14 में और 19 में हम तो बहुत ही लंबे अरसे से भाजपा के हैं, लेकिन अब फिलहाल स्थिति ये है भाजपा से तंग आके इतने दुखी हो गए कि इनके जुल्म में इतने थे भाई, लोग बाग बह गए और उन्होंने ये समझा कि ये पता नहीं क्या करेंगे क्या नहीं।
गन्ने का भुगतान नहीं हो रहा, 60% बकाया है हमारा पिछले साल का। ये सरकार कहती थी हम भुगतान करा देंगे, हमने इन्हें वोट दिया था, इस वजह से ये सक्षम नहीं हो पाई। किसानों के बारे में फैल रही सरकार।
मोदी जी यहाँ आए बड़ौत में और कहा 450 का भाव 15 दिन में पेमेंट। आज कहाँ है वो 450 का भाव 15 दिन में पेमेंट?
तो जाट और मुसलमान इस बार साथ में
सब हमारे साथ ही है।
ये हमारे भाई है, ये हमसे अलग नहीं है, हम इनसे अलग नहीं है।
वे झगड़ा करवाते हैं वही लोग।
हम तो हमेशा से साथ रहे, आरडी के साथ, चौधरी साहब के साथ, चरण सिंह के साथ हमेशा से ही रहे, आज तक रहे, आगे भी रहेंगे, रहते आए।
पहले फूल को वोट दी थी, अब क्या फूल आंधी में उठ गया अपने आप ही। क्यों क्या उसका कारनामे में बहुत गलत रहे, झूठा अंग्रेजी शासन की तरह शासन करना चाह रहा। हमारे में जातिवाद फूट गए रहे और इसी वजह से राज करे। अंग्रेजी नहीं ये सिखा गए थे, यू नुक्ता पकड़ लिया इन्होंने।
पशु ना पाले ना रखे क्यों, जब दो डांगरों पे।
But there are pockets of worry for the RLD SP combined too. At the Civil Caste Assembly seat of Meerut, Jats protested when Haji Ghulam Mohammad of SP was announced as the Mahagathbandhan candidate.
मनमुटाव तो अब भी हो गया था जी, टिकट को लेते हुए जाट भाई नाराज हो गए थे, लेकिन जयंत भाई ने और उनकी वाइफ ने, चारों ने एक पोस्ट छोड़ी थी फेसबुक के जरिए। तो फिर जाट भाई ने कहा कि अगर आप मेरा साथ दोगे, अजीत सिंह को लेके मतलब वो नाराज हो गए थे अजीत सिंह की वजह से, क्योंकि गुलाम मोहम्मद साहब ने अजीत सिंह के सामने चुनाव लड़ा था लोकसभा का। तो अब सब जाट भाई मान गए हैं, सब गुलाम मोहम्मद साहब के साथ हैं।
आज भी तसल्ली हुई, जैन जी ने कहा पहले तो इस बात पर विरोध था भाई, इसे पहले रह चुका गुलाम मोहम्मद, बस दूसरे को दे दिया जाए, नदीम को दे दिया जाए, मियाँ तो और भी हैं। पर जब उन्होंने यह बात उन्होंने कह दिया भाई लोक दल जयंत ने भाई ऐसा इसी पे रहो तो सब इसी पे रहेंगे, कोई हटने वाला नहीं है।
जाट और मुसलमान का मसला नहीं था ये, हम थोड़ा उसके उम्मीदवार का थोड़ा फर्क था
भाई इसकी जगह को दूसरा और मोमडन में दूसरा हो जाता तो उसका थोड़ा ये विरोध था गुलाम मोहम्मद का।
हाँ।
लेकिन वैसा कोई विरोध नहीं था कि मुस्लिम को क्यों दिया जा रहा।
अच्छा, मतलब आपका कैंडिडेट से
थोड़ा था।
Sensing the discord amongst the Jats who hold sway in this entire belt, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has extended the olive branch. He met Jat leaders in Delhi and said doors for Jayant Chaudhary were still open.
Mahendra Tikait and Chaudhary Charan Singh, two of the tallest leaders of the Jat community. Charan Singh's grandson Jayant Chaudhary is leading the RLD revival in these parts. Interestingly, Amit Shah has not attacked Jayant even once. Instead said that Jayant was a good man who had chosen the wrong alliance partner. Amit Shah also said that doors are open for Jayant. It's a sentiment heard on the ground too. Many of the Jats feel that perhaps if RLD had joined hands with BJP, it would have been a better option for them.
जो कहा कि गलत चुना, वो भी ये बात उन्होंने सही कहा गृह मंत्री ने।
मतलब उनको सपा के साथ नहीं जाना चाहिए था।
ना, इसकी लारे जाता भाजपा की तो काफी जीत होती। भाजपा या तो इसमें तो चोरों की सरकार है, इसमें तो गुंडे रहा, यहाँ भी नाई दसन को दे दिया शिवता गुंडा सारी दुनिया का। और भी कई जगह पता है चलो हम भूल गए भाई, इतने होशियार नहीं तो। और वैसे भी जब इनकी सरकार आ जा तो जब भी जगह जगह दंगा और कहीं चोरी, कहीं कुछ, कहीं बलात्कार होते रहे।
गृह मंत्री ने बोला तो उसका कुछ तो विश्वास करेंगे जाट समुदाय और उन्हें वोट भी करेंगे। ऐसा नहीं है कि वोट नहीं करेंगे, थोड़ा असर पड़ेगा उसका जरूर।
हालांकि वे कानून बहुत अच्छे थे, वे कानून किसान हित में भी थे, छोटे किसानों के बहुत फायदेमंद थे। लेकिन वे तो जिद पर जब ना लिगट गई तो भाई जाट की ना तो ना ही रहेगी।
At Mahendra Tikait's home turf Sisoli, his son and BKU president Naresh Tikait downplays the Jat support for BJP.
13 महीने का समय काफ़ी समय हो और 700-750 करीब किसान शहीद भी हो गए उसमें। प्रधानमंत्री अच्छा लगता, दो शब्द उनके प्रति भी बोलते और इन पे जब मुकदमे साथ के साथ ही वापसी लेते, चलो ठीक है बातचीत। सारी लड़ा सीधी बात। हाँ, वो अच्छा सा नहीं लग रहा, किसानों के मन को जीत नहीं पाए मोदी जी।
I heard a saying in these lush green fields, जिसके जाट उसकी ठाट. What it means electorally is that the dominant Jat community can decide who wins an electoral contest in these parts. But to play the kingmaker, Jats need an alliance with the other dominant community, the Muslims.
Chaudhary Charan Singh had tapped into the farmers in both Jat and Muslim communities and forged an alliance which lasted till the 2013 Muzaffarnagar riots ripped the social fabric and the bhaichara apart. It all began here, at the Kaval village of Muzaffarnagar. Muhammad Salim's son Shahnawaz was stabbed in August 2013. Two Jat boys, Sachin and Gaurav, who allegedly stabbed him, were then allegedly lynched by the mob in retaliation.
वही देगा मुझे, इंसाफ वही देगा मुझे, अल्लाह नहीं आएगी।
Salim, a bitter man today, refuses to say much about the politics that unfolded, but can't keep his anguish away.
आप उन लोगों को माफ कर सकते हैं जिन्होंने आपके बेटे के साथ ऐसा किया, आपके परिवार के साथ ऐसा किया?
माफी और तलाफी तो जब है, जब कोई माफी चाहे या नो सोचे मैंने गलती कर दी, मेरे से गलती हुई, और जब कोई गलती नहीं मान रहा तो माफी काहे की मांग लगा।
Sachin and Gaurav's family too find it difficult to forget and join the Bhaichara bandwagon.
दंगा तो साजिद के तहत ही हुआ, जो ना तो आजम खां उसका एसपी और उसका डीएम का तबादला करे, ना उन बदमाशों को छोड़ा, ना दंगा भड़का। तो ये तो गुंडे राजनीति तो दंगा भड़का। इसके तो जो भी दंगा भड़काने के मालिक है अखिलेश या आजम खां है।
चौधरी चरण सिंह जो है हमारा रिश्तेदार है, उसी के साथ रहे। और जब ये दंगा हुआ, दंगे में हमारा उन्होंने पता नहीं दिया, जब से हम भाजपा में।
अगर आपको लगता कि चौधरी चरण सिंह और भाजपा साथ में आती तो आपको ज्यादा तसल्ली होती, ज्यादा खुशी होती?
खुशी होती।
The Kaval Village Square has a mandir, a masjid just a few steps away. A huge cutout of Prime Minister Modi greets you when you enter. The Sainis, the Thakurs swear by the BJP.
यहाँ जब लोग वोट करेंगे तो किस मुद्दे पर करेंगे?
विकास के मुद्दे पर।
क्या विकास हुआ है आपके गांव में पिछले 5 सालों में?
विकास में इंटर कॉलेज बन गया जी यहाँ पे, और रोड भी अच्छी हैं, और किसान सम्मान निधि भी आ रही है, फ्री राशन भी मिल रहा है गरीब लोगों को, और विकास भी हो रहा है उसको।
हमारे जाट भाई भी साथ है हमारे बीजेपी के, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। कम से कम 60% जाट हमारे बीजेपी के साथ है।
तो गांव भी धर्म के उस पे बढ़ जाएगा।
But the Muslims have decided to go with the Mahagathbandhan.
चाहे अखिलेश यादव मुसलमानों को टिकट ना दे, फिर भी आपको उनसे गिला नहीं है।
अखिलेश यादव उस विचारधारा के आदमी नहीं है जो हिंदू मुसलमान की बात करें। अखिलेश यादव समाजवाद विचारधारा के लोग हैं।
एक बार फिर कोशिश हो रही है इन दोनों समुदायों को साथ लाने की। पॉसिबल है भाईचारा, अब पॉसिबल है?
ये पॉसिबल है, पहले भी पॉसिबल था, अब भी पॉसिबल है। ऐसा नहीं होता, एक हादसा था, हो गया। अब इंशाल्लाह सब भाईचारे के साथ हैं। हिंदू मुसलमान ये तो इसी से जाना जाता है, पश्चिम उत्तर प्रदेश भाईचारे के साथ।
बसपा ने और ओवैसी जी की पार्टी ने मुसलमान कैंडिडेट उतारा है, तो आपका समुदाय, मुस्लिम समुदाय, उन पर अपना भरोसा क्यों नहीं दिखा रहा?
यही तो वजह है जो उन्होंने मुस्लिम कैंडिडेट उतारे हैं। लोगों के माइंड कन्वर्ट होंगे, कुछ इधर जाएंगे कुछ इधर जाएंगे, और फिर से दंगा भड़काने की सरकार जो है ये फिर से मुसलसल होकर बैठ जाएगी।
आपको भरोसा नहीं है बहन जी पर या ओवैसी पर भी? आपको लगता है वो
भरोसे
बीजेपी की बी टीम है?
भरोसे जो हो सकता है बीजेपी की, जब उन्होंने खुला कह दिया कि समाजवादी सरकार को हम हराने के लिए चाहे हमें बीजेपी को जिताना पड़े, तो इसमें भरोसे की कहां से बात है?
The mood is same in Bagpat too. Out of 3 lakh voters, Muslims are 60,000, the largest chunk, followed by 37,000 Jats and 28,000 Yadav. A bloc SPRLD is hoping to swing its way.
मोदी जी ने पिछले 5 सालों में लोगों पे इतने एहसान किए हैं कि पेट्रोल को 65 से लेके 105 कर दिया, उसे 110 कर दिया, फिर उसे जो है 85 पे लिया। कहना भाई मैंने एहसान कर दिया, 20 रुपये कम कर दिया। वही डीजल वाला काम है। सिलेंडर 600 रुपये का आता था, वही सिलेंडर आज 1100 रुपये का आ रहा है, 1000 रुपये का आ रहा है। अब बताइए गरीब आदमी क्या करेगा इसमें?
मुझे ऐसा लगता है मुसलमान समुदाय की मजबूरी है महागठबंधन को वोट देना। आपको लगता है ये मजबूरी है आपके समुदाय की?
हाँ जी, मजबूरी तो है जी करने। बस ये क्या बताए, काम के बारे में कुछ भी काम नहीं है। काम करने के लिए बैठे हैं, बस बेकार हो रहा है काम।
जाट मुस्लिम जो भाईचारा है वो यहाँ सदियों से चला आ रहा है। 1937 में जब चौधरी चरण सिंह जी के सामने नवाब लियाकत अली खान ट्रायल चुनाव में खड़े हुए, तो इस पश्चिम उत्तर प्रदेश के मुसलमानों ने चौधरी चरण सिंह को अपना नेता चुना, ना कि नवाब लियाकत खान। तो ये जो जाट मुस्लिम की आपसी मोहब्बत, भाईचारा और लगाव है, इसी कारण है कि यहाँ के मुसलमान जैन चौधरी को अपना नेता मानते हैं।
While Bagpat and Muzaffarnagar Muslims show their inclination for the Mahagathbandhan, we came across Mehboob Khan in the Murlipur village of Meerut cantonment, canvassing for the Bharatiya Janata Party.
राशन मिल रहा है, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तरफ से मिल रहा है। किसानों को किस्त मिल रही है, उसे भी भाजपा दे रही है। इसमें कोई हिंदू ना मुसलमान है, मुस्लिम पूरा साथ है, भाजपा के साथ है।
भाजपा जो है राशन दे रही है, पैसा दे रही है, काम काज भी कर रही है, सारे काम कर रही है।
लेकिन इस सरकार में दंगे नहीं हुए बीजेपी की, हिंदू मुस्लिम नहीं हुई, गुंडागर्दी नहीं हुई, और बिल्कुल सबको एक नजरिए से देखा गया।
बिल्कुल सही चल रहा है। जो बदमाश है वे भी खत्म होना भी चाहिए। ऐसा कि गुंडागर्दी बदमाशी कराया जाता है, और करेगा कौन?
The Shiv Chowk of Muzaffarnagar, at the peak of the farmer agitation, Rakesh Tikait tied a bell here saying इस घंटे की आवाज से सरकार को जगाना है. The same Rakesh Tikait is today chanting Allahu Akbar while is supporting Jats don't mind. What about the non-Jat Hindus? After the break, we'll get you voices of the non-Jat Hindus, the Thakurs, the Sainis, the Lodhs, the Dalits.
The Tatas. G.R.D. Tata's commitment to the airline was legendary. He was known to have rolled up his sleeves on at least one occasion to help the staff clean up a dirty airplane bathroom. As Air India goes back to the house of Tatas, here's a look at their history together. Now, one estimate is saying that the Tatas will need to invest at least $1 billion to upgrade Air India. That's a lot of money. The airline, meanwhile, in a tweet has called the deal a brand new chapter in its history. Joining me, someone who knows Air India well, Jitendra Bhargav is a former executive director of Air India. Sir, thank you very much for your time. You know, Air India has gone to the right people. The Tatas are emotionally connected to the brand and they have deep pockets to upgrade it. But the journey for them is going to be very turbulent. I want to ask you what is going to be, as someone who knows Air India inside out, what is going to be their biggest challenge for, you know, for the traveler, for the customer? A, the food is awful. B, flights are never on time. Is that going to be the first immediate challenge, or is it fixing other managerial and debt issues?
You know, let me begin with a statement that I often make, that Air India has not been as good an airline as it ought to have been, but is also not as bad an airline as it's made out to be. Take, for example, the on-time performance. The difference between the best Indian carrier and Air India is 7 percentage points. So it is not a Herculean task. And considering the fact that Air India is government-owned and it comes with its weaknesses, unproductive work practices, inefficiency, you really can't take corrective measures or re-engineer work practices, etc. So this will be an easy thing for the Tatas to attain. Both the on-time performance and working out on the seat occupancy factor, which is related to generation of revenue. You see, Air India people, because of the kind of product that they were offering to the passenger, did not have the kind of courage to go to the corporate houses seeking business. So Air India by default suffered in the last 5-10 years. On one count was poor marketing, which wasn't aggressive and it needed to be in a competitive environment. The second thing was the product was suffering because of being cash-starved. They were not reinvesting the money into the product. And it is essential in hospitality industry that you keep upgrading the product so that it's better or at par with the competition. So Air India suffered in multiple ways. And then, of course, there was the fact that we had bureaucrats helming the airline who were coming for 2 years tenure, 3 years tenure, but were not taking corrective action. And when you made the statement that 1,10,000 crores has been infused in the
गन्ना भुगतान की बात है, गन्ना भुगतान जो पिछली सरकारें रही हैं उनमें भी काफ़ी लेट समय पर हुआ और भाजपा सरकार से अगर हम उनकी तुलना करें तो भाजपा सरकार का रिकॉर्ड काफ़ी अच्छा रहा है।
बीजेपी ने जब सरकार आई थी बैठते हुए आरक्षण खत्म कर दिया था।
ये कहते हैं जो जिसने बीटेक किया 10 लाख रुपए लगाएगा पकोड़े चल रहे भाई।
हम तो योगी तो वोट देंगे जी और मोदी थे।
In Muzaffarnagar, while most are talking about how Jats are angry with the Bharatiya Janata Party, I came across this convoy of sugarcane buggies which are all sporting the Bharatiya Janata Party flag. If you see, these BJP flags are on each one of these buggies. Bharatiya Janata Party का झंडा क्यों लगाए हुए हैं आप अपने किस पे?
भारतीय जनता पार्टी को क्यों जी हम इसे वोट देंगे। इसी के सपोर्ट है।
अब कहते हैं बीजेपी की सरकार ही आनी।
अच्छा,
हाँ जी,
आप लोग
इसकी
पिछली
साथ
बार भी बीजेपी को वोट दिए?
हाँ जी, पिछली बार भी नहीं दिया था।
आप लोग जाट हैं?
नहीं जी,
नहीं है।
नहीं।
तो यहाँ जाट तो इस बार सारे रालोद के साथ जा रहे हैं।
अजी मैं कहीं जाऊँ हम तो बीजेपी की साथ हैं।
बीजेपी के सपोर्ट है जी हम तो।
क्यों?
जी।
क्यों सपोर्ट दे रहे हैं?
इसने करने पैसा बढ़ाया, एक हमें कहने क्यों काम बढ़िया बिल्कुल पक्का कर दीजिए हो। जी।
और कोई वजह बीजेपी को सपोर्ट देने का?
एक गुंडागर्दी खत्म होगी जी।
हाँ जी,
अजी पहले यो रोड नहीं था, गट बुग्गी कहीं ही पलट दी थी। अब जब से उनकी सरकार आई रोड मिल रहा।
गुंडाराज बिल्कुल खत्म है जी, गुंडाराज बिल्कुल। किसी टाइम आ जाओ, किसी टाइम पहुंचो खेत में, टाइम पाओ टाइम पजाओ।
धर्म सिंह जी, आपके इस पे बुग्गी पे ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी का झंडा लगाकर क्यों चल रहे हैं?
वोट देंगे जी।
उनको वोट देंगे?
हाँ जी।
क्यों पसंद है आपको भारतीय जनता पार्टी?
पसंद है जी, पहले से ही पसंद है।
हमें बहुत फायदा है जी, जैसे हमारे जंगल है, खेतों में बहुत हमें सुविधा मिली हुई है और गुंडागर्दी जैसे हमारे नुकसान होते थे खेतों में तो हमें उसमें बहुत फायदा हुआ है जी।
So if the Jats are here in Muzaffarnagar are talking about the farmer agitation, they are talking about them being upset with the government because of the farm bills, There are also others who are displaying their support to the party. They also claim to be farmers. They are from the OBC community. They are from the Lodh community and the others in this area, displaying their support for the Bharatiya Janata Party, making this a very interesting and complex elections.
Not just Muzaffarnagar, the consolidation of non-Jat Hindus is visible across the Ganna belt.
मुद्दे पे तो ज़्यादा जो है हिंदुत्व मुद्दे पे है जी। अब तो बात हिंदुत्व मुद्दे पे ज़्यादा जो है जोर दिया जा रहा है, क्योंकि ये अखिलेश सर ये खुल के जो है हिंदू होते हुए भी मुसलमान के साथ जो है ऐसे ऐसे वर्ड बोल रहे हैं, खुद अपने आप को काट रहे हैं।
सब कुछ बढ़िया हुआ, सड़कें और काम भी जो वे 2 नंबरी काम थे वे सब इसने निपटाए हैं, बदमाश निपटाए हैं, सारे काम निपटाए। एक ही काम गलत कर रहा, किसान के लिए ये नहीं सोच रहा कि उनका पेमेंट जो गन्ना घेरते हैं, किसान बहुत कमजोर आदमी है में, पर उनके पेमेंट के लिए बहुत ही दिक्कत आई है।
दाम हर चीज का बढ़ गया है, आलू प्याज टमाटर तेल का, तो क्या ये आपको लगता है आपके लिए एक दिक्कत है?
हाँ जी, ये तो बढ़ ही रहा है सबके लिए ही, सबके लिए ही बढ़ रहा है। तो हर चीज पे ही महंगाई आ रही। तेल का ही 150 रुपए किलो था, अब 200 रुपए हो रहा। सरसों का तेल, हर चीज पे ही महंगाई है।
साग सब्जी का तो चल भी जा काम, तेल ज्यादा महंगा हो रहा।
पर जब आप वोट देंगी, क्या महंगाई का सोच के वोट देंगी आप?
तो हमने तो कमल के फूल पे दी थी ना।
हाँ, फिर से उसी पे देंगी?
हाँ, तो उसी पे ही दे देंगे।
While the Samajwadi Party RLD supporters hope that this alliance between Jats and Muslim will help them sail through, BJP supporters are looking at history. Back in 2017 too, Jats in these parts were upset because their brethren in Haryana were lathi-charged on the Jat reservation issue. Amit Shah intervened, met the Jat leaders, expressed regret, and in turn, 70% Jats sided with the BJP. Will he manage to wave the magic wand this time around as well? Will history repeat itself? We'll know on 10th of March.
The post-COVID effect, the COVID effect disappears, etc., and market and Tatas add to the existing capacity. I would hate to see that if you're operating 500 flights a week today, to remain at the same level even 1 year later, Tatas will have to grow and grow in such a manner so that the pilots, engineers that you have beyond your the surplus kind of a thing are made optimal use of. So it is not something that pilots you can hire just next day. Pilots are a key commodity as far as the airline industries are concerned. You won't get them, they are trained pilots.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Look at all these negatives that you're talking about in a positive sense. Once starters have this cushion of expanding the network by at least 20% without adding a single pilot or aircraft maintenance engineers, the kind of benefit it accrues to Tata.
Chaliye, so it will be a turnaround journey to watch out for.
International network.
Jitendra Bhargav, it will be a turnaround journey to watch out for, I guess then. We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. Completely out of time. A simple way to look at Air India's history is this. The government took Air India from JRD Tata, asked him to run it, took it away again, and then finally sold back the airline to the Tatas. JRD Tata's commitment to the airline was legendary. He was known to have rolled up his sleeves on at least one occasion to help the staff clean up a dirty airplane bathroom. As Air India goes back to the house of Tatas, here's a look at their history together. Now, one estimate is saying that the Tatas will need to invest at least $1 billion to upgrade Air India. That's a lot of money. The airline, meanwhile, in a tweet has called the deal a brand new chapter in its history. Joining me, someone who knows Air India well, Jitendra Bhargav is a former executive director of Air India. Sir, thank you very much for your time. You know, Air India has gone to the right people. The Tatas are emotionally connected to the brand and they have deep pockets to upgrade it. But the journey for them is going to be very turbulent. I want to ask you what is going to be, as someone who knows Air India inside out, what is going to be their biggest challenge for, you know, for the traveler, for the customer? A, the food is awful. B, flights are never on time. Is that going to be the first immediate challenge, or is it fixing other managerial and debt issues?
You know, let me begin with a statement that I often make, that Air India has not been as good an airline as it ought to have been, but is also not as bad an airline as it's made out to be. Take, for example, the on-time performance. The difference between the best Indian carrier and Air India is 7 percentage points. So it is not a Herculean task. And considering the fact that Air India is government-owned and it comes with its weaknesses, unproductive work practices, inefficiency, you really can't take corrective measures or re-engineer work practices, etc. So this will be an easy thing for the Tatas to attain. Both the on-time performance and working out on the seat occupancy factor, which is related to generation of revenue. You see, Air India people, because of the kind of product that they were offering,
महाराष्ट्र सरकार की एमवीए सरकार की असंवैधानिक कृति पर एक करारा थप्पड़
Namaste and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I am Anand Narsimhan. Three parties, Congress, NCP, Shiv Sena, all three of them are the ones together running the government in Maharashtra. All three of them were collective, unanimous in passing that resolution where they wanted to ensure that 12 MLAs of the BJP don't enter the Maharashtra Vidhan Sabha at least for a year. The decision was challenged in the top court, and the top court coming down heavily on this government. And all those leaders who are actually waging a war against Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led BJP and the government to save democracy. That group has been told that their action in Maharashtra is illegal, is unconstitutional. So who is upholding democracy? Who is stifling democracy? Who's made an absolute violation of the mockery of the constitution and the rule book? And who are the ones who are suddenly now saying that whatever is the ruling passed by the Honorable Supreme Court is today is judicial overreach into what is purely executive domain? Isn't it the same lot that went scurrying to the Supreme Court, woke up the top judges and the justices at 5 a.m. and wanted a hearing and said, see, the courts have saved and upheld democracy in the matter of Karnataka? We will debate all of that, ladies and gentlemen. Many will ask, what about the 12 MPs who were suspended in Parliament? We'll talk about that too. But first, let's focus on what the court, the top court of the country, ruled. And please read the words very, very carefully. It first turned around and said that the 1-year suspension is unconstitutional and arbitrary. Why? They said illegal and beyond the powers of the assembly. They also said you can't suspend beyond the remainder of the session for this offense. The offense that was committed, you can't suspend. Then they also said the decision is without hearing and it lacks the course of natural justice where you have to allow everybody to have a hearing. And then it said suspension for a full 1 year is absolutely irrational. And let me also tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the collective of the MLAs and Ashish Shelar on behalf of these MLAs stood on the floor of the assembly and explained and said, we apologize for this behavior. Think, has any of the 12 MPs so far even bothered to apologize to the chair for their behavior? So the MP situation is different, the MLA situation is different. But let's try and understand why we are saying the double standard. The double standards come to the fore when you understand the opposition MPs are standing in front of Mahatma Gandhi himself in the capital. How can you But Sharad Pawar fasted. Sanjay Raut said, we will fight. These are the things they said at that time. Remember? And they also said, voice of the people of India has been crushed. This government now is only to stifle and crush people, said Mr. Rahul Gandhi. All three voices, Shiv Sena, NCP, Congress. Killing of democracy, said Rahul Gandhi. Norms and rules disregarded, voices stifled, said Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi of the Shiv Sena. Questioning the spirit of parliament, Dr. Shashi Tharoor. What has now happened? The Supreme Court has quashed year-long suspension. Tight slap on the face of the Aghadi government, says Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, the former chief minister. Aren't the Aghadi netas on the back foot given what has now happened? Because they, who claim to be fighting to save democracy, have been called as doing nothing but overreach, going beyond the powers of the assembly itself and saying what you have done is irrational, arbitrary, unconstitutional. These are the aspects. So we ask straight away, the Aghadi government high-handedness, has it been exposed? When the suspensions have been blocked or stayed by the Honorable Supreme Court. SC ruling on Maha MLAs is the hashtag. Who about it? Debate about it. Tell us what you think. Let's go straight across to our guest this evening. Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP. Swapnil Kothari, Senior Lawyer, is with us. Sanjay Gupta, Leader of the Shiv Sena, is with us. But first, I'm going to go to Mr. Atul Bhatkalkar. He's one of the MLAs who was suspended. Atulji, namaste. What do you make of the Supreme Court ruling today? Because there are some reactions which have come from the MVA, from with those corridors, who are saying we are mulling at options. They are saying court ko ye sab faisla lene ka kya adhikar nahi hai. Whatever is happening in the state, it is our job. How would you respond?
See, this is nothing but the great victory of democracy and tight slap on the face of this Mahavikas Aghadi Sarkar, which is day in and day out acting unconstitutionally, illegally and undemocratically. And now they are saying that legislature is supreme. Who is Supreme Court? Supreme Court decision is not binding on legislature, but they are conveniently forgetting one thing. This government was born because of Supreme Court.
Yes.
Ajit Pawar and Devendra Fadnavis formed the government. This same Mahavikas Aghadi leaders went to the Supreme Court. And what was the point? Point raised by them before Supreme Court was that as per Maharashtra Assembly rules, Speaker's election is always take place on secret ballot. But this time that process should be undone. And before electing the speaker, the government should pass the resolution of no confidence motion. And Supreme Court, despite there is a codified rule of Maharashtra legislature regarding the election of speaker with secret ballot, gave a verdict otherwise.
Yes.
That time they praised Supreme Court. But when today Supreme Court came heavily on this government and their behavior, now they are saying Supreme Court has no right. Legislation is supreme. We will decide, we will think whether we have to follow Supreme Court decision or not.
But Atulji,
my request to them that they should expect that their decision, their dictatorship is totally made open by Supreme Court's today's verdict, and now they should allow us.
No, but Atulji, you have to understand.
Assembly session.
But Atulji, you have to understand, for the Congress party, the Shiv Sena, the NCP, when the Supreme Court changed the codified procedure of the Maharashtra Assembly, it was a victory of democracy. It was upholding constitution. Today, when they are turning around and saying who is Supreme Court, they are only expressing their freedom of expression, their right to free speech.
You're asking me?
जी अतुल जी. It is a classic case
Hello?
कि चित में जी. अतुल जी, can you hear me? It is the classic case of चित में जीता पट तुम हारे.
Yes, yes. गिरे तो भी टांग ऊपर. In our Marathi there is a proverb. पटला तरी नाकवर. So because of now today they are exposed like anything, and as I said right from the day one, this government is indulging in unconstitutional and illegal activities. That was proved in Kangana Ranaut case. That was proved in the when they moved the privilege motion against Kangana Ranaut. Regarding the so-called acting DG Maharashtra had for last more than 8 months, which is totally in contravention with the Supreme Court decision in 2005. But not only that, they are acting against the Supreme Court decision, and when somebody went to the Mumbai High Court to appoint DG as per the Supreme Court's guidelines and Supreme Court's rule, this government defended their action.
True.
And so this government is nothing but a mockery of justice, democracy and constitution. But I have full confidence and faith in the judiciary and people of Maharashtra. They will teach lesson to this government whenever elections will come.
The judiciary and the people of Maharashtra should teach a lesson to anybody and everybody who takes the constitution for granted, who takes democracy for granted, and who plays this beautiful story or narrative. Swapnil Kothari, Sanju Verma and Sanjay Gupta ji. ये संजय गुप्ता जी थोड़ा फेमिलियर लग रहा है ना. हम किसी का घर तोड़े तो वो हमारा हक है, वो अगर हम पर पत्थर फेंके तो ये फिर हम पर नाइंसाफी है, हमें इंसाफ दो, है ना. तो आप किसी का घर जाके तोड़िए तो वो भाई ये तो कैसे हमारे खिलाफ कोई कह देगा तो हम तोड़ देंगे उनको. उन्होंने आपको कुछ कह दिया तो अरे देखो हमारे साथ ऐसा कर रहे हैं, हमारी डेमोक्रेसी में क्या हो रहा है. संजय गुप्ता
नहीं तो मुझे आप थोड़ा सा ये बता दीजिए आनंद जी कि अदालतें अगर केंद्र सरकार के फैसलों के खिलाफ इस तरह के फैसले देती हैं तब भी ये क्या इसी तरह से बोलते हैं क्या? हमारे देश का ये संघीय ढांचा है कि बहुत से फैसले ऐसे होते हैं जो अदालतें सरकारों के फैसलों को पलट देती हैं. इनके कितने फैसलों को अदालतों ने पलटा है. सीबीआई के निदेशक वाले मामले में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इनके फैसले को पलटा. SC एक्ट मामले में अदालत ने इनके फैसलों को पलटा. ऐसे ना जाने कितने फैसले हैं जिनमें केंद्र सरकार के खिलाफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अपने फैसलों को बदला है. तब भी क्या इसी तरह से बोलते थे अपने लिए जैसे आज बोल रहे हैं? ये हमारे देश का एक संघीय ढांचा है कि जहां पर सरकार के किसी भी एक्शन के खिलाफ अदालत को ये लगता है कि इस तरह का फैसला नहीं होना चाहिए था तो अदालतें उसमें अपना फैसला देती हैं. तो ये संघीय ढांचे का एक रूप है. इसमें इतना खुश होने की
तो
बात
आप
क्या है?
आज किसको डांट रहे हैं? आज आप एनसीपी शिवसेना और कांग्रेस को डांट रहे हैं. आज आप अपनी पार्टी को ही डांट रहे हैं क्योंकि आप ही के पार्टी के लोगों ने कहा है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट कौन होता है स्टेट के मामले में दखल देने वाला. फैसले के बाद बोला सर.
देखिए मैं इनकी ये बोल रहे हैं शिवसेना के लिए, ये बोल रहे हैं महाराष्ट्र सरकार के लिए कि महाराष्ट्र सरकार ने इलीगल काम किया, महाराष्ट्र सरकार ने
वो ये नहीं बोल रहे हैं, वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला है.
थप्पड़ लग गया महाराष्ट्र सरकार को.
संजय जी वो अतुल जी नहीं कह रहे हैं. अतुल जी सिर्फ सुप्रीम कोर्ट के
जो एक MLA थे वो बोल रहे थे.
संजय जी अतुल भटकलकर जी सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो कहा है उसी को दोहरा रहे थे. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि आप जो महाराष्ट्र सरकार ने किया वो इलीगल है, अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है और आर्बिट्रेरी है. और आपने जो कहा कि ये कौन होते हैं कि एक तरफ संघीय ढांचा है उसको रिस्पेक्ट करना चाहिए. आप सही कह रहे हैं. आप प्लीज अपने शिवसेना के और महाराष्ट्र विकास अघाड़ी के अपने बाकी शुभचिंतकों को भी कहिए, उनके अपने जो मित्र हैं उनको भी कहिए कि देखिए संघीय ढांचा है उसको रिस्पेक्ट करें. क्योंकि आप ही की पार्टी के लोग और आप ही की महाराष्ट्र विकास अघाड़ी के लोगों ने सुप्रीम कोर्ट के डिसीजन को चुनौती दी और कहा है सुप्रीम कोर्ट कौन होता है हमको बोलने वाला. हम देखेंगे और ऑप्शन क्या है.
बिल्कुल सुप्रीम कोर्ट के किसी भी फैसले को चुनौती भी दी जा सकती है. ऐसा नहीं होता कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला अंतिम फैसला ही होता है. सुप्रीम कोर्ट के फैसलों को भी चुनौती दी जा सकती है अदालत के अंदर ही.
ये तो पल में पलट गए. इतना अब समझ में आया कि भाई अरे गुगली फेंक रहे तुम्हें. ये तो पल में पलट गए. ओके संजू वर्मा, Now the next question is the next question is going to be, and let me preempt it. Then what about the 12 MPs of the Rajya Sabha?
Yes. Okay. Anand, I'll quickly tell you that first and foremost, congratulations to all the 12 BJP MLAs, including Ashish Shelar and of course Mr. Atul Bhatkalkar, Parag Alavani, Yogesh Sagar and the others as well, for winning this war. I think the Supreme Court, Anand, the three things that really stood out were the words which you also said in your introduction, illegal. What the Maha Vasuli Agadi did was illegal, unconstitutional, and beyond the assembly. I just want to tell the gentlemen from the Shiv Sena that under Article 93 of the Constitution, the power of Speaker, and under Article 178, the powers of the Speaker of the respective state legislative assemblies are very clearly laid out in the 10th schedule of the Constitution. And while doing some research before coming on your debate, I found out why is it that the Supreme Court castigated the Maharashtra government in no uncertain terms. It is because the presiding officer, the Speaker at that time in the chair, Bhaskar Yadav, he himself flouted every rule of Rule 53 of the Assembly. Rule 53 clearly says one thing, and that is that even if you want to suspend, whatever be the reason, if you want to suspend 1, 10, 20, whatsoever, you can only suspend them for either 5 consecutive sessions or the remaining part of that particular assembly session, whichever is less. First and foremost, Bhaskar Yadav, the presiding officer at that point of the Maha Vasuli Agadi, he himself flouted Rule 53 of the assembly proceedings. And the most important thing, I'll just tell you. The other interesting thing is, people say, Supreme Court, overreached its brief. I will just say there are very two important judgments. Jagdeep Singh versus the state of Haryana in 2006, KM Singh versus the state of Manipur in 2020. Both these cases went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said yes, the judiciary cannot encroach upon the domain of the executive or legislature, but when there are exceptional circumstances, then the judiciary can intervene, and that power to the judiciary is given under Section 151 of the Representation of the People's Act. So the Supreme Court has used its powers under Section 151 to undo an unconstitutional suspension of the BJP.
Now, Sanjuji, Atul Bhatkalkar ji also explained this. He said that even within the Maharashtra Assembly rules, it is codified that and that was overruled when the Supreme Court in the past, not so long ago, ruled in favor of the Maharashtra Vikas Agadi against the combination of BJP and Ajit Pawar. Atul Bhatkalkar ji said that very clearly. At that time, we didn't see anybody from the BJP coming out and saying Supreme Court big guy hai, Supreme Court ka overreach hai. Ye, no, we didn't see. I just looked. Is anybody? Abhi Sanjay Gupta ji was saying कि देखो ये लोग तो रोते हैं. ये लोग नहीं रोए. BJP वाले नहीं रोए. उन्होंने बोला कोर्ट ने जो कहा ठीक है हमने मान लिया हम सुन लिया. But Swapnil Kothari, this is my abhivyakti ki azadi. When I question the Supreme Court, especially if I am from those who are the champions of democracy.
Anand, you've answered that question yourself. The so-called champions of democracy seem to flout it at every single juncture. The Supreme Court has made it very clear. It has said that there will be no bar to judicial review of any of the proceedings in the Legislative Assembly or the parliamentary proceedings if there is a violation of the fundamental rights, which was the case here of Article 21, which is right to liberty, which ensconces in itself, right to put up your views, especially in a House proceedings where you want to counter some sort of a proposal that is coming, which is exactly was the idea behind it, to suspend for 1 year. So obviously the Supreme Court said that beyond the remainder of the session, everything is non-est, it is unconstitutional. Non-est is that phrase that they use, that it isn't so, that means it doesn't exist. Now, all those legalese aside, what is more important, Anand, given the fact that you're raising this very, very important debate today, is the observation of the Supreme Court in paragraph 74, which is the epilogue of that judgment, of a 90-page judgment. Look at what they have said. They didn't need to go into that. They could have just simply said that this is unconstitutional. Let's end it, and these people will get back the perks and privileges that they were due during the time that they were illegally suspended. That's the end of it. No order as to costs. Over. But the fact that they have put in about 25 to 30 lines in that paragraph 74 bemoaning the way the parliamentary proceedings are being conducted is itself something which needs to be read by all the people who seem to flout democracy and who seem to say whenever the judgment goes against them that the Supreme Court is not theirs. The Supreme Court is that of the people, not of any governing party or of any opposition. The Supreme Court is there to uphold the Constitution. Look at what they have said, that at every stage there is aggression as opposed to enlightened debates. The phrase, the philosophical tenet of agree to disagree has been completely washed down the drain. And not only that, but there is brinkmanship at every juncture as opposed to statesmanship. Where is the erudition? Where is the enlightenment? Where are the enlightened debates? It is clearly telling you that our democracy, by the way the parliamentary proceedings are being conducted, is teetering on the edge, Anand. And that is where the entire force of the people, the faith of the people lies. Judiciary to baad mein aati hai. First, you go to the parliament and the legislature.
I'll tell you another thing, Swapnil. Yes, where is the erudition? And it's coming up to brinkmanship. But brinkmanship by who? That's the bigger question. Brinkmanship by who? Brinkmanship by who? Right. In the Maharashtra case, Atul Bhatkalkar ji, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, there was aggression. Yes, there was heated argument. But the speaker's chair was also did not hold back their words. The speaker was also abusive. The MLAs were also abusive. There were mics which were pulled. But in the same Vidhan Sabha, all of you stood there and apologized.
Exactly.
Didn't you apologize?
Leader of opposition, Mr. Devendra Fadnavis, tender unconditional apology on the floor of the House. First thing, those MLAs, including myself, were suspended. Everybody did not go up to the dais. I myself, Parag Aloni, we are not even moved from our chair. And whatever so-called thing took place, not in the House, that is out of the House. There was no proof. Pro tem speaker, the moment he stepped down from his chair, he became a normal, any another MLA. There are privileges for speaker and deputy speaker, but pro tem speaker, in Marathi we call it Talika Adhyaksha, is not a deputy speaker.
Sir.
And so, totally wrong, totally unconstitutional, totally undemocratic, totally they flouted the rules, precedents of the Maharashtra Assembly.
No, and juxtapose this that it didn't happen with the chair, it didn't happen with the speaker, and the fact that an unconditional apology was tendered. Viewers, juxtapose that with the 12 MPs of the Rajya Sabha who not only were abusive towards the chair, they threw papers, tore papers and threw it at the chair. They roughed up the marshals. They also beat up the marshals. And after that, they said dissent is a right of democracy and we will not apologize. So who is leading to brinkmanship is the question. As per that para number 70 that you said, who is doing the brinkmanship? Who is saying that I will hit you, I will insult you, I will insult Parliament, I will insult the House, and I will not apologize. Ja, jo karna hai kar le, nahi maafi mangunga. Who's showing that attitude? And the same people are turning around and saying, you stand there, देखो अब तुम्हारा हम क्या करते हैं. You raise your voice against me, देखो तुम्हारा हम क्या करते हैं. तुम हमारे खिलाफ आवाज उठाओगे, देखो तुम्हारा हम क्या करते हैं. क्यों संजय जी?
नहीं तो अगर मान लीजिए महाराष्ट्र सरकार सुप्रीम कोर्ट के इस फैसले के खिलाफ रिव्यू करने के लिए जाना चाहती है, तो इसमें इतना हल्ला किस लिए मचाया जा रहा है? क्या महाराष्ट्र सरकार का ये अधिकार नहीं है?
रिव्यू की बात नहीं है, उन्होंने बोला है, उन्होंने कोर्ट को पूछा है, कोर्ट कौन होता है? फैसला लेने वाला हमारे काम में, ये बोला है।
एग्जैक्टली, यस।
अब ये एटीट्यूड किसका है? वो जो संविधान की रक्षा करना चाहते हैं।
आप किसने किस तरीके से इस बात को, ये आपको दिखाना चाहिए कि किसने किस तरीके से बोला। आप कह रहे हैं इस बात को, दिखाइए उसको, क्योंकि कहने का भी एक सेंस होता है हर एक बात को। भी नेता ने इस बात को कहा है, वो दिखाइए भी तो सही आप।
हाँ, नहीं, संजू वर्मा जी जवाब देंगे आपको। संजू वर्मा जी बताइए।
जी, आनंद, सभी व्यक्ति की आजादी, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच, फ्रीडम ऑफ एक्सप्रेशन अंडर आर्टिकल 19, राइट टू इक्वालिटी अंडर आर्टिकल 14, ये सब कुछ हम मानते हैं। ये हर किसी का हक है, हर भारतीय नागरिक का।
मतलब आप 12 सांसदों को सस्पेंड कर दें, वो सही है? आपके पास सीसीटीवी फुटेज भी नहीं है किसी की कि 12 सांसदों को आपने जिस तरह से सस्पेंड किया है, आपने जिस तरह से किया, उनमें कुछ सांसद तो ऐसे थे जिनके ऊपर मार्शल ने हाथ उठाए थे, वो आप उसको सही ठहराते हैं?
अरे कैमरा में वही सांसद मार्शल को धक्का दे रहे हैं और आप कह रहे हैं मार्शल ने हाथ उठाए थे। जो सीसीटीवी, जो कैमरा में कैद है, उसको आप देखने से अनदेखा कर रहे हैं। संजू वर्मा, यस, संजू वर्मा रिस्पॉन्ड टू। मतलब नहीं, संजय गुप्ता इज लाइक आई सेड, ही इज ट्राइंग टू ड्रॉप बैक।
आप उसको
संजू वर्मा आपने पूछ लिया, उनको जवाब देने दीजिए।
यस, प्लीज, अभी मैंने आपको टोका नहीं, प्लीज मुझे अपनी बात कहने दीजिए। आनंद, adding to what Swapnil Kothari said, if you read the entire judgment, because we Shiv Sena, the Mahavasuli Agadi and its constituents have been harping about Article 212.
महावसूली अघाड़ी आप बार-बार कहते हैं, सिर्फ एक आरोप था अनिल देशमुख जी के खिलाफ, और एक भी सबूत नहीं मिला उसके खिलाफ आपको। 2 करोड़ रुपए नहीं मिले उसके अंदर आपको, और आपने सिर्फ
नहीं, संजू वर्मा प्लीज सी, संजू वर्मा प्लीज सी, दिस इज देयर अभिव्यक्ति की आजादी।
सिर्फ ये था,
they do not want to be interrupted and they will not let others speak. That's their rule. That's their rule. They do not want to be interrupted and they will not let others speak.
ये बात आप
संजू, अच्छा रुक जाइए संजय जी रुक जाइए, संजू वर्मा को अपनी बात खत्म करने दीजिए जी।
Anand, this is not done. I'm making it important.
Yeah, complete, Sanju Verma, complete.
The Mahavasuli Aghadi has been citing Article 212, under which it is very clearly made in the Constitution.
वसूली का तो पैसा भी तो दिखाइए आप, सिर्फ बोलते रहेंगे आप।
Independence of the legislature by the judiciary. But like I said, the Supreme Court has given the judgment. Anand cited Article 190, Article 190, Section 4. They said that if for a period of 60 days, basically 2 months, without the permission of the House, a member of the House does not attend the proceedings or is suspended, his seat becomes vacant, and then there has to be a re-election under under Section 151 of the People's Representation Act.
नहीं, आनंद जी, मुझे भी थोड़ा सा मौका दीजिएगा। अनइंटरप्टेड जैसे आप इन्हें दे रहे हैं आप, ये पार्शियलिटी आप जो करते हैं ये ठीक नहीं है।
देखिए, आप जितना उनको टोकेंगे उतना मैं इनको बोलने दूंगा, जितना आप उनको टोकेंगे उतना मैं आपको बोलने दूंगा, उनको बोलने दूंगा। मैं आपको टोक रहा हूं, मुझे टोकिए, उन्होंने आपको नहीं टोका, इतना ही है। देखिए, मैं वही कह रहा हूं ना, टू ऑल आवर व्यूअर्स, दिस इज ऑन डिस्प्ले, दोज हु स्टैंड अराउंड, एंड दिस इज द क्लासिक गोबल्स formula of propaganda. Accuse the other person of doing what you are guilty of. So that's exactly that's happened. My apologies. I have to. We have. Okay, 10 seconds, ma'am. I'm running over on the show. Please complete. Yeah.
2 मिनट आपने इनको दे दिया, अभी इनकी बात खत्म नहीं
हुई। Please do not compare the suspension of these 12 MPs of Maharashtra with the 12 MPs who were suspended as you were invited them.
Right.
Yorker come and discuss with us. Here, Devendra Fadnavis even apologized unconditionally.
Yeah.
But did any of these 12 MPs apologize? No.
No, that's exactly the point that we've made repeatedly. I agree. Both we've said that again and again. The fact is, unconditional apology was tendered, and here the 12 MPs have so far said we will not, because this is our right to go ahead and disrupt, express dissent, and even rough up the marshals. Anyway, thank you very much. I thank all our panelists, Atul ji, Sanju ji, Sanjay ji, and Swapnil ji. Thank you very much. We're going to take a very, very short break. We turn the spotlight towards Tamil Nadu and also a development, a response on Akhilesh's charge. Stay with us.
was a government airline. So it is not the ownership per se which is at fault, but the leadership, the kind of leadership you provide.
Okay.
Post 78, you cited a number of instances of government interference, wrong decisions being taken, etc., but no corrective action was being taken. Now, the second point is leadership plays a key role in service industry. The morale of the employees has to be kept high. Now, you cannot have decisions being taken which are not in favor of the airline, and everybody, employees, are witnessing it. You have seen in recent days unions coming up with one thing, others or the other saying, we will not be cooperating because unless this is done, that is done, etc. Now, why was this being done? Simply because airline was government owned. They were tolerating these kind of tantrums.
Okay.
But once you move into the Tatas, I would love to see any union protesting.
But the government has put a clause to the Tatas that for 1 year you cannot fire anyone.
No, let's put it this way. 1 year is not a bad thing. I look at it from a positive sense. Since employees know that they can be terminated after a period of 1 year, they are going to be giving their best in terms of service. Then you very rightly said, because of government ownership, the work practices were of the monopoly era. Nobody could change those work practices because of the resistance from the unions. Now, Air India comes under the Tatas. You have no choice but to re-engineer the work practices, number one, for the management.
Okay.
For the employees, they have no option but to accept the improved work practices.
I have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Will go up,
okay.
The efficiency will go up.
Okay. So, I have 1 minute, 30 seconds, Jitendra Bhargav, and I want to ask you this. As far as the Tatas are concerned, they already run Vistara and AirAsia, which again isn't making any sort of profit. Now they have a third airline in their stable. Do you possibly see in the coming future, not immediately maybe, but in the coming future, a merger of Air India with Vistara? Because what would any conglomerate do with 3 airlines?
You see,
and all 3 loss-making airlines?
No, let's put it this way. India is a price-sensitive market. Let's not forget this. Kingfisher, Jet Airways were good airlines, but losing money and collapsed.
Yeah.
So it is not a question of providing a good quality product only and ensuring survival. There is money, there is kind of profitability that you have to be assured. So Tatas will ensure, and I'm sure they would have done this exercise before they carried out the due diligence and bid for Air India, that Vistara and Air India can't be competing, say, on a sector like London, on which both the airlines are currently flying. Now, they will have no choice but over a period of time merge, because that is where the collective market share will grow up.
Correct.
AirAsia, Air India at the moment, when you look at these market share and AirAsia and Vistara, when you look at the market share in domestic sector, for example, if you combine them together, it's 28%. Now, what happens is when you merge the 3 airlines, the costs go down and you reap the benefit of scale of operations.
Okay, so ultimately the merger will have to come.
I'm not saying in the first issue you make profitability. The first challenge is to lower the quantum of losses that the airlines are suffering. And when the market improves, the post-COVID effect, the COVID effect disappears, etc. And market and Tatas add to the existing capacity.
Welcome back. And even as Akhilesh Yadav and the Samajwadi Party are trying to move the EC demanding action against his delayed chopper ride in the national capital, here's a CNN News 18 exclusive courtesy Investigations editor Manoj Gupta, where government sources are very clearly telling CNN News 18 that Akhilesh Yadav's chopper delay was procedural. Top government sources are telling CNN News 18 there was no deliberate permission delay to Akhilesh Yadav's chopper. The delay was procedural due to heavy traffic at the airport. They actually say that Akhilesh Yadav's chopper was first delayed from its scheduled departure because it had inadequate fuel levels, which was below the permissible levels. And then what happened is there was, by the time it completed refueling, it had to go back and it had to be part of a queue, and permission was given in a particular order. Airport flight system is under the ATC and manual interference is difficult unless there are extraordinary circumstances that force such a measure. They are also saying that after refueling, it was given permission and it flew to the destination. So there were 2 aspects. There was high air traffic. The other aspect is the helicopter in which Akhilesh Yadav landed in Delhi, it was below. It had fuel less than the non-permissible limits. So it was under the non-permissible limits, and that's the reason why it was asked to refuel. It had to refuel and then wait in queue, wait for its turn to fly out. So that's the response that's coming from the government, that it was not deliberate as it's being alleged by the Samajwadi party, even as they've moved the election commission and demanded action, asked them to have a look at this. So crying wolf, crying foul is not going to help is what the government is saying. The BJP earlier also turned around and said that making all these excuses is unnecessary, unwarranted. And some even turned around and said you could have made that journey in about an hour and a half had you just decided to go by road. You needn't have waited at the airport. But we'll see whether the EC demands the air traffic logs and looks into the entire aspect. We'll move on quickly here on the right stand and set up debate number 2 as we turn the spotlight towards the hearing on the case of a suicide of a minor and the allegation of inducement or somewhere influencing the child to convert.
Unfortunately, they are hiding the truth.
When you are going to visit?
I will be reaching there on 30th evening.
Well, the more than hour and a half long hearing, the judge has heard all sides. The prosecution, the petitioner, and also an intervention made by the school. They've said, I've heard everybody. The order now stands reserved. We'll have to see what the judge at the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court rules. But more importantly, what stood out today were certain allegations, accusations that were directed with the intention of not only deflecting the aspect that the incident of consumption of pesticide or the fact that the child took ill happened at the hostel, which is part of the school premises, and there was an attempt to try and discredit the parents and somewhere question the video testimony and declaration of the child herself. Let's try and look at what happened in court. The battle in court, where the school's version is that we don't discriminate, we are secular. The family's version, we have lost faith in the investigation into conversion altogether. Then the school's version says we have protected the girl during COVID and for the last 5 years, whereas the family is saying injustice and cruelty that's been done to the school girl with an effort to try and convert her. The same 2-year logic has also been used, but somewhere some allegations have been made by the school which are very, very startling. Conversion bogey to let the family off the hook is what the school has alleged, directly pinning the blame on the family and even playing up the stepmother angle, saying that the girl had a problem with the stepmother. We've been tracking this story for at least 10 days now, ladies and gentlemen. Nowhere has any version come where it actually or anybody is blaming the family herself. The girl herself in multiple videos which have come to the fore. The question of conversion may be challenged, but the fact that she was harassed, tortured in the school, in the hostel itself, and she blames the hostel warden and the sister, not even the principal. She says not the principal, but these people, very clearly, that stands out. The cops have also never looked at the parents like that, but the attempt to try and openly discredit the parents stood out today. Bid to discredit dying declaration and defame family is once again what the family is trying to say. The school's version is the girl was harassed by the family, the stepmother. The family's version very clearly here turns around and says, why was confidential information leaked? Because the new video that surfaced has come after the evidence, the phone sets, everything was submitted at the instruction of the court to the IO. So why was that done? How is a dying declaration and statement registered under CRPC out in public domain? It should not have been, has been raised by the petitioner. Transfer the case to the CBI for a fair probe, says the family. The school's version is wrong to view every nun and priest with suspicion. Nobody is viewing every nun and priest with suspicion. But with the arguments that have been made today, does that put the entire argument of the school under cloud? Would you then want to turn around and say, what was the real intent? Conversion clash, cover-up job, blocking justice is the question that we ask. Let's dive straight into the debate and ask our panelists what they think. SG Surya of Tamil Nadu BJP with us. A. Sarvanan, spokesperson of the DMK with us. Ramasamy Mayappan, advocate practicing the Madras High Court, is with us. Dr. Saranya Jayakumar, member of the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, is with us. And Kasturi Shankar, actor and activist, with us. My namaste to all of you. Let me first start with Ramasamy Mayappan. How would you look at the arguments that have been made today? Every side made its representation. Prosecution petitioners were making the arguments. But did the school's arguments surprise you? Ram, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So school, rather than just protect itself, appear to have not just been defending the institution, but also going after the parents of the petitioner and was defending the state. And I think the school at the same time played a double whammy on itself. It claimed that the police was harassing it, but wanted the investigation be kept to the same officer and not necessarily be transferred. It was hypocritical to hear, and it's confusing at the same time. But leaving that aside, I think one thing that is very clear is today's argument. The court had to just rest yesterday. It's a spontaneous statement made by the girl just before she passed away. Doesn't matter what number of videos, what was said in the different videos. At no point, like you clearly said, was there any accusation on the parents, the stepmother or the father. And everything that comes out, maybe there is a question on harassment, there is a question on conversion, there are other angles. All that today we need to see is for free and fair justice to be done. We need to ensure that every possible angle is investigated uninterrupted by any outside body, including the state.
Dr. Saranya Jayakumar?
Yes, sir.
Where do you stand?
Sir, as the member of the State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, because the investigation is still pending, I may not be able to comment on where exactly the case is standing now and which side
your position. What do you make of this
going to
situation?
take.
Is it fair
Sorry?
or unfair? Is it fair or unfair to try and raise questions on what a child is saying? The child at all points said that she was harassed at the hostel. So for the school to come around and say that this child is being harassed by the stepmother, is that fair? Parents have given their statement on under 164 CRPC. Is it easy enough? Let's set aside the entire aspect of conversion to the one side. Let's not even get into that aspect. A child has been asked to do work beyond what she's supposed to do in school. She's been asked to do chores, do accounts, and it's been happening for a while. She's claimed trauma because of that. Is that not grievous enough with a minor?
So definitely physical or mental punishment through humiliating methods or degrading the child is definitely neither a humane act nor does it find any support in law. So according to me, we always believe to spare the rod and save the child. Corporal punishments is definitely punishable by law under Section 82 of the JJ Act. So no child can be degraded like that, cornered like that, pinpointed to do some extra work in school. That is definitely wrong. If it is proven in court that that has happened, definitely it is punishable.
So,
but it is.
But this is something which
to
that child has said consistently across all the videos. You may choose. You may pick and choose one video over the other. This is something she has constantly said.
I'm sure all of this was produced is produced in the court.
It's there in court. But the school's effort is actually to try and discredit what the child has said in terms of harassment and torture, and to deflect it over the family.
Isn't it very obvious because the school is being accused? So from their side, they will only try to defend.
But where is the crackdown?
So this is, I think, their way of.
But where is the crackdown? 9th of January, the incident has happened. How is it that the school handed over the child to the family on the 10th of January without even getting that child medical attention, without informing the school, the hospital? 10th of January, a sickly child is given for 5 days. The child is roaming around all over the place because nobody knows what's happened to her. Where is the school? If the school has taken care of her for the last 5 years as it claimed today, then it should have immediately given it medical attention. So where is the action against the school and the authorities by the state government?
This is what is supposed to be part of strong investigation. So it all depends on the investigation side now and how the prosecution is going to.
But how many letters have you dashed off? May I ask you respectfully, how many letters as member of the State Commission for Protection for Child Rights, how many letters have you dashed off to the Tanjavur SP and to the investigating officer saying what is it that you're doing?
It's
18 days now.
Yes, sir, we have sent letters to the District Child Protection Unit, to the SP of Police asking for reports. we have sent a couple of letters. It's not that the commission is just looking at it and not doing anything. We are definitely doing our part.
I hope, because there doesn't seem to be the alacrity that should have been shown, because at various levels there is a violation which has happened with a 17-year-old at various levels.
Yes.
So the argument on conversion is another aspect. It's one dynamism, but that doesn't take away that a child has been put through trauma. Out of the 4 years that, and the child has said that it is there for the last 2 years, ever since this entire aspect of harassment has come to the fore. Yes. And the claims and counterclaims. Kasturi Shankar, where do you stand on the way this matter has been handled? Has it been done?
Yes. First of all, let me laud you, Anand, for asking all the right questions. I have been on many debates discussing Lavanya's plight and her family's plight, and actually the plight of anybody who actually dares voice out and question the atrocious treatment meted out to a child in a school where parents send a child to a school in order to get a good education and a good future, and to snuff out the life of a child in that very school due to abuse is very heartbreaking. And I'm glad that you're asking all the right questions. People will say matter is sub judice, but as someone qualified in law myself, I know that I can comment on the school's initial reaction. In fact, the school did not even, the school, Sacred Heart School in Michaelpatti, also known as Tirukatupalli, name has been changed to Michaelpatti. So it's a majority Christian town. The school has not...
It's been there for 300 years, and at that time, all people, most of the people who came there to study... since 1730 is what they have claimed in court today.
No, that is the Franciscan missionaries of the Sacred Heart of Mary.
Missionary, and 150 years, and they said that when they came here, all the people from all castes and most of the children were non-Christian who came to study there. And today you are saying the name of that area itself has been changed to Michaelpatti, but there is no conversion that's happening. Yes, Kasturi Shankar, please continue.
Okay. The school till date has not issued a statement or spoken out. Nobody from the school has said anything, absolutely not. However, the Franciscan missionaries of the Sacred Heart of Mary, the Mother Superior of the institution from Pondicherry, has issued a blanket umbrella statement a few days ago. And even in that statement, they express regret that the life has been lost, but not one word about what action they are going to be taking on clearly the people named. There are 2 people that the child named in her dying testimony. Nothing. Zero action. There is really not even a word about we will take corrective steps to make sure that our staff will not impose their personal religious beliefs, will not treat people inhumanly. Nothing. There was no such thing. There was a blanket denial of any wrongdoing from the school's part and the staff's part. So you need to know that. And that is the kind of approach they have also continued to take in court today. What I find very, very regrettable, Anand, is that the court proceedings have not been reported in the media neutrally. They have not reported the petitioner's case. They have not reported the council's argument at all. They keep reporting only certain selected portions of the school's council. And I would like to add here that the school's advocate, Mr. Alrul Raj, actually says he's even against the prosecution. He's not even happy with the prosecuting counsel because he feels everybody is adverse to their cause. So it is that how do I say, it's that restrictive, their argument, and only that is being reported. Let's not forget that the petitioner's biggest cause for the case, the biggest cause for argument, is that the police first did not take action, did not show any alacrity in taking action. It had to become a public issue before the police came out and gave an interview saying there is no religious angle to it. Then the minister gave an interview. Today, a BJP functionary, top BJP functionary, has been arrested for giving his opinion on social media under the same acts, sections of law where he's trying to ruffle up religious tension. So this has become a highly polarized issue where the government is really bending over backwards to say Nothing except her personal problems. Yes, she had vitiligo. She had vitiligo on her hands. She was ostracized for that in school. People are. I have Christian brothers in Tanjavur who are extremely troubled by how this case is taking its direction. They want to support their Catholic brethren, but they're not able to say anything. All the information I've got is from them, and it's very, very unfortunate that only one side of it is even being permitted to be shared in Tamil Nadu. I wish the truth would come out.
No, how can you say that, Kasturi Shankar? This is under the DMK. Rule of law prevails. Everybody has the freedom to express themselves. But you can make any car as long as it is black. So you can express as long as it is. Is that the case, Saravanan? Is that the case? Is that the case, Saravanan? I certainly hope it's not, and especially not with a family which is a life member or a life patron of the DMK. Imagine BJP and Hindu Munani is standing up for the cause of a life patron of a DMK member.
Anand, what the BJP has done is shameful. A despicable act. The chief of BJP in TN posts an edited video and does not divulge what videos he received. Did he receive the edited video, or did he receive the entire video? Who edited the video? He edited the video. Why did he release only one portion of the video? Why not the entire portion of the video? And why did he reveal the name? And everybody is freely speaking about the name of the victim. And why he did not mask the face when he released it on social media? So these are the questions we ask from a responsible leader, but there are no answers. So we know what's going on. Their only idea is to break up communal tension, and they have failed miserably. Today.
Mr. Saravanan, may I respectfully ask you one question, sir?
Yes.
The number of questions that you have asked BJP and Annamalai, have you asked even half the number of questions to the school?
An investigation is going on. The investigation will take place. It is pending before the Madras High Court. The Madras High Court, I put it on record, the Madras High Court thought it fit that the same investigating agency should continue investigating. There is no stay. The investigation is now also is being continued by the same investigating agency. It means, yes, just a moment. It means that the court still has faith in that investigating agency. We don't know what are the materials that is provided by the investigating agency.
Then that investigating officer should ask Annamalai. That investigating officer should ask the BJP leader who has been arrested. They should ask anybody who is putting out the media and releasing, and leave it to the investigation. Why are you asking so many questions of the BJP but not wanting to ask questions of the school and the hostel authorities and that sister after what happened to a 17-year-old girl? Because the matter is under investigation. Let me ask you, Mr. Saravanan, let me ask you, sir, are you asking the kind of questions with the intensity that you should ask about the death of a 17-year-old being harassed in a place whose name has changed? Sir,
yes.
In 100 years, Gramat Pere Martitanga, sir, and you are saying that there is no conversion going on. Okay, no, sir, that place is not called Michael Patti now. It was not called something else earlier. Now let's take away the car. Let me agree with you. Let me agree with you, Saravanan. Let me agree with you, Saravanan. There is no conversion. But a 17-year-old girl has died in the hostel, and she has claimed she was harassed. She was asked to do accounts. She was asked to do accounts outside her study. கேக்குறேன் சார், நீங்க அந்த கேள்வி ஒரு 10 கேள்வி அவகிட்ட கேட்டீங்களா சார்? இன்னைக்கு வந்து ஒரு அம்மாவா ஒரு அப்பாவா பொய்யாடின்னு சொல்லிருக்காங்க அங்க கோர்ட்ல. ஒரு அப்பாவா ஒரு அம்மாவா their statement under CRPC has been questioned by the lawyer representing the school. He has stood in open court to discredit them, sir. நீங்க கேள்வி கேட்டீங்களா? Did you ask them a question, sir? Did you ask that person a question? Sir, I am saying, don't make it political, sir. He is your party member. That person is a life patron of your party member. Where is the justice for him? Where is the justice for that father, sir? Don't get caught in the conversion angle. You may want to deny that, but there is injustice meted to a girl. She's been harassed, she's been tortured, Saravanan. She's been harassed, she's been tortured, Saravanan. Keep the issue of conversion. I'm not even questioning you there. I'm not getting that. I am saying, sir, a 17-year-old video came where she has turned around and said, I was harassed in the hostel, I was not allowed to go back for leave, and I consumed poison. I was harassed. Sir, where is the hardness in which you would come against that school, sir? Where is it?
Action has been taken, that warden has been arrested, investigation is
Sir,
going
எப்போ
on.
arrest பண்ணீங்க sir? எவ்வளோ நாள் கழிச்சு arrest பண்ணீங்க? இந்த
I am
கேள்வி
saying
கேட்டீங்களா?
she is arrested.
Why 9 o'clock?
Investigation
9
is going
on the
on.
9th. Surya, SG Surya has not spoken. I've got only 1 minute left. Let me just ask. SG Surya, would you not have turned around and asked that school authorities, and the குழந்தைக்கு உடம்பு சரியில்லை, she's not well, why have you handed her back to the parents without telling what has happened, without trying to find out? If you are standing in court today and claiming that you took care of the child for 5 years, why did you let the child go when the child was ill?
Yes, Anand, let me make 3 more points related to the investigation, because we have already discussed enough of the facts. The petitioner, who is the girl's family, is telling the court, you please transfer the case to the CBI for fair investigation. Why are they requesting this? They are making 2 grounds. They are making, now they are requested for CBI inquiry in today's hearing. So they are making 2 grounds. One is the dying declaration, which is 4-part video that is claimed. It was only in the possession of Muthuvel and also the police. Now it has been leaked to the media. Who has leaked the video? It is only from the police side. That is what the girl's family is arguing. Secondly,
It's Mr. Annamalai who
that is one part. That is one part of the video. Yes.
Answer that question.
No, why? The same aggression you are showing against a political opponent, show that aggression in trying to get justice for a 17-year-old. Saravanan, my humble request is only that. You can do all your politics with the BJP or any other political party, sir.
Let me complete, please.
Yes, Surya.
Please let me complete. I have got only 2 minutes. See, one part of the video was already released, but other 3 parts, which was only in the possession of Muthuvel, now is everywhere in the media. Who has released it? The family claims the police has released it. The second point the petitioner is holding upon, the education minister of the state says the video should not have been recorded from the girl. So this is not fair to the investigation that is happening. And the third point, very important, the National Commission for Child Protection Rights is telling that the state government is not giving any responses in spite of asking for the action taken report. So that now NCPCR chairman has to himself come to the ground and inquire about this case. Why is the state government not cooperating with the statutory body called NCPCR in spite of telling NCPCR has given out an official statement?
You know what has been said in court? The Ram Mayapan.
Stop lying.
Well, no, yeah, Ram Mayapan, 30 seconds. I've got to wind up. Yeah.
Yes. See, everyone's talking about the other videos. The dying declaration that was recorded before the magistrate should be only in the custody of the law enforcement and the court.
Exactly.
And that is now out in public. How is that out in public? The question that the parents are raising is that there is a bias in the institution that is investigating the matter. So if that video is leaked and the immediate comment without investigation is that there is no conversion angle, there is an obvious question of bias that's in the mind of the parents. And that's the reason they're asking for a change of investigation.
No, and not just that. How is it a free and fair investigation? Why is it there is a concerted campaign that is on to try and discredit the family and what they are claiming? All of these questions will remain. We'll see what the order comes from the Madurai bench of the Madras High Court. I thank all our panelists. I have to wind up. Stand with Lavanya, justice for Lavanya. These are all aspects which are being talked about. What we are saying is, let the truth prevail. Thank you for watching.
A merger of Air India with Vistara, because what would any conglomerate do with 3 airlines?
You see,
and all 3 loss-making airlines.
No, let's put this way. India is a price-sensitive market. Let's not forget this. Kingfisher, Jet Airways were good airlines, but losing money and collapsed.
Yeah.
So it is not a question of providing a good quality product only and ensuring survival. There is money, there is kind of profitability that should to be assured. So Tata's will ensure, and I'm sure they would have done this exercise before they carried out the due diligence and bid for Air India, that Vistara and Air India can't be competing, say, on a sector like London, on which both the airlines are currently flying. Now, they will have no choice but over a period of time merge, because that is where the collective market share will grow up.
Correct.
Air Asia, Air India at the moment, when you look at these market share and Air Asia and Vistara, when you look at the market share in domestic sector, for example, if you combine them together, it's 28%. Now, what happens is when you merge the three airlines, the costs go down and you reap the benefit of scale of operations.
Okay, so ultimately the merger will have to come.
I'm not saying in the first issue you make profitability. The first challenge is to lower the quantum of losses that the airlines are suffering. And when the market improves, the post-COVID effect, the COVID effect disappears, etc. And market and Tatas add to the existing capacity. I would hate to see that if you're operating 500 flights a week today, to remain at the same level even 1 year later, Tatas will have to grow and grow in such a manner so that the pilots, engineers that you have beyond your the surplus kind of a thing are made optimal use of. So it is not something that pilots you can hire just next day. Pilots are a key commodity as far as the airline industries are concerned. You don't get them, they are trained pilots.
Okay, we leave it there. Thank you very much.
Look at all these negatives that you're talking about in a positive sense. Once starters have this cushion of expanding the network by at least 20% without adding a single pilot or aircraft maintenance engineers, the kind of benefit it accrues to Tata.
Chaliye, so it will be a turnaround journey to watch out for.
International network.
Jitendra Bhargav, it will be a turnaround journey to watch out for, I guess, then. We leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. Completely out of time. A simple way to look at Air India's history is this. The government took Air India from JRD Tata, asked him to run it, took it away again, and then finally sold back the airline to the Tatas. JRD Tata's commitment to the airline was legendary. He was known to have rolled up his sleeves on at least one occasion to help the staff clean up a dirty airplane bathroom. As Air India goes back to the house of Tatas, here's a look at their history together. Now, one estimate is saying that the Tatas will need to invest at least $1 billion to upgrade Air India. That's a lot of money. The airline, meanwhile, in a tweet has called the deal a brand new chapter in its history. Joining me, someone who knows Air India well, Jitendra Bhargav is a former executive director of Air India. Sir, thank you very much for your time. You know, Air India has gone to the right people. The Tatas are emotionally connected to the brand and they have deep pockets to upgrade it. But the journey for them is going to be very turbulent. I want to ask you what is going to be, as someone who knows Air India inside out.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. There was high drama surrounding Akhilesh Yadav's chopper ride to Muzaffarnagar today. He claimed that his chopper had been deliberately grounded for more than 3 hours. But as soon as he tweeted this out, his chopper was given permission to take off. The BJP hit back by saying that this is an indication that Akhilesh's flight this election season will not take off. But first, the story so far.
देरी का कारण मुझे नहीं बताया गया। मैं कई घंटे हेलीकॉप्टर में बैठा रहा, रिफ्यूल कराना पड़ा, उसके बाद मैं आपके बीच में पहुंचा हूं। मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं जिसकी भी कृपा से मैं आपके पास पहुंचा हूं।
We're starting off with some breaking news on that particular news story. Now, big news coming in on the SP chief's allegations that his chopper were deliberately blocked. Top government sources have told CNN News 18 that the chopper delay was procedural. There was no deliberate permission delay given to Akhilesh's chopper. The delay was because of heavy traffic at the airport. Nonetheless, the Samajwadi party is officially now going to approach and take up this case with the Election Commission demanding action. Pranchu has more details. So top government sources indicating that there was no deliberate delay. It was only because of traffic. Is the Samajwadi party still insistent that there was some kind of conspiracy theory here?
Yes, that's right. And in fact, it seems that Samajwadi Party has decided to escalate this entire issue. And in fact, the communication that has been made to the Election Commission, the party has clearly said that, this was a deliberate move. It was a political agenda that was being unleashed. And if this trend continues, how are opposition leaders actually going to campaign in the far-flung areas of the state? And that's the reason why they have demanded the Election Commission to intervene. So it clearly seems that, the Samajwadi Party, Zaka, is not convinced by the defense of the state clarification which has come in from the government agencies. They clearly want to escalate, have a fight with the BJP on this issue, and that's the reason why they have now, made an official complaint to the Election Commission.
All right, Pranshu, we'll leave it at that. Thanks very much. Let me open this up to our guests. Big political face-off this between the BJP and the Samajwadi Party after Akhilesh Yadav alleged that his chopper was deliberately grounded for well over 2 hours, thereby delaying his joint press conference with Jain Chaudhary in Muzaffarnagar. Shehzad Poonawala, spokesperson of the BJP, joining us. Abdul Hafiz Gandhi, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, joining us. Dr. Nalin Mehta is author of the new book, The New BJP. Sharad Pradhan, senior journalist, and Ajit K. Jha, election psephologist, is joining us. Let me start with you, Mr. Abdul Hafiz Gandhi, because just now we've broken that story. I'm sure you must have heard that. Top government sources saying it was because of traffic at the Delhi airport and there was no inordinate delay to Akhilesh Yadav's chopper, leave alone any kind of conspiracy to ground his chopper.
Zaka, if there is any procedural delay, then why was another BJP leader was allowed and given permission to fly? So that's why we are saying that the delay was deliberate, and it is because he was going to hold some press conference in Muzaffarnagar and then in Meerut. The delay was deliberate, and when he tweeted about it, then he was given permission. So that is why we are saying that there was an attempt to delay his press conference, to delay his political tour.
No, but and, what has been achieved? At the end of the day, he still went to Muzaffarnagar. He still did the joint press conference with
the question is not of reaching to the destination. The question is about that when some other political leader belonging to the ruling party is allowed and given permission to fly, while the chopper of Akhilesh Yadavji was not given permission.
Shehzad Poonawala respond, there were other BJP leaders who were given permission to fly. The ATC had no problem there, but only with Akhilesh Yadav's chopper.
Thank you, Zaka, for inviting me on your show, and I hope I won't be interrupted by the opposition spokesperson. Now, let me tell you very clearly, first of all, I can't treat Mr. Akhilesh Yadav's daily conspiracy theories. Frankly, the last time I checked, he had a conspiracy theory about the vaccine being a BJP vaccine. Then he had one about the virtual rallies. Then he had one about the EVMs. He also had one about the Election Commission not functioning independently. So, ऐसे conspiracy theorist का मैं क्या जवाब दूँ? But having said so, let me tell you what we have found out from your channel, and your channel is the most credible channel. Two things have been said by Manoj Gupta, a very esteemed reporter who covers these matters. One, that his chopper did not have adequate fuel levels and it was not permissible to fly because safety is of topmost concern. Even if he is an opposition leader, we think that everybody's safety is important, particularly a leader like Akhilesh Yadav, and therefore the ATC has DGCA guidelines are very clear about this. Secondly, when there was a commercial traffic that was there and his turn came eventually, and these are things that are controlled by the ATC. No government or no government agency, in fact the DGCA itself is an independent body, they are the ones who deal with this matter, and when his turn came he was allowed to fly after there was a permissible limit of fuel in his chopper, and that's as simple as that. This leader that Mr. Abbas Hafiz Gandhi is talking about, can he name which leader was allowed to fly, and if his name was there or his flight was cleared by the ATC, he will obviously be allowed to fly. But I want Mr. Abbas Hafiz Gandhi to tell me which leader, because on the place where this entire thing happened, another Samajwadi Party leader claimed that the HM's flight took place. I have the video bite of it. It'll take too much time to play it. Now, Samajwadi Party leader claimed HM's flight was allowed to take off from there. The HM was in Rudraprayag.
Let's ask Mr. Gandhi. Mr. Gandhi, you said other BJP leaders were allowed to fly. Who are these other BJP leaders who are allowed to fly?
I think Shehzad
tell the name. Tell the name.
Prospect that he's saying that
tell the name. Zaka, tell the name.
I've
asked him, let him
I didn't interrupt you. You should listen. He said there was refueling problem. So how much time? I asked him how much time does refueling usually take? 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours? How much?
No, but who are the other BJP? You said there were other BJP leaders who are allowed to fly, whose flight was allowed to take off. Who are these BJP leaders?
it's a normal process that, you know, helicopter is used by the leaders of various political parties. So why Akhilesh Yadav is being singled out?
No, tell us the name. Zaka, I am the official spokesperson of the BJP. He is the official spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. I demand to know which other leader's flight took place on there. This is an allegation made by his party. Today it has been proven it's a lie. It's a blank.
No, Mr. Gandhi, I'm asking you for the third time.
Please ask him who was the BJP
leader.
You started off by saying that other BJP leaders' flights were allowed to go. I'm asking you who is it?
No. It's a normal process. And when other BJP leaders are being allowed, why?
WHO who?
Is made.
WHO who? Who was allowed to fly? Please tell us.
This is a normal process.
Mr.
I don't want the debate to just end up on this one issue. I want to move further. I want to move further. I want to bring in our other guests as well. Let me get Nalan Mehta. Let me get in. 1 second, please, gentlemen. I'm moving away from the political spokespersons. Nalan Mehta, has this become a euphemism? Has this whole, conspiracy theory, my flight was not allowed to take off, has this whole thing become a euphemism for just how hard fought this whole Western UP first phase, second phase is going to be, both for the BJP and for the Samajwadi Party? Because both parties are banking on different set of factors. The BJP is hoping the same set of factors that were relevant in 19, 17 and 14 will also still play out, that the fault line between Jats and Muslims will still continue to play out. And the Samajwadi Party and the RLD are hoping that the farmers' protest over the last year, 13 months or so, would have papered over those fault lines.
No, absolutely, Zaka. And I think what we are seeing is this is a reflection, like you said, of a deeply contested election fight. Akhilesh Yadav, I think, has found himself as a campaigner in this election in ways that we haven't seen before. In 2012, when he ran the cycle yatras and so on, that was a different kind of Akhilesh Yadav, very much like Tejasvi in Bihar recently. Akhilesh Yadav's, his repartees, the kind of statements he's been making quick on the go, that was not something that a lot of people thought we would see this face of Akhilesh Yadav in this election. So that's one side. His campaign and the narrative of that is very different from which is entirely focused, because what they're trying to do is to make sure that the narrative of polarization, the narrative that drove the BJP's great advances between 2014 to 2019, that doesn't come back. The BJP, on the other hand, of course, is banking on reinvigorating that old narrative, but at the same time, it's also fighting a tactical game on the ground. And what you are seeing today, this tutu meme, it's one person's word against the other. There's been a statement by the AIA spokesperson as well, saying that there were issues around high traffic. Now, whether there were issues around high traffic, Akhilesh Yadav's allegation that a BJP leader was allowed to take off earlier or not, we don't know the facts. There will be the facts will come out. But the fact of the matter is that in the public perception, I think what Akhilesh Yadav is trying to say is that the BJP is using Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed, all of that, and he's trying to position himself as the victim of state power, if you like. Okay. Now whether that works or not, we will see.
We'll see.
This really is a reflection of the fight.
The EC has been moved. The EC presumably will ask the DGCA and the other airline authorities to try and probe and find out if there's any merit in these allegations. Now, while we've been talking about Jats and Muslims, let's not forget there's also another equally important factor, and something that's been alluded to by Yogi Adityanath today in Meerut, as well as, of course, Mr. Rajnath Singh when he was campaigning yesterday in Ghaziabad. This whole Ganna versus Jinnah narrative that's been set by the BJP. But look at the sugarcane belt, and I want to just draw the attention of our viewers. Let's bring in the sugarcane belt. It's about 40-odd seats, again in the western part of Uttar Pradesh, but a different sort of western part. This is the deep northwest. So you've got places like Saharanpur, Shamli, Muzaffarnagar, yes, and then Meerut and Moradabad, all the way down to Rampur. Now, this is the 2017 election, and take a look at this. Out of the 42 seats there, the BJP won 27 and a significant vote share, 36% vote share, which means more than a third of the votes in this particular belt, this sugarcane belt, was won by the BJP. The Samajwadi Party only 24%, and then the others, which is 8%. So if you add RLD and Samajwadi Party, it still does not add up to 36%. It rounds off around 32%. So the BJP winning big in that belt in 2017. Now, here's the interesting thing. You go back to 2019, in the Lok Sabha election, which the BJP swept entirely swept. It got 63 out of the 80 seats. Interestingly, in this belt, this sugarcane belt, it's not the BJP that won the maximum number of seats. It is actually the BSP. If you were to divide this into assembly segments, the BSP would have won in 17 assembly segments with a 21% vote share. The BJP, though it had more than twice that vote share, it had 43% vote share, it only ended up with 11 assembly segments, and the Samajwadi Party ended up with 11 assembly segments. Now, here's the interesting thing. Subsequent to the 2019 elections, there's been a huge amount of the arrears that have been paid off. The Yogi Adityanath government says 1.5 lakh crore of sugarcane dues have been paid over the last 4.5 years that it's been in power. They say this is 3 times more than what Mayawati gave when she was chief minister and more than twice of what Akhilesh Yadav gave when he was chief minister. And yet, the Ganna Kisan of this particular belt are still upset because I think to the tune of about 4,500 crores of sugarcane dues are still to be paid. So I want to ask, in this whole narrative of Ganna versus Jinnah, I want to ask both Sharad Pradhan as well as Mr. Ajit Jha. Let me ask Ajit Jha, while we talk about Jat Muslim as the overriding fault line in Western Uttar Pradesh, this whole new divide that's been brought in between Jinnah and Ganna, how do you think this fault line is going to affect the chances of both SPRLD and BJP?
You know, what I feel is that the entire sugarcane issue has been also raked up by the farmers issue, right? In a way, they are connected. And largely, the farmers in this belt, the sugarcane farmers, are largely from the Jat community. Of course, you have other communities as well, but both the phases, the first phase and the second phase that is going to the polls, if you look at that entire stretch, the largest, one of the largest section are actually the Jats. Almost 17% of this entire area are Jat farmers, and quite a large section of that was kind of involved in this farmers' agitation. Now, that's the X factor, because after all, as you rightly pointed out, a large section of the Jats had voted in 2019, 2014, as well as in 2017 for the BJP.
Yeah.
Now, what one has to figure out is what section of the Jats who are sugarcane farmers who are disenchanted because of the fact that the sugarcane dues were paid rather late or not paid at all, and who are also angry with the BJP, you know, for the 3 laws. How angry are they, and how their alliance with the Muslims in this case? Again, if you look at these two, the first phase and the second phase, it's about the entire electorate. Almost about 27% are just Muslim votes. 25% are Dalit votes. So Yadavs actually constitute a rather small section here, about 7%. But if you, obviously, the entire Jat vote is not going to transfer to RLD or to the SP.
Correct.
But obviously, there's going to be a big chunk of it. I mean, one of the surveys that I saw still shows, higher number of Jats with the BJP, but the difference is very marginal. So
it's still possible because, you know, if you were to, I mean, we showed this yesterday on yesterday's show as well, that 91% of Jats had voted with the BJP in 2019. Of course, a lot has changed between 2019 and 2021. 2022. I want to come back to Shehzad Poonawalla and ask him about this. This Jinnah versus Ganna divide has been made by BJP leaders, including Yogi Adityanath, in numerous occasions. The question, though, is when people like Suresh Rana, who is the sugarcane's minister in Yogi's cabinet, were shown black flags, not allowed to enter his parts of his constituency, isn't this an issue that you worry about?
Zaka, in fact, it was not us who raked up Jinnah. It was Mr. Akhilesh Yadav and his ally Rajbhar who went on praising Jinnah. In fact, we are the anuyayis of Chaudhry Charan Singh ji, Raja Ram Jat ji, and of Raja Mahendra Pratap Singh ji. We have established a university in their name. We have built the Jewar, we are building the Jewar airport. We have built the Delhi Meerut expressway. We have given 1,51,000 crore Ganna Bhugtan. We have done record production of sugar. We have kept the sugar mills on, which they shut down 31 sugar mills. In fact, sugar mills started even in the Corona period, and they procured the ganna, and we gave maximum sugar production. We procured maximum dhan and wheat in these 4 years that they have done in 10 years. But you look at 2 points. One point is that it's not the only issue of ganna. It is also issue of कानून का व्यवस्था. कानून व्यवस्था. There was a time at 5 बजे ताला लगा देते थे लोग because of the डर in Kairana and all these areas, Mukim Kala and all these Muhammad Furqan type people. And today, after seeing the Pratyashi list of Samajwadi Party, people are saying it is not Pratyashi list, it is India's most wanted list. So if Akhilesh Yadav, instead of giving Annadata tickets, he has given Gannadata tickets, he has given those who are actually having pistol and not potli in their pockets, what can we do about it? If he rakes up Jinnah and we remind him that this is not land of Jinnah, this is the land of Raja Mahendra Pratap Singh, what is our fault in it? And final point, you have seen how Mr. Gandhi has obfuscated and filibustered on the first question. He could not name the names of the BJP leaders who took off. This is their standard operating procedure of lying.
No,
अरे आपकी राजनीतिक उड़ान जनता ने रोकी है, हमें दोष मत दो.
Abdul Hafiz Gandhi, the point is, and the numbers bear the reality on the ground. The Yogi Adityanath government says 1.5 lakh crores is what they've given the Ganna Kisan. When Akhilesh Yadav was in power, it was only 90,000 crores. This is more than twice, or almost twice, the amount that's been given to the Ganna Kisan.
Zaka, BJP in 2017 promised in their Sankalp Path that they will pay the dues in 14 days. And later on, they, stopped publishing the details, how much amount they are, paying to the farmers on the website. And the second point is that for the last 3 years, they didn't raise the price of, sugarcane. And when elections approached, and when there was a, just few days before the Model Code of Conduct, coming into force, they announced, 25 rupees increase in ganna prices. Our government, increased 95 rupees, and the previous government also increased more than 125 rupees.
No, but Mr. Gandhi, the overall procurement has been twice of what you have done in 5 years.
No. We procured, and you must, you may.
You
recall
had shut down 31 mills.
You please,
Mr. Gandhi,
please don't.
shut down the mills.
Shehzad, 1 second, please. He didn't interrupt you. Shehzad, 1 second.
This is not the way how we debate.
Mr. Gandhi,
I listen to you. patiently. You should have patience. Now we may recall the statement of Yogi Adityanath when he said that गन्ना ज़्यादा उगाने से diabetes होता है. आप गन्ना क्यों उगाते हैं? Now this is the attitude of the government. And I want to ask the BJP spokesperson that in 2014, BJP promised that they will give OBC reservation to Jat community, and in the last 7.5 years, they have not been able to, fulfill their promise.
No. One second. There are two parts to it. One second, sir. No. Let's not cloud the facts. No. One, this whole issue of reservation. No, sir. The whole issue of reservation went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is apprised of the matter. I don't think. No, a similar thing was attempted in Haryana. Why did it not happen? A similar move was attempted in Haryana. Why did it not happen? Because this matter is in the ball of the Supreme Court. But be that as it may, I want to ask Nalin Mehta. No, 1 second. Nalin Mehta. A simple question that's being asked is, we heard Jat disaffection, as it were, even in 17 elections, even in the 19 elections, and yet, as the CSDS post-poll survey showed, 90% of Jats voted with the BJP. Has the farmer protest changed that equation in so substantially a fashion that a large number of the Jats will desert the BJP? I don't know. I don't know what the evidence on the ground is. None.
Ganna versus Jinnah, this is a glib notion, as if people decide on only one issue or not. It can be Jinnah or Ganna dono, because fundamentally, as you showed CSDS data last night, which showed that about 90% of Jats in the CSDS survey had voted one way. Now, even if half of those remain with the BJP, then Akhilesh Yadav will find it difficult. Now, are a significant number of Jats unhappy? Yes. Are enough of them unhappy to really to really damage the BJP very seriously? That's a question. And the other point is that I don't think the entire communities vote as a uniform vote.
Correct.
And I don't think everybody votes only because of one issue alone. This issue of sugarcane comes up before every election, and every government is found wanting in terms of the dues that were due. Even though every government they end up paying more than the previous government. The numbers that you put out, it was 3x more than the previous government, and so on. But there's still some things left. Is that the only issue on which people will vote on? I don't think so.
Okay, I want to bring in Sharat Pradhan into the conversation. I think Nalin is 100% right. This Ganna issue comes up before every election, and no matter what the figures are, I mean, Akhilesh Yadav's government paid 90,000 crores in sugarcane dues, and yet he lost the election and lost pretty badly. The point, though, is one of the things that our reporters, whoever's gone to this Western UP belt and come back, one universal thing that people have been telling them is Kanun Vyavastha theek hua hai. Gunda Raj khatam hua hai. Now, I don't know what they mean by that, but surely this is an issue that seems to be having resonance on the ground. Sharat.
That is a claim that has been made, but been bombarded by the Yogi Adityanath government on the people through advertisements, through press releases, all kinds of things, you know, and which is not. I mean, one may concede there is no doubt that there was more Gandas, but to say that today there is Ramaraj, it's absolutely ridiculous. And what the Yogi Adityanath government is trying to do is to put a camouflage on the reality by, you know, by adopting these tactics of bombarding people with lies.
No, but can I ask you something?
Let me tell you what I'm trying to do. Please let me complete.
Sharat, 1 second. Ultimately, people are, it's relative, right? People are going to compare. If they say, let's say, an overwhelming number of people are saying Kanun Vyavastha theek hui hai. Obviously, they are saying this in relation to the previous 5 years, right?
That's right. But what you are missing out in this discussion is that why you were talking about Jats and Muslims.
Yeah.
Mind you, Jats and Muslims were always together in this belt. And that is what whichever party they aligned with used to sweep in this area. What happened? The 2013 Muzaffarnagar riots brought the Jats and Muslims at loggerheads.
Yeah.
And that is what helped the BJP to polarize the election, polarize Hindu votes in the 3 successive elections.
Okay.
14, 17 and 19. Now the farmers movement is what has reunited the Jats and Muslims, which became a serious cause of worry for the BJP.
Okay.
And let me ask you a simple question. You know, had it not been for that, why would you think Mr. Modi would roll back somebody who is not used to doing it? Who would roll back the farm laws?
Shehzad, I'll give you the final word. I got 40 seconds. I think the fact that the farmer protests happened, people like Sharat Pradhan are saying that has papered over the fault line between Jats and Muslims.
Ground reality.
The ground reality now is that Jats and Muslims are coming back together because of the anti-farmer policies of this government. Quick response.
Zaka, the Muzaffarnagar riots took place and the Supreme Court had passed an observation and judgment that compensation should not be paid to just one particular community against Akhilesh Yadav government. Azam Khan was caught on videotape directing police to take action on one community and let the other community go. That was not communal and polarizing and divisive. But if we today gave 2.5 crore farmers Kisan Samman Nidhi, we did record procurement of Gehu, Dhan and of Ganna, and this is it was of Muhammad also, it was of Muhit also, it was of Shilpa also, it was of Sultana also, but we are communal. We are communal because we point out that look, they have given the ticket to Mr. Nahid Hassan who was asking that don't buy things from Hindu shops. We are communal because we talk that Aslam Chaudhry, another person under whom there's Gangster Act, there is a case against him. Azam Khan, there was a Twitter thread of 5 tweets that was put out to actually list the cases against him and his family. If we say this, we are communal, and Mr. Sharat Pradhan, if he does Jinnah ka praise, or not him, but his favorite party, with the same acronym does Jinnah ka praise, then they are secular and we are communal. Then I am happily communal. Then I am happily communal. I will call out Mukhtar Ansari. I will call out the Mastodon.
I'm calling it time on the debate. Again, I think this is the $1 million question. We've been talking about it for the last few days now. That Western Uttar Pradesh, the fault line that we saw and the fault line which the BJP exploited very well in 14, in 17 and in 19, has that been papered over by this new reality of a farmer unity between Jats and Muslims? We don't know. We don't know the evidence on the ground. We'll get to know only on the 10th of March. For the moment, though, thank you very much for tuning in.
You know, Air India has gone to the right people. The Tatas are emotionally connected to the brand and they have deep pockets to upgrade it. But the journey for them is going to be very turbulent. I want to ask you what is going to be, as someone who knows Air India inside out, what is going to be their biggest challenge for, for the traveler, for the customer? A, the food is awful. B, flights are never on time. Is that going to be the first immediate challenge, or is it fixing other managerial and debt issues?
Let me begin with a statement that I often make, that Air India has not been as good an airline as it ought to have been, but is also not as bad an airline as it's made out to be. Take, for example, the on-time performance. The difference between the best Indian carrier and Air India is 7 percentage points. So it is not a Herculean task. And considering the fact that Air India is government-owned and it comes with its weaknesses, unproductive work practices, inefficiency, you really can't take corrective measures or re-engineer work practices, etc. So this will be an easy thing for the Tatas to attain. Both the on-time performance and working out on the seat occupancy factor, which is related to generation of revenue. You see, Air India people, because of the kind of product that they were offering to the passenger, did not have the kind of courage to go to the corporate houses seeking business. So Air India by default suffered in the last 5-10 years. On one count was poor marketing, which wasn't aggressive and it needed to be in a competitive environment. The second thing was the product was suffering because of being cash-starved. They were not reinvesting the money into the product. And it is essential in hospitality industry that you keep upgrading the product so that it's better or at par with the competition. So Air India suffered in multiple ways. And then, of course, there was the fact that we had bureaucrats helming the airline who were coming for 2 years tenure, 3 years tenure, but were not taking corrective action. And when you made the statement that 1,10,000 crores has been infused in the airline since the year 2009, the question is, were alarm bells set ringing for it, that such a huge amount is being infused? I remember our days when in the year 1997, when Air India suffered a loss of 400 crores, but at that time, the highest ever loss that Air India, we withdrew flights from several destinations, loss-making destinations. We withheld the productivity-linked incentive of employees. We reduced the retirement age from 60 to 58. Now, I would like to know, as an ex-Air Indian, can anybody cite a single measure that was taken to cut down costs? On the contrary, what we found was that in the year 2015, 16, 17, flights were being increased, contrary to global practices in airline industry, that when you are losing money, consolidate. Don't try and keep increasing your losses. So somewhere somebody went wrong and nobody questioned it.
So the leadership was a problem. You are saying
your commentary was
very
right.
Jitendra Bhargav, you're saying the leadership was a problem. I want to ask you this. Is leadership the only problem, or is worth ethics a problem as well? The fact that what the Tatas will inherit now is not just a bloated workforce, but also a workforce with not such...
Hello and welcome. In battleground Uttar Pradesh, the game of one-upmanship has begun in these parts. The Ganna land, the Jat land, once the Katta land. Jats led the farmer agitation, especially for farmers from these parts of western Uttar Pradesh, for 13 months. They have in the past forged an alliance with the Muslims of the area and ensured electoral win for the party they supported. But have both the Muslims and the Jats forgotten the 2013 communal riots in these areas? What about the Thakurs, the Sainis, the Harijans, the non-Yadavs, OBCs? Will they allow Jats and Muslims to decide who rules? Over the next 30 minutes, we try and find out the answers.
हमारा है कि दिलवासु नहीं तो घरवासु।
क्या ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਵਾਬ ਦਿਓ ਤਾਂ ਜੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਖੜੇ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਸਾਨ ਹੈ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਵਾਨ ਹੈ हमारा गवर्नमेंट सरकार के खिलाफ
पूरे देश को ये बताने आया हूं कि हमने 3 कृषि कानूनों को वापस लेने का, रिपील करने का निर्णय लिया है।
Western Uttar Pradesh, Meerut, Muzaffarnagar, Bagpat, Shamli, Saharanpur, the region that started the turnaround for Bharatiya Janata Party in 2014 and continued to help the lotus bloom in 2017 and 19. Of the 66 assembly constituencies where Jats dominate, BJP bagged 50 in 2017. In the Garh of Chaudhary Charan Singh and Ajit Singh, only one RLD MLA won in 2017 and he too crossed over to BJP later. As per CSDS Lokniti survey, 77% of the Jats voted for BJP in 2014 Lok Sabha polls. In 2019, the numbers went up to 90%. BJP is going all out to replicate the numbers. In 2022 though, the water from the hand pump is threatening to drown the lotus.
इस बार जाट समुदाय के लोग जो हैं थोड़े नाराज चल रहे हैं भाजपा से।
हाँ, थोड़े नाराजगी तो जैसी बात है, जब 1 साल तक किसान आंदोलन दिल्ली में किसानों का भूख प्यास से समस्या बरसात सब तरह सहन करी और फसल उसकी बर्बाद हुई। यहाँ पे समय पे उसका खाद बीज नहीं दे पाया, सिंचाई नहीं कर पाया। तो जो मोदी जी ने 1 वर्ष का समय उन चीज़ों को वापस करने में लगा, 3 कानूनों को, काले कानूनों को, वो उससे पहले से समझ के सोच समझ के डिसीजन ले लेते कि जब किसानों के हित में कोई चीज़ें नहीं है, अब उसे उस चीज़ को साइड कर दी जाए।
छोटी छोटी चीज़ें जो किसान आंदोलन को लेकर सामने आई, वैसे किसान आंदोलन का असर भी इतना ज़्यादा नहीं रहा। कानून वापिस हो गए, उसका इतना असर नहीं है। यहाँ थोड़ा सा असर किसान आंदोलन के बाद जो जितेंद्र चौधरी हैं, राष्ट्रीय लोकदल का एक भावनात्मक जुड़ाव है, जिससे पश्चिम में थोड़ा सा प्रभाव भाजपा के खिलाफ है।
2013 में जाटों और मुसलमानों के बीच में दंगे हुए, क्या उस दंगे का प्रभाव अब खत्म हो गया है, अब भाईचारा है?
हाँ, दंगे का प्रभाव तो खत्म हो चुका। वो तो इनकी एक ऐसा हुआ बन गया था उस दौरान कि बस पता नहीं क्या इन्होंने घुंटी पिया दी थी बीजेपी वालों ने। अब बस हिंदू मुस्लिम हो गया था। हिंदू मुस्लिम क्या, जाट बनाम मुसलमान हुआ था।
अगर मुसलमान कैंडिडेट खड़ा होता है, क्या जाट उसको वोट देगा?
हाँ, वोट देगा। अगर हम गठबंधन को वोट देंगे, हम तो
कैंडिडेट किसी भी धर्म
कैंडिडेट कोई भी हो, हमें तो अपना वो देना, चुनाव चिन्ह देखना।
नहीं जी, देखो ऐसा तो रहा नहीं अब कि जाट मुसलमान को देंगे नहीं देंगे। हताशा बहुत है, भाजपा सब लोग हताशा है, इसीलिए हम तो कांग्रेस को वोट देंगे। कांग्रेस ने सर्व धर्म सर्व समाज की बात करी है, उसने हर बिरादरी को चुनाव में टिकट देने का काम करा है, चाहे वो ब्राह्मण हो, चाहे वो जाट हो, चाहे वो मुसलमान हो, चाहे वो कश्यप हो।
बसपा कहती है कांग्रेस वोट कटुआ पार्टी है, उसको वोट देने का मतलब वोट बर्बाद
जी, बसपा का स्टैंड क्या है? कहाँ है बसपा? अभी तक तो हमें दिख नहीं रही कहाँ बसपा, और किसी दिख रही तो पता नहीं। अब वो बीच में आके थोड़ा अपना 10-20 सीटों का इंतजाम करके सोच रही कि अपना बीजेपी को जिताने का काम कर देगी अगर जरूरत पड़ी तो। क्या बसपा क्या उठ रहा? उठेगा तो उसका जिसका जो कुछ कर रहा हो, जब वो तो कहीं रेस में ही नहीं है तो उसका क्या उठ रहा?
मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ जी की सरकार में, भाजपा की गवर्नमेंट में क्राइम खत्म हुआ है, ये सबसे अच्छी बात है। अच्छे काम भी किए हैं गवर्नमेंट ने, सुविधा है अच्छी। लोगों को ये है कि कहीं चोरी चकारी होती थी, उनके परसेंटेज बहुत ना के बराबर हो गई है। लेकिन नाराजगी यही है कि किसानों को इतना परेशान किया गया, उससे थक चुका किसान।
शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में रोजगार देने की वजह ये कहते हैं जो जिसने बीटेक किया है 10 लाख रुपए लगाएगा, पकोड़े चल रहे भाई रोजगार।
So all kinds of voices here. There are voices in support of Mahagathbandhan. There are voices in support of BJP. There was a solitary voice in support of the Congress party as well. They all agree that in the Yogi Adityanath government, law and order did improve. However, farmer agitation may have dented the Jat community's calibration. It may have affected their choice. Are Jats and Muslims going to vote together? We'll have to wait and watch. But one thing they definitely say is that communal discord is history.
In the RLD cradle of Bagpat, Jats who claim to have voted for BJP in the last few elections are returning to the RLD fold.
फिलहाल 17 में आपने भाजपा को वोट दिया।
हाँ जी, बिल्कुल पक्के पर
14 में और 19 में
14 में और 19 में हम तो बहुत ही लंबे अरसे से भाजपा के हैं, लेकिन अब फिलहाल स्थिति ये है भाजपा से तंग आके इतने दुखी हो गए कि इनके जुल्म में इतने थे भाई लोग बाग बह गए और उन्होंने ये समझा कि ये पता नहीं क्या करेंगे क्या नहीं।
गन्ने का भुगतान नहीं हो रहा, 60% बकाया है हमारा पिछले साल का। ये सरकार कहती थी हम भुगतान करा देंगे, हमने इन्हें वोट दिया था, इस वजह से ये सक्षम नहीं हो पाई। किसानों के बारे में फैल रही सरकार।
मोदी जी यहाँ आए बड़ौत में और कहा 450 का भाव 15 दिन में पेमेंट। आज कहाँ है वो 450 का भाव 15 दिन में पेमेंट।
तो जाट और मुसलमान इस बार साथ में
सब हमारे साथ ही है।
ये हमारे भाई है, ये हमसे अलग नहीं है, हम इनसे अलग नहीं है। वे झगड़ा करवाते हैं वही लोग।
हम तो हमेशा से साथ रहे, आरडी के साथ, चौधरी साहब के साथ, चरण सिंह के साथ हमेशा से ही रहे, आज तक रहे, आगे भी रहेंगे, रहते आए।
पहले फूल को वोट दी थी, अब क्या फूल अंधी में उठ गया अपने आप ही। क्यों क्या उसका कारनामे बहुत गलत रहे, झूठा अंग्रेजी शासन की तरह शासन करना चाह रहा। हमारे में जातिवाद फूट गए रहे और इसी वजह से राज करे। अंग्रेजी नहीं ये सिखा गए थे, नुक्ता पकड़ लिया इन्होंने।
पशु ना पाले ना रखे क्यों जब दो डांगों पे।
But there are pockets of worry for the RLD SP combined too. At the Civil Caste Assembly seat of Meerut, Jats protested when Haji Ghulam Mohammad of SP was announced as the Mahagadbandhan candidate.
मनमुटाव तो अब भी हो गया था जी, टिकट को लेते हुए जाट भाई नाराज हो गए थे, लेकिन जयंत भाई ने और उनकी वाइफ ने चारों ने एक पोस्ट छोड़ी थी फेसबुक के जरिए। तो फिर जाट भाई ने कहा कि अगर आप मेरा साथ दोगे, अजीत सिंह को लेके मतलब वो नाराज हो गए थे अजीत सिंह की वजह से, क्योंकि गुलाम मोहम्मद साहब ने अजीत सिंह के सामने चुनाव लड़ा था लोकसभा का। तो अब सब जाट भाई मान गए हैं, सब गुलाम मोहम्मद साहब के साथ हैं।
आज भी तसल्ली हुई जैन जी ने कहा, पहले तो इस बात पर विरोध था भाई, इसे पहले रह चुका है गुलाम मोहम्मद, बस दूसरे को दे दिया जाए, नदीम को दे दिया जाए, मियाँ तो और भी हैं। पर जब उन्होंने यह बात उन्होंने कह दिया भाई लोक दलो जयंत ने भाई ऐसा इसी पे रहो तो सब इसी पे रहेंगे, कोई हटने वाला नहीं है।
जाट और मुसलमान का मसला नहीं था ये, हम थोड़ा उसके उम्मीदवार का थोड़ा फर्क था भाई, इसकी जगह को दूसरा और मोमडन में दूसरा हो जाता तो उसका थोड़ा ये विरोध था गुलाम मोहम्मद का। लेकिन वैसा कोई विरोध नहीं था कि मुस्लिम को क्यों दिया जा रहा।
अच्छा, मतलब आपका कैंडिडेट से
थोड़ा था।
Sensing the discord amongst the Jats who hold sway in this entire belt, Union Home Minister Amit Shah has extended the olive branch. He met Jat leaders in Delhi and said doors for Jayant Chaudhary were still open.
Mahendra Tikait and Chaudhary Charan Singh, two of the tallest leaders of the Jat community. Charan Singh's grandson Jayant Chaudhary is leading the RLD revival in these parts. Interestingly, Amit Shah has not attacked Jayant even once. Instead said that Jayant was a good man who had chosen the wrong alliance partner. Amit Shah also said that doors are open for Jayant. It's a sentiment heard on the ground too. Many of the Jats feel that perhaps if RLD had joined hands with BJP, it would have been a better option for them.
उन्होंने जो कहा कि गलत चुना, वो भी यह बात उन्होंने सही कहा गृह मंत्री ने।
मतलब उनको सपा के साथ नहीं जाना चाहिए था।
ना, इसकी लारे जाता भाजपा की तो काफी जीत होती भाजपा। या तो चोरों की सरकार है, इसमें तो गुंडे रहा, यहाँ भी नाई दसन को दे दिया शिवता गुंडा सारी दुनिया का, और भी कई जगह पता है। चलो हम भूल गए भाई, इतने होशियार नहीं तो। और वैसे भी जब इनकी सरकार आ जा तो जब भी जगह जगह दंगा और कहीं चोरी, कहीं कुछ, कहीं बलात्कार होते रहे।
गृह मंत्री ने बोला तो उसका कुछ तो विश्वास करेंगे जाट समुदाय और उन्हें वोट भी करेंगे। ऐसा नहीं है कि वोट नहीं करेंगे, थोड़ा असर पड़ेगा उसका जरूर।
हालांकि वे कानून बहुत अच्छे थे, वे कानून किसान हित में भी थे, छोटे किसानों के बहुत फायदेमंद थे। लेकिन वे तो जिद पर जब ना लिगट गई तो भाई जाट की ना तो ना ही रहेगी।
At Mahendra Tikait's home turf Sisoli, his son and BKU president Naresh Tikait downplays the Jat support for BJP.
13 महीने का समय काफ़ी समय हो और 700-750 करीब किसान शहीद भी हो गए उसमें। प्रधानमंत्री अच्छा लगता, दो शब्द उनके प्रति भी बोलते और इन पे जब मुकदमे साथ के साथ ही वापसी लेते, चलो ठीक है बातचीत सारी लड़ा सी थी बात। हाँ, वो अच्छा सा नहीं लग रहा किसानों के मन को जीत नहीं पाए मोदी जी।
I heard a saying in these lush green fields, जिसके जाट उसकी ठाट. What it means electorally is that the dominant Jat community can decide who wins an electoral contest in these parts. But to play the kingmaker, Jats need an alliance with the other dominant community, the Muslims.
Chaudhry Charan Singh had tapped into the farmers in both Jat and Muslim communities and forged an alliance which lasted till the 2013 Muzaffarnagar riots ripped the social fabric and the bhaichara apart. It all began here, at the Kaval village of Muzaffarnagar. Muhammad Salim's son Shahnawaz was stabbed in August 2013. Two Jat boys, Sachin and Gaurav, who allegedly stabbed him, were then allegedly lynched by the mob in retaliation.
वही देगा मुझे, इंसाफ वही देगा मुझे, अल्लाह नहीं आई.
Salim, a bitter man today, refuses to say much about the politics that unfolded, but can't keep his anguish away.
आप उन लोगों को माफ कर सकते हैं जिन्होंने आपके बेटे के साथ ऐसा किया, आपके परिवार के साथ ऐसा किया?
माफी और तलाफी तो जब है, जब कोई माफी चाहे या नो सोचे मैंने गलती कर दी, मेरे से गलती हुई, और जब कोई गलती नहीं मान रहा तो माफी काहे की मांगने लगा.
Sachin and Gaurav's family too find it difficult to forget and join the Bhaichara bandwagon.
दंगा तो साजिद के तहत ही हुआ, जो ना तो आजम खां उसका एसपी और उसका डीएम का तबादला करे, ना उन बदमाशों को छोड़ा, ना दंगा भड़का. तो ये तो गुंडे राजनीति तो दंगा भड़का. इसके तो जो भी दंगा भड़काने के मालिक है अखिलेश या आजम खां है.
चौधरी चरण सिंह जो है हमारा रिश्तेदार है, उसी के साथ रहे, और जब ये दंगा हुआ, दंगे में हमारा उन्होंने पता नहीं दिया, जब से हम भाजपा में.
अगर आपको लगता कि चौधरी चरण सिंह और भाजपा साथ में आती तो आपको ज्यादा तसल्ली होती, ज्यादा खुशी होती?
खुशी होती.
The Kaval village square has a mandir, a masjid just a few steps away. A huge cutout of Prime Minister Modi greets you when you enter. The Sainis, the Thakurs swear by the BJP.
यहाँ जब लोग वोट करेंगे तो किस मुद्दे पर करेंगे?
विकास के मुद्दे पर.
क्या विकास हुआ है आपके गांव में पिछले 5 सालों में?
विकास में इंटर कॉलेज बन गया जी यहाँ पे, और रोड भी अच्छी हैं, और किसान सम्मान निधि भी आ रही है, फ्री राशन भी मिल रहा है गरीब लोगों को, और विकास भी हो रहा है उसको.
हमारे जाट भाई भी साथ हैं हमारे बीजेपी के, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. कम से कम 60% जाट हमारे बीजेपी के साथ है.
तो गांव भी धर्म के उस पे बढ़ जाएगा.
But the Muslims have decided to go with the Mahagathbandhan.
चाहे अखिलेश यादव मुसलमानों को टिकट ना दे, फिर भी आपको उनसे गिला नहीं?
अखिलेश यादव उस विचारधारा के आदमी नहीं है जो हिंदू मुसलमान की बात करें. अखिलेश यादव समाजवाद विचारधारा के लोग हैं.
एक बार फिर कोशिश हो रही है इन दोनों समुदायों को साथ लाने की. पॉसिबल है भाईचारा, अब पॉसिबल है?
ये पॉसिबल है, पहले भी पॉसिबल था, अब भी पॉसिबल है. ऐसा नहीं होता एक हादसा था, हो गया. अब इंशाल्लाह सब भाईचारे के साथ हैं. हिंदू मुसलमान ये तो इसी से जाना जाता है, पश्चिम उत्तर प्रदेश भाईचारे के साथ.
बसपा ने और ओवैसी जी की पार्टी ने मुसलमान कैंडिडेट उतारा है, तो आपका समुदाय, मुस्लिम समुदाय, उन पर अपना भरोसा क्यों नहीं दिखा रहा?
यही तो वजह है जो उन्होंने मुस्लिम कैंडिडेट उतारे हैं. लोगों के माइंड कन्वर्ट होंगे, कुछ इधर जाएंगे, कुछ इधर जाएंगे, और फिर से दंगा भड़काने की सरकार जो है ये फिर से मुसलसल होकर बैठ जाएगी.
आपको भरोसा नहीं है बहन जी पर या ओवैसी पर भी? आपको लगता है वो बीजेपी की बी टीम है?
भरोसे जो हो सकता है बीजेपी की, जब उन्होंने खुला कह दिया कि समाजवादी सरकार को हम हराने के लिए चाहे हमें बीजेपी को जिताना पड़े, तो इसमें भरोसे की कहां से बात है?
The mood is same in Bagpat too. Out of 3 lakh voters, Muslims are 60,000, the largest chunk, followed by 37,000 Jats and 28,000 Yadav. A bloc SPRLD is hoping to swing its way.
मोदी जी ने पिछले 5 सालों में लोगों पे इतने एहसान किए हैं कि पेट्रोल को 65 से लेके 105 कर दिया, उसे 110 कर दिया, फिर उसे जो है 85 पे लिया. कहना भाई मैंने एहसान कर दिया, 20 रुपये कम कर दिया. वही डीजल वाला काम है. सिलेंडर 600 रुपये का आता था, वही सिलेंडर आज 1100 रुपये का आ रहा है, 1000 रुपये का आ रहा है. अब बताइए गरीब आदमी क्या करेगा इसमें?
मुझे ऐसा लगता है मुसलमान समुदाय की मजबूरी है महागठबंधन को वोट देना. आपको लगता है ये मजबूरी है आपके समुदाय की?
हाँ जी, मजबूरी तो है जी करने. बस ये क्या बताए, काम के बारे में कुछ भी काम नहीं है.
काम करने के लिए बैठे हैं, बस बेकार हो रहा है काम।
जाट मुस्लिम जो भाईचारा है वो यहाँ सदियों से चला आ रहा है। 1937 में जब चौधरी चरण सिंह जी के सामने नवाब लियाकत अली खां ट्रायल चुनाव में खड़े हुए तो इस पश्चिम उत्तर प्रदेश के मुसलमानों ने चौधरी चरण सिंह को अपना नेता चुना, ना कि नवाब लियाकत खां। तो ये जो जाट मुस्लिम की आपसी मोहब्बत, भाईचारा और लगाव है, इसी कारण है कि यहाँ के मुसलमान जैन चौधरी को अपना नेता मानते हैं।
While Baghpat and Muzaffarnagar Muslims show their inclination for the Mahagathbandhan, we came across Mehboob Khan in the Murlipur village of Meerut cantonment, canvassing for the Bharatiya Janata Party.
राशन मिल रहा है, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की तरफ से मिल रहा है, किसानों को किस्त मिल रही है, उसे भी भाजपा दे रही है। इसमें कोई हिंदू ना मुसलमान है, मुस्लिम पूरा साथ है, भाजपा के साथ है।
भाजपा जो है राशन दे रही है, पैसा दे रही है, काम काज भी कर रही है, सारे काम कर रही है।
लेकिन इस सरकार में दंगे नहीं हुए बीजेपी की, हिंदू मुस्लिम नहीं हुई, गुंडागर्दी नहीं हुई और बिल्कुल सबको एक नजरिए से देखा गया।
बिल्कुल सही चल रहा है, जो बदमाश है वे भी खत्म होना भी चाहिए। ऐसा कि गुंडागर्दी बदमाशी कराया जाता है, वो करेगा कौन?
The Shiv Chowk of Muzaffarnagar, at the peak of the farmer agitation, Rakesh Tiket tied a bell here saying इस घंटे की आवाज से सरकार को जगाना है. The same Rakesh Tiket is today chanting Allahu Akbar while is supporting Jats don't mind. What about the non-Jat Hindus? After the break, we'll get you voices of the non-Jat Hindus, the Thakurs, the Sainis, the Lodhs, the Dalits.
But no corrective action would be taken. Now, the second point is leadership plays a key role in service industry. The morale of the employees has to be kept high. Now, you cannot have decisions being taken which are not in favor of the airline, and everybody, employees, are witnessing it. You have seen in recent days unions coming up with one thing, others or the other saying, we will not be cooperating because unless this is done, that is done, etc. Now, why was this being done? Simply because airline was government owned. They were tolerating these kind of tantrums.
Okay.
But once you move into the Tatas, I would love to see any union protesting.
But the
and
government
saying,
has put a clause to the Tatas that for 1 year you cannot fire anyone.
no, let's put it this way. 1 year is not a bad thing. I look at it from a positive sense. Since employees know that they can be terminated after a period of 1 year, they are going to be giving their best in terms of service. Then you very rightly said, because of government ownership, the work practices were of the monopoly era. Nobody could change those work practices because of the resistance from the unions. Now, Air India comes under the Tatas. You have no choice but to re-engineer the work practices, number one, for the management. For the employees, they have no option but to accept the improved work practices.
I have 1
so
minute, 30
productivity
seconds.
will go up,
Okay.
the efficiency will go up.
Okay. So, I have 1 minute, 30 seconds, Jitendra Bhargav, and I want to ask you this. As far as the Tatas are concerned, they already run Vistara and AirAsia, which again isn't making any sort of profit. Now they have a third airline in their stable. Do you possibly see in the coming future, not immediately maybe, but in the coming future, a merger of Air India with Vistara? Because what would any conglomerate do with 3 airlines?
You see,
and all 3 loss-making airlines.
No, let's put it this way. India is a price-sensitive market. Let's not forget this. Kingfisher, Jet Airways were good airlines, but losing money and collapsed.
Yeah.
So it is not a question of providing a good quality product only and ensuring survival. There is money, there is kind of profitability that you have to be assured. So Tatas will ensure, and I'm sure they would have done this exercise before they carried out the due diligence and bid for Air India, that Vistara and Air India can't be competing, say, on a sector like London, on which both the airlines are currently flying. Now, they will have no choice but over a period of time merge, because that is where the collective market share will grow up.
Correct.
AirAsia, Air India at the moment, when you look at these market share and AirAsia and Vistara, when you look at the market share in domestic sector, for example, if you combine them together, it's 28%. Now, what happens is when you merge the 3 airlines, the costs go down and you reap the benefit of scale of operations.
Okay, so ultimately the merger will have to come.
I'm not saying...
भुगतान की बात है, गन्ना भुगतान जो पिछली सरकारें रही हैं उनमें भी काफ़ी लेट समय पर हुआ, और भाजपा सरकार से अगर हम उनकी तुलना करें तो भाजपा सरकार का रिकॉर्ड काफ़ी अच्छा रहा है।
बीजेपी ने जब सरकार आई थी बैठते हुए आरक्षण खत्म कर दिया था।
ये कहते हैं जो जिसने बीटेक किया है 10 लाख रुपए लगाएगा, पकोड़े चल रहे भाई।
हम तो योगी तो वोट देंगे जी, और मोदी थे।
In Muzaffarnagar, while most are talking about how Jats are angry with the Bharatiya Janata Party, I came across this convoy of sugarcane buggies which are all sporting the Bharatiya Janata Party flag. If you see, these BJP flags are on each one of these buggies. भारतीय जनता पार्टी का झंडा क्यों लगाए हुए हैं आप अपने किस पे?
भारतीय जनता पार्टी को क्यों जी, हम इसे वोट देंगे। हाँ। इसी के सपोर्ट है। हाँ जी, बीजेपी की सरकार ही आनी।
अच्छा,
हाँ जी,
आप लोग
इसकी
पिछली
साथ
बार भी बीजेपी को वोट दिए?
हाँ जी, पिछली बार भी नहीं दिया था।
आप लोग जाट हैं?
नहीं जी,
नहीं है।
नहीं।
तो यहाँ जाट तो इस बार सारे रालोद के साथ जा रहे हैं।
अजी मैं कहीं जाओ, हम तो बीजेपी की साथ है। सपोर्ट है जी, हम तो।
क्यों
जी,
क्यों सपोर्ट दे रहे हैं?
इसने करने पैसा बढ़ाया, एक हमें क्यों काम बढ़िया बिल्कुल पक्का कर दीजिए हो जी।
और कोई वजह बीजेपी को सपोर्ट देने का?
एक गुंडागर्दी खत्म होगी जी।
नाम
हाँ जी, अजी पहले यो रोड नहीं था, गट बुग्गी कहीं ही पलट दी थी। अब जब से उनकी सरकार आई रोड मिल रहा। गुंडाराज बिल्कुल खत्म है जी, गुंडाराज बिल्कुल। किसी टाइम आ जाओ, किसी टाइम पहुंचो खेत में, टाइम पाओ टाइम पजाओ।
धर्म सिंह जी, आपके इस पे बुग्गी पे ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी का झंडा लगाकर क्यों चल रहे हैं?
वोट देंगे जी,
उनको वोट देंगे।
हाँ जी।
क्यों पसंद है आपको भारतीय जनता पार्टी?
पसंद है जी, पहले से ही पसंद है।
हमें बहुत फायदा है जी, जैसे हमारे जंगल है, खेतों में बहुत हमें सुविधा मिली हुई है, और गुंडागर्दी जैसे हमारे नुकसान होते थे खेतों में, तो हमें उसमें बहुत फायदा हुआ है जी।
So if the Jats are here in Muzaffarnagar are talking about the farmer agitation, they are talking about them being upset with the government because of the farm bills. There are also others who are displaying their support to the party. They also claim to be farmers. They are from the OBC community. They are from the Lodh community and the others in this area, displaying their support for the Bharatiya Janata Party, making this a very interesting and complex elections.
Not just Muzaffarnagar, the consolidation of non-Jat Hindus is visible across the Ganna belt.
मुद्दे पे तो ज़्यादा जो है हिंदुत्व मुद्दे पे है जी। अब तो बात हिंदुत्व मुद्दे पे ज़्यादा जो है जोर दिया जा रहा है, क्योंकि ये अखिलेश सर ये खुल के जो है हिंदू होते हुए भी मुसलमान के साथ जो है ऐसे वर्ड बोल रहे हैं, खुद अपने आप को काट रहे हैं।
सब कुछ बढ़िया हुआ, सड़कें और काम भी जो वे 2 नंबरी काम थे वे सब इन्हें निपटाए हैं, बदमाश निपटाए हैं, सारे काम निपटाए। एक ही काम गलत कर रहा, किसान के लिए ये नहीं सोच रहा कि उनका पेमेंट जो गन्ना घेरते हैं, किसान बहुत कमज़ोर आदमी है में, पर उनके पेमेंट के लिए बहुत ही दिक्कत आई है।
दाम हर चीज़ का बढ़ गया है, आलू प्याज टमाटर तेल का, तो क्या ये आपको लगता है आपके लिए एक दिक्कत है?
हाँ जी, ये तो बढ़ ही रहा है सबके लिए ही, सबके लिए ही बढ़ रहा है। तो हर चीज़ पे ही महंगाई आ रही। तेल का ही 150 रुपये किलो था, 200 रुपये हो रहा। सरसों का तेल, हर चीज़ पे ही महंगाई है।
साग सब्जी का तो चल भी जा काम, तेल ज़्यादा महंगा हो रहा।
पर जब आप वोट देंगी, क्या महंगाई का सोच के वोट देंगी आप?
तो हमने तो कमल के फूल पे दी थी ना।
हाँ, फिर से उसी पे देंगी?
हाँ, तो उसी पे ही दे देंगे।
While the Samajwadi Party RLD supporters hope that this alliance between Jats and Muslim will help them sail through, BJP supporters are looking at history. Back in 2017 too, Jats in these parts were upset because their brethren in Haryana were lathi-charged on the Jat reservation issue. Amit Shah intervened, met the Jat leaders, expressed regret, and in turn, 70% Jats sided with the BJP. Will he manage to wave the magic wand this time around as well? Will history repeat itself? We'll know on 10th of March.
Linked incentive of employees, we reduce the retirement age from 60 to 58. Now, I would like to know, as an ex-Air Indian, can anybody cite a single measure that was taken to cut down costs? On the contrary, what we found was that in the year 2015, 16, 17, flights were being increased, contrary to global practices in airline industry, that when you are losing money, consolidate. don't try and keep increasing your losses.
Okay.
So somewhere somebody went wrong and
So
nobody questioned this.
So the
as a
leadership
result
was
of
a
it,
problem. You are saying
your
the leadership,
commentary was
you're saying,
very right.
Jitendra
Air India
Bhargav, you're
has
saying the
suffered.
leadership was a problem. I want to ask you this. Is leadership the only problem, or is worth ethics a problem as well? The fact that what the Tatas will inherit now is not just a bloated workforce, but also a workforce with not such a great attitude. With an attitude problem.
No, let me explain to you. In the years 1953 to 1978, when JRD helmed the airline and Air India had its glorious years, it was a government airline. So it is not the ownership per se which is at fault, but the leadership, the kind of leadership you provide.
Okay.
Post 78, you cited a number of instances of government interference, wrong decisions being taken, etc., but no corrective action was being taken. Now, the second point is leadership plays a key role in service industry. The morale of the employees has to be kept high. Now, you cannot have decisions being taken which are not in favor of the airline, and everybody, employees, are witnessing it. You have seen in recent days unions coming up with one thing, others or the other saying, we will not be cooperating because unless this is done, that is done, etc. Now, why was this being done? Simply because airline was government owned. They were tolerating these kind of tantrums.
Okay.
But once you move into the Tatas, I would
No,
love to see any union protesting
but the
and
government
saying,
has put a clause to the Tatas that for 1 year you cannot fire anyone.
no, let's put it this way. 1 year is not a bad thing. I look at it from a positive sense. Since employees know that they can be terminated after a period of 1 year, they are going to be giving their best in terms of service. Then you very rightly said, because of government ownership, the work practices were of the monopoly era. Nobody could change those work practices because of the resistance from the unions. Now, Air India comes under the Tatas. You have no choice but to re-engineer the work practices, number one, for the management.
Okay.
For the employees, they have no option but to accept the improved work practices.
I have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Will go up,
okay.
The efficiency will go up.
Okay. So, I have 1 minute, 30 seconds, Jitendra Bhargav, and I want to ask you this. As far as the Tatas are concerned, they already run Vistara and AirAsia, which again isn't making any sort of profit. Now they have a third airline in their stable. Do you possibly see in the coming future, not immediately maybe, but in the coming future, a merger of Air India with Vistara? Because what would any conglomerate do with 3 airlines?
You see,
and all 3 loss-making airlines?
No, let's put it this way. India is a price-sensitive market. Let's not forget this. Kingfisher, Jet Airways were good airlines, but losing money and collapsed.
Yeah.
So it is not a question of providing a good quality product only and ensuring survival. There is money, there is kind of profitability that should to be assured. So Tatas will ensure, and I'm sure they would have done this exercise before they carried out the due diligence.
Hello everyone, good evening. You're watching CNN News 18 and I'm Maria Shakil. Our top story is coming from Uttar Pradesh, where Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav and RLD Supremo Jayant Chaudhary held a joint press conference and a public event earlier today. It was seen as a show of strength and unity after Home Minister Amit Shah's outreach to Jayant Chaudhary for a post-poll alliance. But ahead of the press conference came a shocking attack from Akhilesh Yadav. He claimed that his helicopter was briefly stopped from flying from Delhi to Muzaffarnagar and called it a BJP conspiracy. The BJP hit back and called Akhilesh desperate. Top government sources tell CNN News 18 that the delay wasn't deliberate and was due to a high amount of air traffic. But the Samajwadi Party has requested the Election Commission to take action.
अरे उनका न्योता कौन स्वीकार कर रहा है? देखिए उनके हालात कैसे हैं, हालात कैसे उनके, सोचो न्योता देना पड़ रहा है। देरी का कारण मुझे नहीं बताया गया। मैं कई घंटे हेलीकॉप्टर में बैठा रहा, रिफ्यूल कराना पड़ा, उसके बाद मैं आपके बीच में पहुंचा हूं। मैं धन्यवाद देता हूं जिसकी भी कृपा से मैं आपके पास पहुंचा हूं।
हमारा निर्णय ठोस है। उत्तर प्रदेश में जो हम विकास करना चाहते हैं, जिस तरह से भाईचारा और चौधरी चरण सिंह का जो समीकरण था, मूल रूप से किसान का मेरा वर्ग को संगठित करना, जो उनकी मुख्य लड़ाई थी जीवन भर, उसे आगे बढ़ाने के लिए हमने गठबंधन किया है।
Pranshu Mishra is joining me on the phone line. Is the Samajwadi Party looking at some conspiracy when none exists?
Well, that is, but I think Akhilesh Yadav clearly feels that there was a larger conspiracy or a political, attempt to stop him from reaching Muzaffarnagar in time, and that's the reason why the party has approached to the Election Commission. Though, there has already been a clarification that is made by the government agency saying that it was just, the operational issues because of which the flight actually was delayed. But Samajwadi Party clearly wants to escalate it on a new level, and it feels that but the attack of this sort against the BJP might actually also be beneficial as far as the larger electoral campaign is concerned. And therefore, the complaint that has been made to Election Commission, it says that if the opposition leaders would be stopped in this way, then how come a fair election is possible? And that's the reason why the Samajwadi Party has demanded Election Commission to intervene and probe this entire matter.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Pranshu. And Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav and RLD Supremo Jayant Chaudhary's traditional vote bank is of a combination of two vote communities, I should say, the Jats and the Muslims. Arunima gets us this report on the reservations among Jats, how that has become a talking point in Meerut. Watch this story.
मुझे ये बताया गया था कि ये सिविल खास विधानसभा सेगमेंट में जब रालोद और सपा का कैंडिडेट अनाउंस हुआ तो जाट समुदाय में खास करके कुछ लोगों को ये जरूर लगा कि यहाँ से जाट को ही टिकट देना चाहिए था, मुसलमान को क्यों लगा? क्या
नहीं ऐसा है मैम, जाट और मुसलमान का मसला नहीं था ये। हम थोड़ा उसके उम्मीदवार का थोड़ा फर्क था भाई, इसकी जगह को दूसरा और मोमडन में दूसरा हो जाता तो उसका थोड़ा ये विरोध था गुलाम मोहम्मद का। लेकिन वैसा कोई विरोध नहीं था कि मुस्लिम को क्यों दिया जा रहा।
अच्छा, मतलब आपका कैंडिडेट से
थोड़ा था, हाँ, उससे धर्म जाति से नहीं था।
क्यों थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम लग रहा था?
लोकदल है नहीं, लोकदल से ऐसा हमें ये थोड़ा पहले भी रहा है, थोड़ा इसके आचार विचार से थोड़े अच्छे नहीं लग रहे थे हमें इसके, तो हमें इस वजह से थोड़ा इसका वो था। फिर हमने देख लिया हमारे राष्ट्रीय लोग मतलब जो जयंत चौधरी ने इसको दिया है तो हमारे लिए तो सब ठीक है, जो भी उसने दे दिया वो ठीक है, तो हम उसी को सपोर्ट करेंगे।
मुझे बताया गया कि गुलाम हाजी मोहम्मद पहले जो है वो अजीत सिंह के खिलाफ भी चुनाव लड़े हैं, बहुत पहले, बात सही है?
ऐसा था तो इनका नेता का जब गठबंधन नहीं था सपा से।
तो क्या इस बात को लेकर जाट समुदाय में कुछ लगा नहीं कि कैसे आदमी को अब टिकट देने की बात हो रही है जिसने पहले आपके अजीत सिंह जी को हराया है?
नहीं जी, वो सपा में तो सपा तो लड़ा था, वो लोकदल में तो उसमें क्या हो गया, तो लोकदल के टिकट से लड़ रहा है, लोकदल पे आ गया है तो हम उसके लिए तैयार है।
हम तो लोकदल के साथ है जी, अब कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, अब उसके साथ है कोई बात नहीं, सिंबल तो हमारा लोकदल ही है, हम तो उसी के साथ है, लोकदल के साथ ही हैं जी सब।
जो सवाल मैंने पूछा कि ऐसे प्रत्याशी को आप वोट देने जा रहे हैं जिन्होंने पहले आपके नेता अजीत सिंह को हराया है।
जी हमारे नेता ने टिकट ही दिया उनको, तो हम तो नेता के गया अपने।
मनमुटाव तो अब भी हो गया था जी, टिकट को लेते हुए जाट भाई नाराज हो गए थे, लेकिन जयंत भाई ने और उनकी वाइफ ने चारों ने एक पोस्ट छोड़ी थी फेसबुक के जरिए, तो फिर जाट भाई ने कहा कि अगर आप मेरा साथ दोगे, अजीत सिंह को लेके मतलब वो नाराज हो गए थे अजीत सिंह की वजह से, क्योंकि गुलाम मोहम्मद साहब ने अजीत सिंह के सामने चुनाव लड़ा था लोकसभा का, तो अब सब जाट भाई मान गए हैं, सब गुलाम मोहम्मद साहब के साथ हैं।
Shifting focus now to Punjab, and the crisis in Punjab is only growing with Rahul Gandhi being publicly forced to take a position that he will be announcing the chief ministerial candidate of the Congress party in the state soon. Caught between Sidhu, that is Navjot Singh Sidhu, and Charanjit Singh Chinni, the current chief minister Rahul faces a Hobson's choice. He cannot afford to alienate either of these two names after the exit of party heavyweight Captain Amrinder Singh. The question is, who will Rahul pick and what forced his hand to publicly commit to a CM face?
Rahul Gandhi is caught between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand is Charanjit Singh Channi, a popular Dalit Sikh face with mass connect. On the other hand is Navjot Singh Sidhu, the blue-eyed boy of the Gandhis. It's one of these men that Rahul Gandhi will need to pick to be the face of Congress's campaign in Punjab. An announcement that he claims he will make soon after consulting party workers.
कांग्रेस पार्टी चाहती है और कांग्रेस पार्टी का कार्यकर्ता चाहता है और पंजाब चाहता है, तो फिर हम चीफ मिनिस्टर का निर्णय आपके लिए ले लेंगे। कैसे लेंगे? अपने कार्यकर्ताओं से पूछकर, और जो सही व्यक्ति होगा वो पंजाब को आगे ले जाएगा।
और मैं भी जब जवान का छक्का मारता तो बॉल बाउंड्री पार।
For months now, Punjab Congress has been plagued by infighting, largely centering around Sidhu. It started with the friction between Sidhu and former Chief Minister Captain Amarinder Singh. When Captain exited the party and Charanjit Singh Channi took charge, he became the object of Sidhu's ire. Yet when Rahul Gandhi came to Punjab on Thursday, both leaders appeared to put up a united front.
ये कोई लड़ाई है, कुर्बानी देवांगा हर हाल दे विच पंजाब दे लोकां दे बेहतरी वास्ते एक अच्छी सरकार देने वास्ते मूरे खड़ांगा, कांग्रेस पार्टी दे नाल चलांगा। राहुल गांधी जी, तुसी मैनू जो देता है इस तो ज्यादा मैं क्या मांग सकदा है?
In the last Punjab Assembly elections, Congress had broken from tradition and named a CM candidate. At that time though, there was really just one face, Amarinder Singh, and he was seen to have forced the leadership's hand. This time, with two contenders, the consequences will be very real. One possible formula is making Sidhu the CM face and Channi the party head. But dropping Channi could hurt the Congress with Dalit voters.
ओ तोपां गोले बंब जिस तरह को साडा फॉर्मर मुख्य मंत्री कठपुतली बन के सेंटर दियां उन्हां दे विच नचदा है। ਇਹ नहीं चाहता शहर अमन मान चाहता साहब, शहर एक सॉलिड सेकुलर सरकार चाहता है।
Rahul Gandhi's turnaround over the Chief Minister face is a clear hint that the party needs to present a united front. But is the damage already done to Congress's chances in Punjab?
And Andhra Chief Minister Jagan Reddy is now the new Chief Minister in that long list of Chief Ministers of non-BJP ruled states to object to the proposed amendment of IAS cadre rules. Jagan Mohan Reddy has written a letter to the Prime Minister saying that the state should continue to decide the officer who should be sent to the Centre for Deputation. He says states are in a better position to assess who all can be spared for Government of India deputation, keeping their professional as well as personal requirements in mind. Swastika Das is joining me on the phone line. This is similar to what all the chief ministers have been arguing, that this, if anything, is an attack on what is being seen as the federal politics of the country.
That's right. And in his letter to the Prime Minister, Jagan has clearly said that while it's a welcome move that the central government wants to regimentalize the entire IAS cadre to bring in a systematic development within the system, Jagan has also mentioned, like other chief ministers have been saying, that these recommendations should be done in full consultation with the state government. He says categorically that each state government shall make deputation to the central government. Number of eligible officers will be functioning at various levels to the extent of central deputation. All of these should be taken in consultation with the state government, pretty much what the other chief ministers, including his counterpart here in Telangana, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, as well as Tamil Nadu government, West Bengal government, along with other opposition states, have stated, Maria.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Swastika. The suspension of 12 BJP MLAs from Maharashtra Assembly last year has now been revoked in what will be seen as a big win for BJP in the state of Maharashtra. The Supreme Court quashed the suspension, calling it unconstitutional and an illegal step that falls beyond the power of the Assembly. On July 2021, remember, the 12 BJP MLAs were suspended for a one-year period for alleged misbehavior with the presiding officer during the Assembly session. The opposition had hailed the move, condemning what they called the Mahavikas Aghadi government's unethical move.
जिस प्रकार से महाराष्ट्र की सरकार ने आर्टिफिशियल मेजॉरिटी तैयार करने के लिए 12 एमएलएस को 1 साल के लिए सस्पेंड किया था, एक प्रकार महाराष्ट्र सरकार की
एमवीए सरकार की असंवैधानिक कृति पर एक करारा थप्पड़ सुप्रीम कोर्ट के आज के इस फैसले ने जड़ा है। मैं सर्वोच्च न्यायालय का बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
महाविकास आघाड़ी सरकार जिस तरह से कानून को ताक पे लेकर चल रही थी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट के आज के आदेश के बाद लोकशाही पद्धति में मूल्यों को किस तरह से रखना, ये शायद अब सरकार सीखेगी। निश्चित ही इस निर्णय का हम स्वागत करते हैं और बार बार सरकार को कोर्ट के अंदर से फटकार लग रही है, महाविकास आघाड़ी ने इस पर सोचना चाहिए।
मुझे लगता है अब तक फैसला नहीं हुआ है। फैसला विधानसभा के अध्यक्ष ही करेंगे और विधानसभा करेंगे। हम देख लेंगे कानून, नियम, निर्णय। हमारे पास भी लोग बैठे हैं, पूरा निर्णय आने दो, पूरे कागज आने दो, तो देख लेंगे।
Every third foreign tourist visiting India is a tourist visiting Rajasthan. But the restrictions on the international flights due to COVID has led to nearly 75% drop in foreign tourist arrival traffic in the year 2020 and then a drop of nearly 90% last year as compared to what it was in the year 2019. In CNBC Television 18 special coverage, the budget caravan has now travelled to the land of forts and palaces to take stock of the sector ahead of the union budget.
After nearly 1.5 years of weak tourist traffic, the second half of 2021 proved to be a bumper season for the tourism industry here in Rajasthan. The tourist traffic was strong across all hotspots, whether it was Udaipur, Jaisalmer, Jodhpur, Savai Madhopur and beyond. The onset of COVID-19 third wave has had some impact on the tourism industry. But to find out more on that and to find out the expectations of the tourism industry from the government, today we are in the pink city of Jaipur. The foreign tourist traffic in India has seen a steep fall since the year 2020 due to restrictions on international flights. But a new trend was witnessed on the back of domestic pent-up demand and the wave of revenge travel.
डोमेस्टिक मैंने कभी नहीं देखा इतना जितना डोमेस्टिक अभी चल रहा है पिछले 4-5 महीनों से। और बहुत डोमेस्टिक आया तो एक जैसे कल्चर होता है यूरोपियंस पे बाहर घूमने का, तो जैसे हिंदुस्तानियों में भी कल्चर बन गया हो बाहर घूमने का, देखने का। बहुत सारे गाइड्स ऐसे हैं जो बेचारे 2 साल से कुछ भी एकदम घर पे बैठे रहे हैं और कुछ अर्न नहीं हुआ है और उनके खर्चे वो है। तो हम चाहते हैं कि आप मंथली उनको 5,000-6,000 रुपीज़ पर मंथ के हिसाब से उनको एक पैकेज दे दिया जाए। और सबसे जो बड़ी मांग मैं करूंगा, क्योंकि कोविड में कई गाइड्स लोगों की भी डेथ हुई है कोविड के कारण, तो पैकेज दे ना दे लेकिन कम से कम 10 से 15 लाख का बीमा हमारा गाइड लाइसेंस के रिन्यूअल के साथ वो जोड़ देना चाहिए वो लाइन।
अब कैसे जैसे हमारा सितंबर से बिजनेस उठा था और अक्टूबर, नवंबर, दिसंबर तक ठीक था, जैसे ही आपके 29-30 तारीख को ये कर्फ्यू का लगा दिया रात को 11 बजे से सुबह 5 बजे तक का, जबकि कोई उसका वो महत्व ही नहीं है कि नाइट में कौन घूमता है। इनको इसके बजाय ये पाबंदी लगानी चाहिए थी, विदाउट मास्क कोई भी बाहर नहीं निकले, चाहे वो टूरिस्ट स्पॉट हो चाहे मार्केट हो। हमने सरकार को बोला भी है कि हमारे की जो से लोन है, हमारे काफ़ी लोन है, तो उसका रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कम करा जाए और कुछ प्रधानमंत्री कोष से कुछ विदाउट ब्याज, विदाउट इंटरेस्ट इनको फैसिलिटी दी जाए, जिससे कि ये वापस अपने पाँव पे खड़े हो जाएं। आज हमारे पास जो फिक्स चार्ज है, जैसे 100 किलोवाट है, 200 किलोवाट है, तो फिक्स चार्ज तो है पर बिजली कंज्यूम ही नहीं हो रही। जब कंज्यूम नहीं हो रही तो कम से कम इनको फिक्स चार्ज के अंदर रियायत देनी चाहिए, जिससे होटल इंडस्ट्रीज में कुछ लाभ मिले। ऐसे हमारे बहुत सारे लाइसेंस है, करीब 19 तरीके के लाइसेंस होते हैं, उनको उसके अंदर इनको रियायत देनी चाहिए।
जैसे कोविड से पहले लगभग यहाँ पे 3,000 से 5,000 कैब चलती थी। अभी जैसे कोविड के बाद अभी कंडीशन ये है कि 1000 से 500 कैब चल रही हैं। आधी से ज़्यादा गाड़ियाँ रिकवरी फाइनेंस वाले उठा ले गए और जो अभी बच रही हैं वो सरवाइव कर रहे हैं सिर्फ नाम के लिए। बहुत से लोग हैं जो ऑलमोस्ट कोविड के बाद आधे ड्राइवर आए नहीं वापस जयपुर में, तो वो अपने खेती बाड़ी जो पुराना काम, कोई मजदूरी कर रहा है, कोई गाड़ियों का मैकेनिक बन गया। टैक्सी वालों के लिए सब नियम लागू होते हैं, तो उस हिसाब से जिस हिसाब से हम टैक्स देते हैं उस हिसाब से गवर्नमेंट को फिलहाल प्रेजेंट के टाइम में ये मान के चलो कि हर महीने मंथली कम से कम 5,000 रुपये की आर्थिक सहायता हर ड्राइवर को मिलनी चाहिए।
Blue pottery, the traditional craft of Jaipur, has seen a loss of nearly 70% of its business over the last 5 years. The dyeing art is among the many Indian handicraft which depended heavily on the tourist traffic.
शुरू में इसके जीएसटी को 18% में डाला, इसको 18 से फिर निकाल के 12% के अंदर कर दिया, जो कि एक डाइंग आर्ट के ऊपर बहुत अधिक है। नया माल नहीं बन पा रहा है क्यों अभी आगे के कोई सिचुएशन का पता नहीं है। अभी ओमिक्रॉन वगैरह का ही आया है, तो ये पिछले 15 दिन के अंदर ही इसका काफ़ी कुछ फ़र्क पड़ा है बिजनेस के ऊपर। गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से तो सबसे पहले तो होप ये करते हैं कि चलो इसको 12% निकाल के जीएसटी लगाना हो 5% के अंदर डाल दो, उससे काफ़ी कुछ फ़र्क मिलेगा। और इसके कुछ ट्रेनिंग वगैरह का एक यदि गवर्नमेंट समय समय पे करती रहे, इसका कुछ आगे बढ़ाती रहे, तो उसका काफ़ी कुछ फ़र्क पड़ेगा।
Well, the tourism industry is clearly looking for a COVID protocol from the government, which not only helps in the prevention of coronavirus, but also a one which does not put brakes on the business operations by maintaining a positive travel sentiment. With the tourism sector having witnessed the major brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic during the last 2 waves, we'll have to wait and see whether any kind of relief is provided by the government in the upcoming union budget. This is Anu Sharma reporting from Jaipur for CNBC TV 18.
In domestic sector, for example, if you combine them together, it's 28%. Now, what happens is when you merge the 3 airlines, the costs go down and you reap the benefit of scale of operations.
Okay, so ultimately the merger will have to come.
I'm not saying in the first issue you make profitability. The first challenge is to lower the quantum of losses that the airlines are suffering. And when the market improves, the post-COVID effect, the COVID effect disappears, etc. And market and Tatas add to the existing capacity. I would hate to see that if you're operating 500 flights a week today, to remain at the same level even 1 year later, Tatas will have to grow and grow in such a manner so that the pilots, engineers that you have beyond your the surplus kind of a thing are made optimal use of. So it is not something that pilots you can hire just next day. Pilots are a key commodity as far as the airline industries are concerned. You won't get them, they are trained pilots.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
So look at all these negatives that you're talking about in a positive sense. Once starters have this cushion of expanding the network by at least 20% without adding a single pilot or aircraft maintenance engineers, the kind of benefit it accrues to Tata.
Chaliye,
and
so
let's not also forget,
it will be a turnaround journey to watch out for.
International network.
Jitendra Bhargav, it will be a turnaround journey to watch out for, I guess, then. We'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you very much. Completely out of time. A simple way to look at Air India's history is this. The government took Air India from JRD Tata, asked him to run it, took it away again, and then finally sold back the airline to the Tatas. JRD Tata's commitment to the airline was legendary. He was known to have rolled up his sleeves on at least one occasion to help the staff clean up a dirty airplane bathroom. As Air India goes back to the house of Tatas, here's a look at their history together. Now, one estimate is saying that the Tatas will need to invest at least $1 billion to upgrade Air India. That's a lot of money. The airline, meanwhile, in a tweet has called the deal a brand new chapter in its history. Joining me, someone who knows Air India well, Jitendra Bhargav is a former executive director of Air India. Sir, thank you very much for your time. You know, Air India has gone to the right people. The Tatas are emotionally connected to the brand and they have deep pockets to upgrade it. But the journey for them is going to be very turbulent. I want to ask you what is going to be, as someone who knows Air India inside out, what is going to be their biggest challenge for, you know, for the traveler, for the customer? A, the food is awful. B, flights are never on time. Is that going to be the first immediate challenge, or is it fixing other managerial and debt issues?
You know, let me begin with a statement that I often make, that Air India has not been as good an airline as it ought to have been, but is also not as bad an airline as it's made out to be. Take, for example, the on-time performance. The difference between the best Indian carrier and Air India is 7 percentage points. So it is not a Herculean task. And considering the fact that Air India is government-owned and it comes with its weaknesses, unproductive work practices, inefficiency, you really can't take corrective measures or re-engineer work practices, etc. So this will be an easy thing for the Tatas to attain. Both the on-time performance and working out on the seat occupancy factor, which is related to generation of revenue. You see, Air India people, because of the kind of product that they were offering to the passenger, did not have the kind of courage to go to the corporate houses seeking business. So Air India by default suffered in the last 5-10 years. On one count was poor marketing, which wasn't aggressive and it needed to be in a competitive environment.
Welcome back. The most famous horse in India, Virat, will retire tomorrow after beating retreat. The lead steed of the president's bodyguard had got a VVIP send-off on Republic Day when Prime Minister Modi and President Kovind had thanked him for his service to the nation. But what happens to Virat after today? CNN News 18's defense editor Shreya Dhondiyal caught up with Virat and his commandant to find out.
By now, all of you know Virat, probably India's most famous horse. There he is, the senior most horse of the president's bodyguard, also the charger. The commandant's charger has been with the president's bodyguard for the last 13 years. Not very happy with me touching him. The commandant of president's bodyguard, Colonel Anup Tiwari, is with us. Colonel Tiwari, you have ridden Virat for a while now. Could you tell us something about him? I believe he's very calm, he's very composed, which is why he's the charger.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I mean, temperament is something which is very peculiar and something which makes him stand out from all other horses. And the second aspect is that while temperament, you may find still some horses with a similar temperament, he lifts the entire morale of the parade. When he joins the parade, the other horses kind of get some, they also get spirited, and the overall standard of the parade improves whenever he makes his appearance and when he comes on the parade.
And this is, of course, his 13th and his last parade. He's been here for 13 years.
Yes. He's been a charger for 13 years, and he's been here with us since 2003. So, and he's born in 2000. So it's almost 21 years his lifespan, and out of that, almost 18 years with us, ma'am.
So, a lot of people have been asking, he's 21 and a half years old. Let me try and be friends with him once again. He's 21 and a half years old and retiring now from service. A lot of people have been asking, ab Virat ka kya hoga? Where does he go from here on?
Ma'am, normally what we have is the horses, once they retire, we have a old age home or shelter homes which are at Hempur and Saharanpur. So the RVC maintains those homes. In case of Virat, he's been so special and he's given so much of service to us, and he's almost like a serving soldier as of now. When he retires, we intend to keep him in the regiment itself. We'll keep him with the other horses. We intend to create a paddock where we can allow him to graze in the day, and he'll go back to his stable in the night. So we intend to keep him till his last breath with us.
Why is that? Is it an emotional decision for the regiment because he's been with you for so long?
This was something which, not only my decision, if I interact with the men also, and the Risaldar Major of the regiment and the other rider who takes care of the horses, they all feel him so special. They say that, "Saab, isko jaane nahi dena hai."
Of service. Then you very rightly said, because of government ownership, the work practices were of the monopoly era. Nobody could change those work practices because of the resistance from the unions. Now Air India comes under the Tatas. You have no choice but to re-engineer the work practices, number one, for the management. Okay. For the employees, they have no option but to accept the improved work practices.
I have 1 minute 30 seconds.
Will go up,
okay.
The efficiency will go up.
Okay. So, I have 1 minute 30 seconds, Jitendra Bhargav, and I want to ask you this. As far as the Tatas are concerned, they already run Vistara and Air Asia, which again isn't making any sort of profit. Now they have a third airline in their stable. Do you possibly see in the coming future, not immediately maybe, but in the coming future, a merger of Air India with Vistara? Because what would any conglomerate do with 3 airlines?
You see,
and all 3 loss-making airlines?
No, let's put this way. India is a price-sensitive market. Let's not